In my past life, when my childhood sweetheart learned his beloved was getting engaged, he tried to jump off a building to follow her in death. I stopped him, but in the process, I fell and was severely injured. Having failed in his suicidal gesture, he came to resent me, abandoning me to fend for myself in the hospital. Later, to win a smile from his beloved, he went so far as to ruin me, destroying my family and leaving me with nothing. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn on the day my childhood friend was going to jump. 1. By the time I reached the rooftop, Chen Wanbei was already standing on the edge. He looked like a kite, teetering on the brink. Just like in my past life, the moment he saw me, he declared with grim determination, "Don't try to stop me. Sufei is getting engaged. There's no point in me living anymore." Anyone who didn't know the full story would have praised him for his profound devotion. Simply because his unattainable crush was getting married, and he could never be with her, he was ready to commit a one-sided act of romantic suicide. This, of course, conveniently ignored the fact that he had a wife, a woman he'd been with for 8 years and married for 2. Thinking back on everything I did for Chen Wanbei, I feel like I've thrown my heart to the dogs. Chen Wanbei and I were childhood sweethearts and lovers for many years, back when he wanted to become a star. I used all my savings to support him. During the toughest times, we shared a single cup of instant noodles between us. Later, he became a film emperor by landing a role I helped him secure, a part 1 by drinking with producers until I vomited blood. Under the spotlight, he said his original purpose for becoming an actor was so that the one he loved most could see him on the big screen, and now, he had achieved it. Everyone assumed the beloved he spoke of was me, that is, until my past life. When Chen Wanbei got involved with Sufei, it finally dawned on me that the beloved Chen Wanbei always spoke of was none other than Sufei, the high school beauty he had been secretly in love with for over a decade. Since he couldn't be with her, he decided to become a famous star, so she would always see him. Later, for Sufei's sake, he even destroyed my family and ruined my life. Facing Chen Wanbei's world-weary gaze, I said calmly, "Who's trying to stop you? Sign this will first. Then you can jump off the building. It's not too late." The will states it in black and white. After his death, all his assets go to me. Chen Wanbei was stunned. "You're not here to stop me." I put on a bitter smile at just the right moment. "If you love someone, you should want what's best for them. I respect all your decisions." "Yeah, right. Since he's determined to die for Sufei, I'm more than happy to oblige." The 3 greatest joys in life: a promotion, a fortune, and a dead husband. Isn't that right? So, he should sign this agreement and hurry up and die. 2. Chen Wanbei still didn't believe it. "No, you love me so much. How could you bear to let me die?" Of course I could bear it. After all, there's no good ending for a love-struck fool. In my past life, when Chen Wanbei learned that Sufei was getting engaged, he left a suicide note. In it, he confessed to having been secretly in love with Sufei for over a decade. Seeing no future with her, he had decided to end his life. When I found out, despite being utterly disappointed in Chen Wanbei, I still tried to talk him down from jumping off the building. After all, he was a living, breathing human being. In the end, he survived. But during our struggle, I lost my footing and fell from the 8th floor, suffering severe injuries from the fall. Chen Wanbei resented me for meddling and ruining his chance to die for love. I lay in the hospital for so many days, and he didn't even bother to visit me once. If it weren't for his fear of public backlash, he wouldn't have even wanted to pay my medical bills. Later, Chen Wanbei even got entangled with Sufei, who was in an unhappy marriage, all because Sufei said that the mere thought of my existence made her sick. He cut off my medical funding, leaving me to fend for myself. This time, I decided to grant Chen Wanbei his wish and would no longer stand in the way of his following her in death. Working as Chen Wanbei's agent and dealing with so many actors must have rubbed off on me. I've picked up a bit of acting skill myself. With my eyes downcast and a sorrowful tone, I said, "Wanbei, of course I can't bear to let you go, but what can I do? I love you. Seeing you suffer like this breaks my heart. If I didn't have my parents to take care of, I would have followed you in a heartbeat. The reason I want your inheritance is so I can afford therapy and get away to clear my head, to find the strength to go on living. You know, if anything happened to me, my parents wouldn't be able to go on living." Ugh, hearing myself say that made me want to throw up. But Chen Wanbei seemed to take it to heart, a rare look of guilt crossing his face. "I've wronged you," he said. He picked up the document and, without even glancing at the contents, signed his name page after page. Then pressed his fingerprint onto it. 3 minutes later, I got hold of the document and let out a small sigh of relief. 3. Chen Wanbei was terrified I would stop him from taking his own life. The instant I got the file, he spread his arms, shut his eyes tight, his face a mask of sickening devotion, and prepared to leap from the rooftop. Wait, I called out to him again, his expression grew impatient. What is it now, Gu Xuan? Don't tell me you're having second thoughts, let me make this clear. I never loved you, my heart has always belonged to Su Fei, even if I were alive, I still wouldn't love you. I cut him off, interrupting his long-winded speech. I know. I pointed to the other side of the rooftop. Move over there. There are people walking below here. It wouldn't be good if you hit someone. The area below that side is blocked off for road work, so no one's over there right now. You should at least have some consideration for others, even when committing suicide. I really don't want anyone else to pay with their life for his grand, unrequited love. Besides, I didn't die after falling from that building in my past life. Someone found me in time and got me to a hospital. It would be terrible if Chen Wanbei ended up like me. Since he's dead set on dying, I'm genuinely warm and thoughtful. Upon hearing my suggestion, Chen Wanbei fell silent. An uncharacteristic look of awkwardness crossing his face. A few seconds later, he walked over to the spot. His expression grim, once more, he spread his arms, closed his eyes, and leapt from the 8th floor. I looked down. Chen Wanbei lay motionless in a pool of his own blood. I hoped he was dead. I didn't look back, and walked away without a second glance. 3 hours later, I received a call from the hospital. In the end, Chen Wanbei survived. My husband's body was stiff, as if he were dead. I won't be able to enjoy this kind of happiness for now. However, Chen Wanbei's injuries were far more severe than mine in my previous life. In my past life, after I fell from the building, I was found in time and taken to the hospital. Although I was seriously injured, with proper treatment, there was still a chance for a full recovery. Chen Wanbei was different. He fell in an alley that was usually deserted. It was 3 hours before workers found him and rushed him to the hospital. His life was saved, but both of his legs were already completely necrotic. This meant he would spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. The doctor said, if he had been brought to the hospital just 2 hours earlier, we could have saved his legs, I said, without much regret in my tone. Oh, really, what a shame. After the doctor left, I took a long, careful look at Chen Wanbei, who had just come out of surgery and was still unconscious. Not only had Chen Wanbei been crippled, but the handsome side of his face had also been slashed by a steel rebar. A hideous scar ran across most of his face. Well, it looks like he can't rely on his looks to get by anymore. I suddenly wondered what expression Chen Wanbei would have when he realized he wasn't dead, but had ended up in this state. Then it occurred to me that Chen Wanbei, with his immense pride, would probably want to die all over again upon seeing himself reduced to a helpless wreck. The restless anxiety that had stirred in me upon learning Chen Wanbei was alive gradually subsided. It's fine, I can wait. 5. To my surprise, before I could even wait for Chen Wanbei to wake up, an unexpected visitor arrived at the hospital. It was none other than Su Fei, and she wanted to see Chen Wanbei. Chen Wanbei is a huge star, so it's no surprise that Su Fei heard about his fall. The news has been all over the place. It's just that at this point, Su Fei and Chen Wanbei don't really have any connection. For her to visit him now seems a bit odd, no matter how you look at it. The nurse asked me, Miss Gu, should we let that lady in? The VIP ward where Chen Wanbei is staying has the highest level of security. Without my permission, Su Fei won't be able to see Chen Wanbei. I shook my head. Don't let anyone in without my explicit approval. Understood. The nurse agreed without hesitation. I always had a feeling that whenever Su Fei met Chen Wanbei, trouble was sure to follow. So, I hired 2 more bodyguards to stand watch at the hospital room door, ensuring Su Fei had no chance to disturb Chen Wanbei. 6. That night, Chen Wanbei finally regained consciousness. The moment he opened his eyes, he saw me keeping vigil by his bedside. At first, his face was a mask of disappointment. Why am I not dead? He muttered. Then, he realized he had lost all sensation in his body. His expression froze, and he asked in a strained voice, Gu Shuang, what's wrong with me? Both your legs have been amputated, and your arms are broken. With every word I spoke, Chen Wanbei's face grew more ashen. The despair on his face now was even deeper than when he'd learned Su Fei was getting engaged. Oh, and you're disfigured too. Worried he might not see his own reflection clearly, I thoughtfully produced a small mirror and placed it in front of Chen Wanbei. Chen Wanbei couldn't take the shock any longer and passed out. I clicked my tongue softly. If he can't handle this, his wonderful days are only just beginning. After Chen Wanbei woke up again, just as I had feared, he started refusing food, rejected any cooperation with the doctor's treatment, and was utterly determined to die. I tried to encourage him to pull himself together, but Chen Wanbei was completely broken. What's the point of living like this? I'm just a useless cripple now. I can't do anything. The pain is just too much. There isn't a single part of my body that doesn't hurt, even a decent night's sleep is a luxury I can't hope for anymore. I'd be better off dead." Outside of acting, Chen Wanbei had never cried in his daily life, yet now he was suppressing silent tears. Good to watch, love to watch. It suddenly struck me that Chen Wanbei not dying immediately wasn't such an unacceptable thing after all. At the very least, he could get a proper taste of the suffering I endured in my past life. I looked at him with utter sincerity. "Wanbei, in my heart, you've always been exceptional. Once you've recovered, I'm certain you'll achieve great things again." Chen Wanbei looked at me, his expression puzzled. "I let you down. Why are you still being so kind to me?" I said without a change in my expression. "What can I say? I love you. I loved him so much I wanted him dead. Just look at him now. Not only is his leg broken, but his arm is fractured too. He can't even lift a fruit knife, so how could he possibly end his own life? That's why he absolutely must recover quickly." Chen Wanbei was visibly moved by my words. "Gu Xuan, I've wronged you, but I couldn't help it. Matters of the heart aren't something I can control. I know, I don't blame you." I lowered my gaze. How could I not blame him? If Chen Wanbei didn't love me, he could have simply not been with me, instead of letting me waste all these years of genuine affection. Look, I did have a crush on Chen Wanbei back then, but it wasn't like he was the only one for me. It was Chen Wanbei who came to me first and said, "Gu Xuan, I know you like me, let's give it a try." I only found out later that the reason Chen Wanbei confessed to me was because he overheard Su Fei and her friends gossiping about him in private. Su Fei said, "Chen Wanbei, he's just a bookworm, all he does is study. Dating him would be so boring." Chen Wanbei's plan was to date me first, just to learn how to be a decent boyfriend. Once he figured it out, he'd dump me and confess his feelings to Su Fei. But then, Su Fei started dating the school bully, and his whole scheme fell apart. Serves him right. 7. After visiting Chen Wanbei, I headed home. From a distance, I spotted Su Fei right at my doorstep. The moment she saw me, Su Fei charged over, looking like she was ready to give me a piece of her mind. "Gu Xuan, Chen Wanbei is going to kill himself. Why didn't you stop him? It should be you who deserves to die, not him." Seeing her like this, I understood everything. Su Fei had been reborn too. Everyone on the outside thought Chen Wanbei had simply slipped and fallen from the 8th floor. Only a reborn Su Fei would know the truth behind Chen Wanbei's fall. However, the timing of Su Fei's rebirth was rather unfortunate. Chen Wanbei was not only left paralyzed from the waist down but also disfigured. Su Fei could no longer become the wife of a superstar, envied by all, as she had in her past life. But then again, it wasn't the man she was after, it was his fortune. I still remember. The man she first married was a rather unremarkable fellow in every way, except for being very wealthy and quite generous with her. It was only after the wedding that she discovered the man was a fake tycoon, and she deeply regretted her decision. Later, upon hearing that Chen Wanbei still had feelings for her, she swiftly pursued him, disregarding the fact he already had a wife. Now, even though Chen Wanbei is disabled and disfigured, he has earned a considerable fortune from acting, enough to provide her with a comfortable life for the rest of her days. At this moment, I raised an eyebrow slightly. "And you are?" Su Fei and Chen Wanbei were classmates in their first year of high school, but I had no connection with her whatsoever. It was only natural for me to react that way upon seeing her. Faced with my nonchalant attitude, Su Fei was left speechless, feeling as if she had punched a pillow. Then, she declared with righteous indignation, "Who do you think I am? I'm Su Fei, the woman Chen Wanbei loved most. You've seen Chen Wanbei's suicide note, haven't you? He killed himself because he found out I was getting engaged. I suggest you let me see Chen Wanbei right now. If he finds out you're keeping me from him, he'll definitely..." Before she could finish her sentence, a woman in a baseball cap suddenly burst out from the bushes. The moment I saw the woman's face clearly, I knew Su Fei was done for. 8. The woman grabbed Su Fei by the hair and slapped her twice, hard. "So you're the one who drove my brother to jump, and you're proud of it? Why don't you just die, you bitch, go to hell." It all happened in a flash. Before Su Fei could even process what was happening, the woman in the baseball cap had already pinned her to the ground and started beating her. The woman was powerfully built, and Su Fei was no match for her. In no time, she was left battered and bloodied. I recognized the woman instantly. Her name was Guoling, an obsessive fan of Chen Wanbei. In my past life, aside from Chen Wanbei and Su Fei, she was the person I hated most. After Chen Wanbei got involved with Su Fei, he even cut off my medical expenses for her sake. I exposed their scandal, trying to get some justice, but Chen Wanbei turned the tables on me, claiming that I had forced him to marry me by threatening suicide back then. He was deeply unhappy after the marriage and even fell into depression. thanks to Su Fei staying by his side, he was able to pull through the pain. His fans then launched an online harassment campaign against me. As an extreme fan of Chen Wanbei, Guo Ling immediately barged into my home, aggressively confronting me on his behalf. I was gravely injured at the time and powerless to resist. My father tried to stop her, but she shoved him to the ground. The shock triggered a fatal heart attack, and my mother later died of a broken heart. In the end, I died on a cold winter's night, with no one the wiser, yet. The tumultuous love story of Chen Wanbei and Su Fei was celebrated by all. Guo Qin is now staking out my front door, probably trying to find out how Chen Wanbei is doing. Now that she's heard Su Fei is the one responsible for Chen Wanbei's fall, there's no way she could just let that slide. By now, Su Fei's pretty face was covered in bruises from the beating. Su Fei mustered all her strength and shouted at me, "Gu Xuan, what are you waiting for? Call the police." I gave her a faint smile. Then shut the door without a moment's hesitation. Save her. Then who was there to save me in my past life? It's time for Su Fei to get a taste of her own medicine. 9. Su Fei ended up getting a brutal beating from Guo Qin. She suffered a broken nose, had several teeth knocked out, and was beaten into a state of concussion. If the residential complex security hadn't arrived in time, Guo Qin might have beaten Su Fei to death. That's the kind of extreme fan Guo Qin is. She would want nothing more than to kill whoever harmed her brother. Su Fei had always considered her beauty to be her greatest weapon. When she looked in the mirror and saw her face battered and bruised, she nearly fainted from rage. As Guo Qin was being taken away by the police, Su Fei screamed at the top of her lungs, "Guo Qin, you just wait, I'll make sure you rot in prison." In my past life, Su Fei was nothing like this. When she found out that Guo Qin had come to my house to lecture me and, in doing so, had caused my father's death from anger, she gleefully praised Guo Qin, calling her a true and devoted fan of Chen Wanbei. I watched coldly as Su Fei broke down in tears, thinking maliciously to myself, didn't she laugh so happily in her previous life? Why isn't she laughing now? Is she just not the laughing type? Su Fei then turned her accusations toward me. "Gu Xuan, why did you leave me to die? You're not that kind of person." She paused, her voice trembling with shock and suspicion. Did you also get a second chance? That must be it. Otherwise, why wouldn't you have stopped Chen Wanbei from jumping off that building? How could you be so cruel? Wanbei had such a bright future ahead of him, and now you've destroyed it all. You must be thrilled to see Wanbei and me suffering like this. No, I'm not happy about it at all. In my past life, my parents and I lost our lives. Yet now, Su Fei and Chen Wanbei are still alive and well. No matter, we have all the time in the world. Soon, I came up with a brilliant idea to deal with both of them at once. 10. Just a couple of days later, I ran into Su Fei in Chen Wanbei's hospital room. Her face was covered in bruises, and she was peeling an apple for Chen Wanbei. The moment Su Fei saw me, she sneered triumphantly, "Gu Xuan, did you really think having 2 bodyguards block me would keep me from seeing Wanbei? Let me tell you, I've already revealed your true, ugly colors to him." I lowered my gaze, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing at the corner of my lips. Did she really think she could see Chen Wanbei without my permission? Did she honestly believe the expensive bodyguards I hired were just for show? At that moment, Chen Wanbei was glaring at me with pure venom. "Gu Xuan, you must be so disappointed I'm not dead. The will I signed is void now. You'll never get your hands on my inheritance. We signed a prenuptial agreement. What's mine stays mine, and what's yours stays yours. Once this cast comes off my hand, I'm divorcing you." Hearing his proposal, even though I was prepared for it, I almost laughed out loud. That thick stack of documents I signed for Chen Wanbei back then wasn't just a will, it also redivided our marital assets. Once the divorce is finalized, all assets under Chen Wanbei's name will become mine. I made contingency plans specifically to guard against a situation like this, where Chen Wanbei survives but then loses the will to die. When I found out yesterday that Su Fei had also been reborn, I knew it was only a matter of time before she and Chen Wanbei met. Once Chen Wanbei realizes Su Fei is willing to be with him, he would never attempt suicide again. So, I let Su Fei in on purpose, just to force Chen Wanbei into a clean break and divorce me. Otherwise, with his extreme temperament, he'd never have let me go easily. Lately, I've sensed that Chen Wanbei regrets his suicide attempt and even harbors a quiet resentment that I didn't stop him back then. If I were to bring up divorce, he'd almost certainly refuse. His own life is already ruined. He just wants to drag me down with him. No matter how happy I feel inside right now, the show must go on. My face paled, and I gave a bitter smile. I understand. With that, I left. Utterly devastated, I was afraid if I stayed a second longer, I'd burst out laughing. 11. Chen Wanbei was itching to make things official with Su Fei. the doctor had repeatedly stressed the need for him to rest and recuperate, yet, the moment the cast came off his hand a month later, he went with me to get the divorce papers. The moment the divorce papers were finalized, he turned right around and went with Su Fei to get a marriage license, outside the Civil Affairs Bureau. Chen Wanbei looked at the marriage certificate in his hand, a triumphant smile on his face. Su Fei, he said, I promise I'll treat you right. A smile touched Su Fei's lips as she planted a soft kiss on his cheek. I know you will, darling. After all, in their past life, Chen Wanbei had always been at her beck and call, granting her every wish. This is precisely why Su Fei was willing to marry Chen Wanbei, even though he would spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. I watched the scene unfold with a calm expression. I wonder if Su Fei will still be able to smile when she finds out that all the wealth of the man she schemed so hard to marry will end up in my hands. My composure was probably too much for her, robbing Su Fei of any sense of accomplishment. As I turned to leave, Su Fei quickly stepped in front of me and said, Gu Xuan, you must be feeling miserable right now. For all your scheming, it all came to nothing, in the end. It's me who succeeded in marrying Chen Wanbei. I gave her a meaningful look. Do you really think you've won? Su Fei studied me with a probing gaze. What do you mean by that? I said flatly, you'll find out soon enough. 12. After getting the divorce papers, the weight I'd been carrying finally lifted. I haven't been sleeping well lately, always worried something might go wrong. After getting home, I relaxed and took a nap. Not long after, I was woken up by a commotion. As soon as I went downstairs, I saw Su Fei and Chen Wanbei. Accompanying them was a moving company. Su Fei stood in the hall, ordering them around. Keep the things in the study and the master bedroom, throw everything else out. I won't have another woman's belongings in the home I share with Wanbei. Her tone was haughty, as if she were already the lady of the house. As for Chen Wanbei, he looked at Su Fei with nothing but indulgence and adoration. Do as she says, seeing me come downstairs. Su Fei curled her lips into a slight smirk. Gu Shuang, what are you just standing there for? Pack your things and get out. I shot back, this is my home, it's you who should get the hell out. Chen Wanbei wheeled himself in front of me, his tone icy. Gu Shuang, we signed a prenuptial agreement stating all assets remain separate. I bought this villa. It's time for you to leave. I smiled faintly. You've forgotten, we signed a new agreement later. It's in black and white that in the event of a divorce, all your assets go to me. Chen Wanbei replied without hesitation. Impossible, why on earth would I sign something like that? As the words left his mouth, it suddenly dawned on him, that time on the rooftop. In an instant, his face darkened. You set me up, Gu Xuan. How could you be so vicious? A faint smile touched my lips. I learned from the best, my teacher, back then. I was unwilling to sign a prenuptial agreement with Chen Wanbei. Before the wedding, I gave Chen Wanbei everything I had, helping him become a film emperor. He took all my years of devotion for granted, but when it came time to get the marriage certificate, he presented me with a prenuptial agreement, stating that after marriage, our assets would remain separate. We had a huge fight over this. It wasn't about the money, it was just that his attitude left me utterly heartbroken. When he had nothing, he wasn't so keen on keeping the accounts straight with me, was he? He could tell I was upset and tried to soothe me, saying he wasn't trying to guard against me. It was because his mother had once taken all his father's money and run off with another man. His father couldn't get the money back and eventually died of a broken heart. That trauma is why he wanted a prenup. That prenup was just a formality. It didn't mean anything, but later, after he got involved with Su Fei, he divorced me without a second thought. He knew full well that I was seriously injured from a fall and desperately needed money for treatment, yet he didn't give me a single cent when we divorced. He said, I work hard to earn money to provide a comfortable life for the one I love, not for you. Only then did I realize that he had been guarding against me all along. He intended to leave all the money he earned to Su Fei. It wasn't until Su Fei got engaged and he discovered she was marrying a wealthy man who made his money unnecessary, that he finally gave up on that idea. At this moment, although Su Fei didn't know the full story, she had an inkling of what was going on. She murmured in disbelief, how could this happen? Just then, one of the movers spoke up, Ms. Su, should we still move your things for you? They had walked right into the line of fire. Su Fei took all her anger out on them, shouting, get out, all of you, get out. I stopped them and smiled faintly. Hold on, since you're already here, it'd be a shame to send you away empty-handed. Why don't you clear out everything from the master bedroom for me? I'll pay you whatever Su Fei was going to. Chen Wanbei snapped. Gu Shuang, you can't do this. I paid for this house. This is my home. I produced the documents. That's not what it says here. In a couple of days, my lawyer will be in touch. It's time your assets were transferred to my name. Chen Wangbei took the papers, his face turning ashen. In the end, he was so furious he simply tore the documents to shreds. A smirk played on my lips. No worries, it's just a copy. If you enjoy tearing things up, I've got a whole stack more in my study. Chen Wangbei, still recovering from his illness, was so agitated that he actually coughed up blood and fainted. In the end, he left in an ambulance. Their triumphant arrival was perfectly mirrored by their humiliating departure. As she was being loaded into the ambulance, Su Fei shouted at me, "Gu Shuang, this isn't over." The only response was the heavy slam of a car door. 13. Even though Chen Wangbei refuses to acknowledge the property agreement he signed, the terms are there in black and white. He can't weasel out of it. No matter how unwilling he was, his assets ended up in my pocket. Su Fei didn't give up on Chen Wangbei because of this. She comforted him. "It's alright, you're an award-winning actor with superb skills. Even with a broken leg, you'll land a suitable role." This rekindled Chen Wangbei's hope for the future. "You're right, I'll always find a way to make money. I'll buy you a big house again, and all the jewelry and handbags you love." With every word Chen Wangbei spoke, a new light sparked in Su Fei's eyes. Their hopes were doomed to be dashed. As Chen Wangbei's former agent, I know his situation better than anyone. Chen Wangbei is aloof and blunt, which has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. The fact that almost no one from the industry has visited since his accident shows just how poor his relationships are. If it weren't for my efforts to mediate, he would never have secured such prime resources. Now that Chen Wangbei has had this accident, plenty of people are eager to kick him while he's down. When poverty comes in at the door, love flies out the window. Their happiness won't last long. 14. However, I don't have time to deal with them right now. I have more important matters to attend to. During this time, aside from seeking revenge, I also took my parents for comprehensive medical checkups. In my past life, by this point, I had already met with misfortune and needed care myself, let alone being able to look after their health. My parents are quite frugal. They'd just take some medicine for minor aches and fevers and usually wouldn't go to the hospital. That's why they didn't discover their health issues sooner. Later, when Wu Ling's provocation caused my father's fatal heart attack, I realized just how severe his heart condition had already been at that time. This time, my father's heart condition was caught just in time, as soon as Chen Wanbei's money came through. I flew my father overseas and secured the world's top cardiac surgeon for his operation. My father's surgery was a complete success. He just needs to focus on a good recovery now. As for my mother, aside from a bit of osteoporosis, she's in perfectly good health. That was a huge relief. As for my divorce from Chen Wanbei, it's already become the talk of the town. There was no way I could keep it from my parents. They didn't press for reasons, they simply said, "You're grown up now and can make your own decisions. Whatever you choose, we'll support you. We just want you to be happy." My eyes grew a little misty. I will be. My parents aren't young anymore. With a few strands of silver now showing at their temples, I made a silent vow to myself that this time, I would take good care of them. During this time, I didn't do anything else. I simply stayed by my parents' side, enjoying a rare period of quiet and peace. But sometimes, trouble finds you even when you're not looking for it. The moment I logged into my social media account, I was bombarded with a flood of insults, most of them wishing me dead. I quickly got to the bottom of what had happened. 15. It was Chen Wanbei and Su Fei who had smeared my name. These days have not been kind to Chen Wanbei. As his injuries gradually healed, he began auditioning for roles to provide a good life for Su Fei, a crippled man with a disfigured face. He already faced slim chances of landing a suitable part. To make matters worse, his past feuds had burned too many bridges, leaving no one willing to give him a shot at acting. Some even kicked him while he was down, leaking old stories about his on-set diva behavior and other scandals. Back in the day, with the PR team I arranged for him, this whole thing wouldn't have blown up into such a big scandal. Now, without me, Chen Wanbei has no choice but to just take the hits. Netizens initially felt sorry for his situation, but the moment they saw his diva-like attitude on set, that sympathy instantly evaporated. Even if he's down on his luck, he's still making 2.08 million. He lives in the lap of luxury. What does he need our pity for? Who's still working overtime on New Year's Eve? Oh, right, it's me. That's enough. I feel sorry for myself. Several talk shows had originally invited Chen Wanbei to participate. However, upon seeing his current poor public reputation, the production teams all backed out of collaborating with him. Chen Wanbei still had a decent number of fans, but after this whole mess, they all turned against him. Chen Wanbei grew to hate me even more. If I had stopped him from jumping back then, he would never have ended up in such a desperate situation. You have to understand, ever since he became a best actor, he never lacked for work. It's nothing like now, where I can't even get on a measly little talk show. Sufei hates me just as much. You have to understand, at this point in her previous life, she was already living in comfort, free from want. People are like that sometimes. When their own life is a mess, they can't stand to see others doing well. They just went ahead and threw me under the bus. Chen Wanbei said his fall from the building was no accident at all. He was suffering from depression and tried to end his life by jumping. And the reason he developed depression was because of me, back then. I forced him to marry me by threatening to take my own life. He was never happy throughout all those years of our marriage, which is what ultimately led him to thoughts of ending his own life. His tendency to throw tantrums on set was also due to his depression, which caused his emotions to be highly unstable. Fortunately, after the incident, he met Sufei. She was like a little sun, illuminating his world that had once been so dark and devoid of light. This move is exactly the same as in his past life. Netizens are starting to feel sorry for Chen Wanbei again. Brother Chen is such a class act. Only revealing this now. My heart aches for him. See, I told you Brother Chen isn't the type to throw his weight around. Oh, I really thought it was just like the statement said, that you two drifted apart because you were rarely together and the feelings were gone. Yes, Chen Wanbei and I did issue a statement when we divorced. The statement said that we had spent very little time together and that our feelings for each other had long since faded away. We had already decided to get divorced well before the incident with Chen Wanbei. Chen Wanbei and Sufei got together only after he and I had parted ways amicably. This statement was Chen Wanbei's idea. He didn't want people to mistakenly think Sufei was the other woman and have her take the blame for nothing, if I didn't agree to it. He would rather not get a divorce at all. He didn't want anyone to hurt his cherished one, for the sake of Chen Wanbei's money. Of course I agreed. However, I agreed reluctantly and managed to squeeze a hefty sum out of him. Right now, beneath that statement Chen Wanbei posted, it's almost all curses directed at me. What happened in my past life is playing out all over again. Gu Shuang makes me sick to my stomach. I actually thought she loved Brother Chen. But it was all an act. Her acting skills are better than some professional actors. I wish she would just drop dead. Thank goodness Sufei is by Brother Chen's side. This is straight out of a redemption arc. I'm totally shipping it. If you two ever go on a dating show, I'll be glued to the screen. Not long after, a dating show actually took notice of the buzz surrounding the couple, Chen Wanbei and Sufei, and planned to invite them, riding the wave of their popularity. Chen Wanbei and Sufei pivoted from acting to live streaming sales. Right now, netizens are feeling a lot of sympathy for Chen Wanbei's situation. To show my support, I bought a lot of things from his live stream. In no time, Chen Wanbei was raking in the cash, as if he had found a second wind in his career. Meanwhile, I became public enemy #1 online, with everyone calling for my head. After arranging for my parents to recuperate abroad, I flew back home to deal with the situation and received a message from Chen Wanbei. You'll pay a heavy price for crossing me. A message from Sufei followed right after. Even in another life, you'd still be no match for me. Don't be so sure about that. This time, I was holding far more cards than she ever imagined. 16. When I got home, I was met with the exact scene I had anticipated. The study had been ransacked. The only thing missing was the suicide note Chen Wanbei had written at the time. It detailed how Chen Wanbei had been secretly in love with Sufei for over a decade. With her engagement imminent, his salvation was about to belong to someone else. In utter despair, he decided to end his life by jumping from a building. Yes, Chen Wanbei saw Sufei as his salvation, all because Sufei gave him a hug when he was feeling down. They also knew perfectly well that the moment I released the suicide note, Chen Wanbei's lies would unravel on their own. That's why they deliberately destroyed this suicide note before they could smear my name. Little did they know, I had made plenty of copies of the suicide note Chen Wanbei wrote. Some lessons you only need to learn once. In my past life, because Chen Wanbei destroyed the note, I was slandered relentlessly and left utterly defenseless. Did you really think I'd go through life completely unprepared? That same day, I posted an update on my social media account, announcing I would go live at 8 p.m. to address the situation. The comments under that post were, once again, a torrent of abuse. I just skimmed it and closed the app. It's fine. Once I set the record straight, all this criticism will vanish. As for Chen Wanbei and Sufei, they won't have a chance to recover from this. Not long after I posted that update, Sufei messaged me, why put up a futile fight? Wouldn't it be easier to just accept your fate? It seems Sufei is utterly convinced she's going to win this time. Good, the higher she climbs now, the harder she'll fall. 17. Netizens love a good piece of gossip. Even before I went live, some viewers were already waiting in the stream. the moment I went live, millions of netizens flooded into the stream. Goo, you bitch, we're here to hear your excuses. How dare you still show your face, just drop dead already. We heard you used dirty tricks to take Chen Wanbei's money, spit it out, now. Chen Wanbei is cursed for 8 lifetimes to have crossed paths with you. These comments don't affect me. After all, I've already been through all this in my past life. I was just about to produce that suicide note to clear things up. When Chen Wanbei and Sufei actually requested to join me on a live stream, I agreed. The next instant, Chen Wanbei's face appeared right before me. A scar now marred his once handsome face, making him look utterly ferocious. To be honest, it was his looks that first drew me to Chen Wanbei, and now, I just have to say he's an eyesore. Long time no see, Gu Xuan. Chen Wanbei greeted me first. His tone was calm, looking at me as if I were an old friend he hadn't seen in years. Then he said to the viewers in the live stream, "Hello everyone, I know you sympathize with what I went through and want to stand up for me, but every cloud has a silver lining. I found my own happiness now, so please don't blame her." Standing behind Chen Wanbei, Sufei said gently, "Yes, it's all in the past now, and thank you all for your support. Without you, I'd still be worrying about Wanbei's medical bills." The way these two were talking was so fake and manipulative. On the surface, they seemed to be speaking up for me, but they were really just pouring fuel on the fire. After hearing that, the netizens despised me even more. "Brother Chen is so wonderful. How could you bear to hurt him, you bitch? So Brother Chen can't afford his medical bills. Turns out that bitch Gu really did run off with all his money. You better cough up every last cent. Go to hell, Gu, you bitch." Watching the barrage of comments, the two of them allowed a faint, almost imperceptible smile to touch their lips, likely convinced I had no way to counter their argument. Output only translation, matching, content_type, format. I took my time and posted the suicide note written by Chen Wanbei. Hold off on the insults until you've all read this. The moment Chen Wanbei and Sufei saw the note, their initial disbelief turned to a sickly pallor. How do you still have this?" they stammered. I gave a faint smile. "Don't tell me you've never heard of a little thing called a photocopier." My sarcasm only made their faces turn an even deeper shade of pale. 18. Soon, netizens saw through the contents of Chen Wanbei's suicide note and quickly switched sides, unleashing a torrent of abuse at both Chen Wanbei and Sufei. "Oh my god, so Chen Wanbei didn't have depression after all. He tried to kill himself because his white moonlight got married, and he wasn't the groom. What do Chen Wanbei and Sufei take us netizens for? Just another prop in their little drama. These two lunatics deserve each other. They should just stay together and stop ruining other people's lives. That ungrateful wretch deserved to lose his legs. Honestly, fate was too kind. It should have taken his life too." My reputation has gradually started to improve. If you ask me, Gu Xuan was still too kind. She only took Chen Wanbei's savings and didn't expose his true nature, leaving him some dignity. Honestly, who doesn't know that Chen Wanbei was entirely built up by Gu Xuan? Thinking back on what I just said about Gu Xuan, I'm the worst. Chen Wanbei was still making a last-ditch effort. "Don't believe this, everyone. Gu Xuan fabricated it," I said calmly. "If it's a fake, then why did you send Sufei to break into my house a week ago specifically to steal it? Bet you didn't expect I kept a copy. That's a vicious slander. I've never broken into." Before Sufei could finish her sentence, the door to the room was knocked on. It was the police who entered. They immediately stated that Sufei was suspected of illegal trespass and theft, and that they needed her to come with them to the police station. Netizens commented, "That's the fastest I've ever seen someone get proven wrong." Their taunts against Chen Wanbei grew even harsher. "Speak up, why aren't you defending yourself? You only broke your leg, not your mouth. If this scumbag Chen can still go live, every single one of you watching is to blame." Everyone, hit that report button in the top right corner. Yeah, and he's even doing a shopping live. Don't think you're getting another cent from us. Scum like that deserves to be cancelled. Chen Wanbei glared at me, his face ashen. "Gu Xuan, you let Sufei get that suicide note on purpose, didn't you?" Not completely clueless. "Then, I absolutely did it on purpose. I've always known that if I had revealed the truth about Chen Wanbei's suicide by jumping from the start, and posted that suicide note along with it, some people would have called Chen Wanbei deserving of his fate, while others would have praised him for his deep devotion. The mixed reviews wouldn't have dealt a fatal blow to Chen Wanbei's career. If Chen Wanbei had, like in my past life, thrown mud at me and twisted the truth about why he jumped, then, the suicide note penned by Chen Wanbei himself would become the death knell for his career. No one would like a star who is ungrateful, a chronic liar, and who plays the netizens for fools. I've been waiting. waiting for Chen Wanbei to lose his composure and pull the same stunt he did in his past life. To embolden Su Fei to steal that suicide note, I deliberately extended my stay abroad. Chen Wanbei and Su Fei certainly didn't let me down. At that moment, before I could even respond, Chen Wanbei's live stream was banned, and he was kicked offline. And so, this whole farce came to an end. But for Chen Wanbei and Su Fei, their miserable lives were only just beginning. 19. Chen Wanbei has several TV series awaiting release. Now that he has been labeled a problematic artist and banned from all platforms, those shows cannot be aired. The production companies are now lining up to sue Chen Wanbei for compensation. Chen Wanbei had just lost all the money he made from live streaming and was now saddled with a mountain of debt. As his wife, Su Fei naturally had to shoulder this debt burden alongside him. It said that she had just been released from detention when she heard the devastating news and nearly fainted. 20. News of Chen Wanbei reached me again half a year later. He and Guoling had joined forces to kill Su Fei. It turned out that not long after Chen Wanbei fell on hard times, Su Fei began to look down on him, taunting him as a good-for-nothing. He was nothing but a burden to her. Su Fei quickly got involved with a good-for-nothing rich kid. Chen Wanbei's old illness had flared up again, and he needed someone to care for him. She completely disregarded whether he lived or died, even cursing him to die, saying a useless person like him was just a waste of resources. In a way, Chen Wanbei got a real taste of the suffering I endured in my past life. No wonder, during that period, I received a text from Chen Wanbei, essentially saying he regretted everything and asking if we could start over. After giving him a piece of my mind, I blocked all his contact information. The moment Guoling was released from prison, she saw her former crush bedridden, living in utter misery. She despised Su Fei with every fiber of her being. She was convinced that if it weren't for Su Fei, her brother would never have been reduced to such a pitiful state. Chen Wanbei had long since lost any love for Su Fei. All he wanted now was for her to die. After all he had sacrificed for Su Fei, how could she possibly betray him? As Chen Wanbei's most extreme fan, Guoling was willing to do anything for him. When Chen Wanbei said he wanted her to kill Su Fei, Guoling agreed without a second thought. So, under the pretense of agreeing to a divorce, Chen Wanbei tricked Su Fei into coming back home. Later, Su Fei never made it out of that house alive. After killing Su Fei, Chen Wanbei intended to take his own life. The life he's living now is a fate worse than death. He'd be better off dead. But Guoling stopped him. She couldn't allow her idol to fall like this. It said that when Chen Wanbei was taken away by the police, he was on the verge of a mental breakdown, screaming hysterically, "Why won't you let me die? Let me die. I know that Chen Wanbei will spend the rest of his life in hell." 21. Before I knew it, New Year's Eve had arrived. Looking at my parents who were spending the New Year's Eve with me, I couldn't help but sigh with contentment. This is so wonderful. In my past life, ever since the incident, I never got to spend a proper New Year with my parents again. Fortunately, this life is still long. I have enough time to spend with my parents, making up for the regrets of my past life. As the clock struck midnight, the New Year's bell rang out. A new year has begun. My brand new life has begun. 2. Story 2. Everyone knows I was Liu Yizhou's unforgettable first love and ex-wife. After my death, he was utterly heartbroken. Eventually, through friends' arrangements, he remarried his current wife who came with children from her previous marriage. For decades, he's repeatedly expressed his longing for me in public. The world praises Professor Liu for his undying devotion to his late first wife and profound commitment to his current spouse. I watched him achieve fame, fill his home with descendants, and pass away peacefully in old age. When I opened my eyes again, I'd returned to the moment Liu Yizhou tricked me into a divorce but stay arrangement. This time, clutching my miraculously returned daughter, I told that bastard to get the hell out of our lives. 1. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the bed wearing my wedding show dress, with a scattered box of sleeping pills on the floor, most of them already consumed. My 2-year-old daughter, covered in grime, curled up beside me, her tiny hand resting on my cheek as she slept soundly, trembling all over. I dared not reach out to touch her, terrified this might just be a dream. Only when I caught the scent of gas in the air did I snap back to reality, stumbled up in a hurry to turn off the gas, open windows, and cut all power in the house, then held my daughter and sat by the door leaning against the wall, checked my daughter's mouth for pills while calling an ambulance. Thankfully, there was nothing in her mouth. Her lips twitched slightly as she nuzzled deeper into my arms without waking. By the time I finished, I was completely drained of energy. An ambulance rushed me to the hospital for examinations, stomach pumping, and other procedures. My daughter showed mild symptoms too, but thankfully it wasn't serious. She'd probably just licked the pill and spat it out when it tasted bitter. Luijo didn't show up until late that evening, sitting by the hospital bed. He held my hand gently and said with deep remorse, "Qing Yen, how could you be so reckless? You put Keek's life in danger too. Didn't we agree we'd divorce but still live together? You're the only one in my heart. Wherever you and Kiki are is my home." I stared at him in a daze. I've heard these words before, but only after I died. Back then, I could only watch helplessly as my daughter and I succumbed to carbon monoxide poisoning from a gas leak. Thankfully, it didn't trigger any chain reactions that could have harmed others. My daughter stayed by my side the whole time. We watched Luijo putting on an affected show. He was utterly heartbroken, frequently expressing his grief and anguish in public. He treated his current wife's son as his own, and even after they had a daughter together, his affection never wavered. The world praises Professor Lu for his profound devotion to his deceased ex-wife and his deep commitment to his current wife. Luijo lived a charmed life, smooth sailing, great achievements, a house full of descendants, and a peaceful death in old age. Had I not been haunting him since my death, I might have believed the sincerity in his eyes right now. Now I see right through him. My heart hardened into unfeeling stone. I pulled my hand from his grasp and sneered, "The moment you left, your mother delivered your blind date's profile to me. Is this what you call divorced but still family? My mother-in-law has always looked down on me, believing an orphan like me isn't worthy of her son who became an associate professor at such a young age. After I gave birth to our daughter, she flat out refused to help with childcare, forcing me to quit my job and become a stay-at-home mom. When Kiki finally turned 2 and I planned to send her to daycare so I could return to work, my mother-in-law started pressuring me to have a second child. I resisted at first, but between Luizu's sweet talk and her promise to help with childcare if we had another baby, I eventually gave in. We'd been trying to conceive for 2 years without success, yet medical tests showed no issues. My mother-in-law ran out of patience, pressuring us to divorce, even using her health as an excuse. Ijo Lu, ever the devoted son, eventually proposed a paper divorce to appease his mother while we continued living together. After the divorce, Kiki and I moved to our other apartment, where the three of us enjoyed a peaceful and harmonious life for some time. But the good times didn't last. Within a month, my mother-in-law showed up at my doorstep while Luijo was at work, looking down her nose as she declared, "You're divorced now. Ijo has agreed to arranged meetings. Stop clinging to him." Noticing Kiki playing quietly in the living room, she added with condescending generosity, "Consider this apartment Keek's child support. Stay away from Ijo from now on. Don't come bothering us again." The words hit me like a bolt from the blue. I numbly took the stack of documents from her hands, profiles of accomplished, educated beauties, each with impressive credentials and dazzling charm. "Luijo, you played me for a fool." I trusted his words, didn't fight for anything, and ended up walking away with nothing. Never imagined the whole family would scheme against me like this, too, in my past life. I was crushed by the sudden devastating news, facing destitution and the responsibility of raising my young daughter alone after my mother-in-law's departure. I made the desperate choice to end my life. My 2-year-old daughter woke to find no one caring for her, and we both succumbed to gas poisoning from a leak. My actions didn't bring them remorse. Instead, it conveniently removed all obstacles for them. In this lifetime, I came to my senses just in time to save myself and derailed their plans. I looked at Luijo. "Divorce means divorce. I demand a reassessment of our assets, or I won't finalize it with you after the 1-month cooling-off period. If you refuse, I'll file for divorce in court." Luijo froze, then stood up and pulled me into a gentle embrace. "Qing Yen, don't be like this. We're one as husband and wife." These words of yours cut too deep. Professor Lu is right. Marriage makes 2 people one. That's why for 5 years, I never objected to registering all our assets under your name, but these are marital properties, and I have every right to claim my share. I pushed him away and said flatly, while Ijo was devoted to academia, I had a knack for investments, coupled with favorable market conditions. Our assets multiplied several times over those first few years of marriage. My mother-in-law never quite approved of me. To maintain family harmony and prove my commitment, I registered all assets under Ijo's name. During the divorce, Luijo claimed it was just for show, so no property division was ever finalized. Coco's and my deaths were hushed up. He inherited everything overnight, not even requiring legal transfer procedures. The world only remembers Dr. Luijo, the renowned biomedical professor, and his picture-perfect marriage that became the envy of many. As for me, I remain his idealized ex-wife, the white moonlight he still pines for years after my death. a testament to his supposedly undying devotion. No one knows how they drove me to suicide, dragging my poor daughter into this nightmare. In this life, they'll never manipulate me again. Thank goodness I booked the VIP suite. It spared me the embarrassment of gossipy eavesdroppers and kept Coco from witnessing her parents fight. When I reiterated my decision to cut ties, Lu Yizhou faltered slightly. Qing Yan, you're speaking in anger. Let's talk properly once you've cooled down and thought things through. He fled in panic. Just like countless arguments with my mother-in-law before, they gave me the cold shoulder, waiting for me to eventually come around and apologize. Didn't even remember to check on my daughter in the other room. I'm completely heartbroken, pushed beyond my limits. I quickly succumbed to exhaustion and fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, my daughter's voice pulled me from sleep. She had the nurse carry her to me the moment she woke, then snuggled close, tenderly stroking my face and planting little kisses. Mommy, Mommy, Coco's hungry. Holding my daughter who'd been lost and found, I felt a wave of belated fear and quickly asked the nurse to prepare her bottle. Coco sat quietly in my lap drinking her milk as I kept caressing her chubby little hands and legs. Utterly enchanted, Coco drank her milk with a contented smile. The cozy moment was abruptly shattered. Lu's mother arrived and saw Kiki drinking milk, forcing herself to wait patiently by the side. Having barely seen her since birth, Kiki didn't recognize this woman as her grandmother and simply stared at her curiously. I ignored her, only asking the caregiver to take Kiki out to play after she finished her milk. Her patience exhausted, Lu's mother blurted out impatiently, Jiang Qingyan, how can you be so shameless? 3. I turned a deaf ear and simply began eating breakfast on the small tray table the caregiver had set up. Mrs. Lu grew even more furious. I knew you were after Yizhou's money. The divorce is final, yet you still want to claim our family assets. Every penny was earned through Yizhou's hard work. Giving you one property was already more than generous, and now you're trying to take the lion's share. I rolled my eyes. The Lu family was merely middle class. Both parents were ordinary civil servants who worked their entire lives to put Yizhou through his Ph.D. After which he became a university professor. He did have some academic talent, quickly rising to associate professor status, making his humble parents who'd kept their heads bowed all their lives practically look up to the heavens with pride. But Lu Yizhou was purely academic, completely clueless about investments. Without my financial management, the family would have just maintained their modest middle-class lifestyle. Out of consideration for Lu Yizhou's dignity and to make his mother believe I brought him good fortune, I always followed his lead and never revealed my own accomplishments in front of them. Consequently, my in-laws saw me as just a stay-at-home mom living off their son's earnings, looking down on me in every possible way. I must have been out of my damn mind in my past life. I leisurely finished breakfast amid Mrs. Lu's endless nagging, wiped my mouth, and finally spoke up, Auntie. Did you check with your son before saying all this? I bet she didn't. This is exactly Lu Yizhou's usual MO. Whenever he couldn't get through to me, he'd send his mom to mediate, yet still had to maintain his aloof, top student image in his parents' eyes, so he'd speak in vague half-sentences, holding back what he really meant. Mrs. Lu froze at my words. I opened various apps on my phone and showed them to Mrs. Lu one by one. Every single thing you've seen these past years, the 3 apartments, 2 storefronts, stocks, and funds, I earned all of it. Me, got that. Mrs. Lu's face darkened. Nonsense, you haven't worked these past 2 years. Without Yizhou's capital, how could you possibly earn anything? All this should rightfully belong to our Lu family. I looked at her with amusement. Auntie, as an educated person, you might want to familiarize yourself with the marriage law and civil code. Sitting up straight, I said solemnly. From the moment we got married, every penny Lu Yizhou earned became marital property. In divorce, I'm legally entitled to half. Mrs. Lu was hopping mad. You and Kiki live off Yizhou's support. How dare you claim half? I rolled my eyes. For years of marriage, he never lifted a finger at home. Dinner was ready when he got back. His work clothes were always pressed. I single-handedly handled childbirth, childcare, even managed his investments. Go check what a live-in nanny and financial advisor would cost monthly. I've already compromised. Take this deal while you can. If we go to court, the settlement won't be this generous. Mrs. Lu sputtered incoherently before finally snapping. You will divorce my son, period. Then she beat a hasty retreat. I'd love to, but I know Lu Yizhou won't back down easily without a trump card. After some thought, I replied on WeChat. You celebrated too soon. I've decided not to get divorced. The previous message they sent me was, Happy divorce, 4. Coco and I were discharged soon after and moved back to our old place. When Lu Yizhou came to see me again, exhaustion was written all over him. Meanwhile, I was sprawled on the couch, letting Kiki scribble all over my arms and legs. This made the fastidious Luizhou frown slightly. I paid no mind and let her continue her artistic rampage. Kiki beamed with joy and reached out for a hug. Daddy, Daddy, up. Luizhou forced a smile, cradled Kiki in his arms as they settled on the couch. After a long hesitation, he finally spoke. Qingyan, why have you changed so suddenly? Clearly he'd realized his mother's approach wouldn't work. Now he had to take matters into his own hands. Without even looking up at Kiki, I said flatly, I didn't change overnight, just had a near-death experience that opened my eyes. Luizhou wore an expression of awkwardness, tinged with visible frustration. After a long pause, he finally spoke again. My student Zhou Mingqi told me you misunderstood our relationship and threatened to make a scene at her workplace. I arched an eyebrow. Zhou Mingqi was the woman Luizhou remarried in his previous life. She had taken Luizhou's course in college and was captivated by his charm and wit. After graduation, they got involved during my pregnancy. Even Lu's mother was unaware of their relationship. In their past life, they married and their teacher-student romance became a celebrated love story. I'd had Zhou Mingqi on WeChat for a while, assuming she was just another one of Luizhou's students looking for investment advice. She certainly wasn't the first student to add me. The truth only came to light after my death. Instead of answering, I tested him deliberately. What exactly is your relationship with Zhou Mingqi? Luizhou froze, instinctively tightening his grip on the puppy in his arms before sighing. She's just a student of mine. What else could it be? I pressed on. Luizhou, how would you describe our life these past few years? Sensing her father's tension, Kiki squirmed uncomfortably. I reached out and took the struggling child from his arms. She immediately broke into a grin, then wriggled free to play with toys in the playpen. Luizhou responded reflexively, haven't we always been happy? My gaze lingered on Kiki playing nearby as I answered absently, yes, for years I believed that without question. Even though I had to quit my high-paying job and return home because Lu's mother refused to help with childcare, our undisturbed days as a family of 3 were truly peaceful and blissful. So when he said his career was thriving and keeping assets under his name would facilitate future financial maneuvers, I believed him. So when he proposed a sham divorce to placate Lu's mother and stop her interference, I believed that too. His flawless performance is precisely why the truth shattered me so completely, but that was me in a past life. I averted my gaze and gave him a cold smile. If you hadn't made my past self happy, you'd be holding divorce papers right now. Luizhou stiffened. What exactly are you trying to do, Professor Lu? I'd like you to agree to amend our divorce agreement. I'm demanding custody of Kiki, 1 property, 1 commercial storefront, and 2 million in cash, after all these years of marriage. Your mother may not know, but you're well aware of what I'm capable of. Don't push me. I have other options too. This amount will certainly hit him hard financially, but every penny is rightfully mine. I've already made the biggest concessions possible. All I want now is to get out of this quagmire as soon as I can. Luizhou grew flustered, his voice laced with rising anger. In such a hurry to draw the line between us. Our divorce, is this exactly what you've been hoping for? Who's the other choice? I icily handed over the latest agreement. The divorce papers will be ready in 10 days. You'd better sign this quickly. Luizhou's hands trembled as he took the document. In that moment, he finally understood. This wasn't some tantrum of mine, but something I was dead serious about. This is happening. 5. When Luizhou returned the next day, he brought Zhou Mingqi along with her 8-month-old son. After entering, Zhou Mingqi subtly scanned the room with her eyes, like a queen surveying her domain. This wasn't my first time meeting her. She truly had a youthful, radiant beauty. In the years after my death, I watched her thrive, living a charmed life untouched by hardship, aging gracefully into an elegant, beautiful matriarch. The woman before me now is just a divorced single mother, resilient and brave. What a stark contrast to my own privileged existence as Mrs. Lu, who heartlessly cost her this job. Luizhou received her with polite formality, gesturing for her to be seated. Who would have thought the usually aloof and stern Luizhou would lower his proud head for a lover? No sooner had she sat down than Zhou Mingqi blurted out, Professor's wife, you've got it all wrong. I'm just recently divorced, raising my child alone while working, so I occasionally need the professor's help, I replied calmly. This is certainly the first time I've heard of a divorced female student requiring so much assistance from a male professor. Asking Luizhou about coursework is understandable, but calling him when your child's sick, when a light bulb needs changing, at least 3 times a week, if you don't mind, shall we get a third party's opinion on this? Zhou Mingqi's face stiffened, and she could only turn to Luizhou with pleading eyes. Professor, could you please explain to your wife? There's really nothing between us. Don't let the institute remove me from the program." Her tone unintentionally carried a hint of childish coquetry. Lu Yizhou basked in her dependence on him, casting a reassuring glance at her and the child in her arms before fixing me with a dark look. "Qing Yan, watch your tone. And since when do you know Rong Xinian, the major shareholder of the research institute, through Lu Yizhou's connections?" Zhou Mingqi landed a position at a biotech research institute, where she currently works as an assistant researcher in one of their labs. What they don't know is that Rong Xinian, the major shareholder of this research institute, happens to be my first love. They weren't wrong about me. I did reach out to him and asked him to arrange for someone to mentor Zhou Mingqi. "I won't pin all my hopes on those two," I said slowly. "How should I put this? We were college classmates. And I suppose you could say he was my first love." I deliberately emphasized those last two words. Both Lu Yizhou and Zhou Mingqi's expressions changed. Lu Yizhou shot me a sharp look and said, "Why haven't I heard about this relationship before?" I chuckled lightly. "We haven't been in touch for years. I'd never let outsiders disrupt my family. I've done well, haven't I, Lu Yizhou?" The moment I finished speaking, the air grew still. Only the child in Zhou Mingqi's arms looked at me curiously. Babbling and even reaching toward us. Was the child reaching for me, or Lu Yizhou sitting beside me? I stood up and lifted the child under Zhou Mingqi's watchful gaze. "Little one, so curious about me. Come, let grandma hold you." Zhou Mingqi reluctantly released her grip under my insistence. I carried the baby over to show Kiki, who was playing with the nanny nearby, teased her for a bit, then handed her back, taking the child back. Zhou Mingqi said indignantly, "Madam, if that's the case, why did you still contact him to revoke my assistant researcher position?" She's really adopting this accusatory tone. Does she think Lu Yizhou will take her side? I glanced at Lu Yizhou and said pointedly, "I was just reminiscing about my wonderful college days, handsome admirers and all that." Got sentimental, so I reached out to relive some memories and catch up. That's all. Zhou Mingqi stood up abruptly, clutching her child, furious. "Jiang Qingyan, your daughter's already 2. Yet you're still tangled up with your college sweetheart." Disgusting. I motioned the nanny to take Kiki to the bedroom, remaining on the sofa with crossed arms. "What's it to you if I have a daughter? You, professor, are you seeing this? What are you staring at?" I was just thinking. It's not like I actually made anyone compromise their morals with me. What's got you so worked up? The two finally sensed something was off. Their panicked eyes met briefly before they quickly averted their gazes, as if avoiding suspicion. Zhou Mingqi glared at me fiercely. "Out of respect as my mentor's wife, I've tolerated you at every turn, but I never expected you to be so uncouth, utterly ignorant. I refuse to believe my honorable, aboveboard work can be undermined by your baseless accusations and careless words." With that, she picked up the child and stormed off. I simply smiled without a word. "We'll see about that." 6. Blinded by love, Zhou Mingting failed to see reality. For an associate professor like Lu Yizhou, leveraging his social connections to secure her an assistant researcher position was already the extent of his current influence. Counting on him isn't an option, at least not for now. Watching the pair depart, Lu Yizhou rose instinctively to follow before forcing himself to stay put. "Qing Yan, I heard Mingting has been performing exceptionally well at the institute and is quite popular. Losing such talent over your misunderstanding would reflect poorly on both the institute and Rong Xinyan's reputation, don't you think?" Lu Yizhou sat back down and laid out a logical analysis, his words dripping with disapproval and veiled warnings about my actions. I shrugged indifferently. I won't interfere with the institute's operations. As for the rest, a clear conscience fears no accusation. Rather than lecturing me here, you'd better sign those documents quickly. My patience wears thin. Lu Yizhou's pupils contracted, his lips parting as if to question me further. In the end, he just exhaled deeply and left without another word. Peering out the window, I caught a glimpse of Zhou Mingting's dress fluttering around the corner. A mocking smile crossed my lips. So it's the very person I've been obsessing over. I deliberately left today's words unspoken, a clear warning for them not to try any tricks with me. Follow my instructions for the property division properly, and everything will go smoothly, or face the consequences. What a pity, Lu Yizhou keeps dodging the issue, refusing to give a straight answer. He wants to have his cake and eat it too, enjoying the perks of multiple relationships while expecting me to keep dutifully building his fortune without complaint. I averted my gaze and turned away, clutching the fine baby hairs in my hand. Thinking only 3 words for Lu Yizhou. In your dreams, I sealed Lu Yizhou's hair in a bag along with the others and sent it off for paternity testing. On my way back, the nanny suddenly called. Lu Yizhou had said he was taking Kiki to meet me, but they'd been gone for an hour with no sign of returning. My head started buzzing. I immediately called Lu Yizhou, but his phone was off. I checked our old place, even went to Lou's mother's house, searched everywhere possible. But Kiki was nowhere to be found. Just when I was at my wit's end, it suddenly hit me. There was one place I hadn't checked. I immediately called Rong Sinian to help me track down Zhou Mingting's address. 15 minutes later, we got the address, and Rong Sinian came along too. Turns out she lived right on our street, just around the corner from my place. We rushed over and knocked, but got no response. Calling her phone didn't work either. Trembling with rage, I sent Zhou Mingting a voice message. "Open the damn door or I'm calling the cops." The door swung open immediately. Their housekeeper had answered. Inside, the picture-perfect family trio sat cozily on playmats, Lu Yizhou and Zhou Mingting doting on their son amid scattered toys. On a separate mat slightly apart sat Kiki, her lips pressed into a thin, unhappy line. My heart ached terribly as I rushed over and hugged my daughter, who burst into loud sobs. Lu Yizhou frowned with displeasure and said to me, "We were having such a good time until you showed up and made her cry." Then he turned to Kiki, saying, "Kiki, remember your manners when visiting others. Stop crying now." I glared at him fiercely. "Kiki is my daughter. How dare you take her away without even telling me?" Lu Yizhou averted his gaze guiltily. "I'm Kiki's father too. What's wrong with taking my daughter out for some fun? Besides, you're the one who frightened Mingting and the kids this morning." I thought bringing Kiki to play with her little brother could help smooth things over. "Consider it my way of apologizing on your behalf." With sudden conviction, he met my gaze defiantly. Who would have thought a respected associate professor like Lu Yizhou would resort to such underhanded tactics to force my hand? I laughed in exasperation. "What siblings? Zhou Mingting calls us teacher and teacher's wife. Clearly this is Kiki's dear nephew." The two froze on the spot. 7. Rong Xinyan's derisive snort shattered the silence. Lu Yizhou and the other quickly snapped out of it, eagerly ushering him to take a seat. Rong Xinyan gestured for Kiki and me to sit first before gracefully taking his seat beside us. Lu Yizhou frowned slightly as he looked at us across the table. After a brief pause, he spoke up. "Director Rong, Mingting was my student in university, an outstanding one at that, winning scholarships every year. She's been equally diligent since joining the institute. I hope you won't let baseless rumors cloud your judgment of such talent." Holding Kiki's small hand gently with one hand and tapping his knee with the other, Rong Xinian turned to Lu Yizhou. "Professor Lu, there seems to be a misunderstanding. I'm not involved in the institute's operational decisions. My inquiry about MS. Zhou stemmed merely from casual conversation with Yin Yin, no ill intent whatsoever." Zhou Mingting let out a long sigh of relief, exchanging a look of pleasant surprise with Lu Yizhou. Just as she was about to express her gratitude, Rong Xinian cut her off. "However, after today's events, I've had a change of heart. I regret to inform you, Ms. Zhou, that you're terminated. The institute will provide maximum severance according to third-tier employee compensation standards." Never since being with Lu Yizhou had Zhou Mingting endured such humiliation. Her eyes welled up with tears. "Enough, Qing Yan. This is between the two of us. Why drag so many people into it? Don't make this situation spiral out of control." Lu Yizhou snapped at me, visibly flustered. Then he turned to Rong Xinian and said, "Mr. Rong, as a responsible entrepreneur, you must know that arbitrarily dismissing third-phase employees would severely damage the institute's reputation. I'll handle matters with Qing Yan properly. She won't be wronged. There's no need for you to play the white knight on her behalf." I watched the pair across from me with quiet amusement, saying nothing, gently patting Coco in my arms. The poor thing was exhausted after all the commotion, her eyelids drooping heavily. "Lu Yizhou, do you really have so little faith in your ex-wife's character and competence?" Ms. Zhou's dismissal had nothing to do with her. Rong Xinyan's expression darkened as he stated bluntly, "As a shareholder of the research institute, I know better than anyone that ethics and integrity come first in the biotech field. Ms. Zhou's actions today merely confirm certain suspicions we've had all along." Ignoring Lu Yizhou's dark expression, he gave Zhou Mingting and her son a meaningful look. "Do you really want to keep arguing about this, or should I remind everyone how Ms. Zhou got into the institute in the first place?" Zhou Mingting had been forcing a smile, pinning her hopes on Lu Yizhou to turn the tables. But now she finally snapped, springing to her feet as she glared at me. "You." Remembering Rong Xinian was nearby with no outlet for her anger, she could only scoop up her son and storm back to the bedroom. Overnight, she lost nearly everything. Not only was my divorce from Lu Yizhou hitting snags, but she'd also lost the career she'd always taken pride in, and I hadn't even begun to play my hand. Lu Yizhou stormed to his feet to see us out, completely disregarding me and Kiki. Rong Xinian gazed at me with evident concern. I remained unfazed, Decades of life had forged an impenetrable armor no petty slight could pierce. Cradling the sleeping Kiki, I followed Rong Sinian out. 8. The night the paternity test results came out, Lu Yizhou returned home. Professor Lu, who always prided himself on being above mundane chores, was now eagerly setting out takeout from a 5-star restaurant while coaxing Kiki with baby talk. For Zhou Mingting's sake, he'd go to any lengths. As I recalled the paternity test conclusion, a pang of sorrow still rose in my heart. Lu Yizhou and I fell in love freely, and what we shared was genuine. The happy memories of our family of 3 remain vivid in my mind. Though only days have passed in this life, everything has turned upside down. Had I not died once, I'd never have believed Lu Yizhou could betray me and our marriage. For decades, Kiki and I kept watching over him. After our passing, he put on a show of being utterly grief-stricken. Seemingly unable to recover from the sorrow, yet a year later, he ended up collaborating with Zhou Mingting on a joint research project. She was recently divorced at the time, raising a toddler under 2. In the end, these 2 wounded souls found solace in each other. Watching from the sidelines, I felt both guilty and grateful that Zhou Mingting didn't hold it against me and was willing to care for my beloved. Until I accidentally overheard the elderly man whispering cheerfully to Zhou Mingting in private, "Mom's the real MVP here." The moment she stepped in, all our troubles vanished, making everything smooth sailing for us. Exactly, even your kindness toward Tingshan made them think it was just transference, while you effortlessly gained public admiration. Who'd have guessed he's actually your biological son? Indeed, even as their son Lu Tingshan grew up looking increasingly like Lu Yizhou. People merely praised him for being such a devoted stepfather who treated the boy as his own. Look how much they resemble father and son. It finally dawned on me. I'd been nothing but a stepping stone in their love story all along. Not only did I bankroll their comfortable life, but I also made a clean exit when the time came, taking Coco with me. Their path forward was clear, a straight shot to happily ever after. My hatred burns like wildfire. How dare they trample over my bones to live their cushy lives? We finished dinner as usual. I went to bathe, brush, and tuck Kiki in while he cleared the table. Normally he'd retreat to his study after eating, leaving the mess for me to clean post-bedtime. After finally getting Kiki to sleep, I stepped out to find Lu Yizhou had already tidied up, even taken the trash out. She sat down across from him. Lu Yizhou moistened his lips before speaking. "Qing Yan, I owe you an apology. I was upset the other day, which is why I deliberately took Kiki to apologize to Meng Ting. That was wrong of me, but you've completely misunderstood my relationship with Meng Ting. She was married, it just didn't work out and they divorced. Considering our teacher-student history, and her being a single mother with such a young child, I only wanted to help out. Could you talk to Rong Sinian? Ask him to go easy on Meng Ting, after getting pregnant." Zhou Mingting was hastily married off to someone by Lu Yizhou's arrangement, only divorcing when their son was 6 months old. That's precisely why I never suspected them in my past life. I stared him down coldly. "On what grounds?" Growing impatient with my stubbornness, Lu Yizhou snapped. "Must you obsess over baseless accusations? If Mingting gets expelled from the institute, her entire career will be ruined." I flung the paternity test report at him. "You won't believe it until you see the coffin, Lu Yizhou. I've decided I'm not just claiming my share of the assets, I'm going to make sure you lovebirds get your happy ending." Lu Yizhou stared at me in shock, his hands trembling as he picked up the document. After a long silence, he seemed to deflate completely, all his former arrogance gone as he croaked. "How did you find out?" I remained silent. He finally dropped the act, kneeling on the cushion while clutching my leg in tears. "Qing Yan, this is all my fault. I've wronged you, and I've wronged her too." Lu Yizhou clung desperately to my leg. "All I feel toward her and the child now is guilt, nothing more. You must believe me. I truly want to make this work with you. I didn't buy a single word of it. Since when does such good fortune exist in this world? Besides, we're practically divorced, just waiting for the paperwork. These empty promises wouldn't fool anyone but a child." I rose coldly, pulling my leg away. "Lu Yizhou, I've made myself perfectly clear. I won't waste another second on you. If that agreement remains unsigned by our appointment at the registry, I'll not only file for contested divorce but also release this paternity test. Bigamy charges will be the least of your worries." 9. 3 days before our marriage registration, I packed up Lu Yizhou's belongings and shipped them to Zhou Mingting, then changed the door locks. Then I took Kiki to the beach in the neighboring city to enjoy some sunshine and sand. I ignored all of Lu Yizhou's attempts to contact me. Through the security cameras, I saw him camped outside my door every day, even trying to ambush Rong Sinian just to see me. Zhou Mingting has been fired. She initially tried to make a scene using her status as a pregnant employee, but Rong Sinian simply had someone show her something on a phone, and she immediately backed down before slinking away. That's right. I took photos of the paternity test report and sent them to Rong Sinian. I never promised to keep their secrets. On the final day, I returned with Kiki and headed straight to the civil affairs office. Before things went south, we'd scheduled to get our marriage license at 10 a.m. Only when I spotted Lu Yizhou's figure standing at the entrance from afar did I finally relax. I wanted no further entanglement with them. I handed Kiki to the nanny who'd been waiting at the office, instructing them to wait at the cafe across the street and emphasizing that no one, absolutely no one, could take her away. I finally walked over to Lu Yizhou. Have you signed the agreement? Lu Yizhou looked pale, with chapped lips and dark circles under his eyes. He seemed to have aged 10 years overnight. His fingers clutched the paper tightly as he asked in a broken voice, Qing Yan, does it have to be this way? I just stared at him coldly without a word. He seemed about to say something more, but swallowed his words and handed me the agreement. Fine, I shouldn't force this. Have it your way. I picked it up and scrutinized the document. Every clause I'd stipulated remained unchanged. With his signature already in place, all that grand talk of affection amounted to nothing. Never had high hopes for him anyway. Let's go. Stepping out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I spotted Rong Xinyan's car. He was waiting for me with a bouquet in hand. My heart skipped a beat. Freshly divorced. The last thing I wanted was to rekindle anything with this childhood sweetheart. I quickly dodged him and rushed to pick up my darling Coco. As for Lu Yizhou, I'd long since put him out of my mind. I bought a new apartment while listing my current one for sale online. A year later, when the renovation was complete, Kiki and I moved in. The city was vast enough that I could completely avoid all this, unless I deliberately sought it out. I'm about to start my new life, with my sweetheart Coco, and new neighbors. I watched Rong Sinian come out from next door to greet us, completely speechless. That chapter of our lives ended long before graduation. Just youthful impulsiveness, really. We both had clearer priorities back then and parted ways cleanly. I only reached out to him thinking our past connection might help me get assistance. God knows what wires got crossed in his brain when he suddenly started pursuing me again. I've turned him down repeatedly, but the man's persistence is something else. Over the past year, Coco has been incredibly helpful with everything from buying and renovating my home to selling properties and leasing commercial spaces. We've developed a great working relationship. My initial awkwardness has gradually given way to reluctant acceptance. Though I died young in my past life, witnessing Lu Yizhou's journey made me feel as though I'd lived through those decades myself. My heart has grown weary beyond revival, no longer capable of stirring for such things. I couldn't just turn a blind eye to everything he'd done for me, even though I could have managed on my own. So I had to tell him, my heart belongs to Coco alone. I've got no love left for anyone else. It might take years, or maybe never. Rong Sinian looked crestfallen but quickly perked up. It's fine, you're not seeing anyone anyway. I'll wait. 10. Through mutual friends. I gradually picked up bits of news about Lu Yizhou and Zhou Mengting. After being dismissed from the research institute, Zhou Mengting's once promising career prospects were completely shattered. Although the paternity test results weren't officially disclosed, rumors and gossip still spread like wildfire. Virtually every reputable research institution and company in the industry had heard the rumors, making her virtually unemployable. Zhou Mengting had no choice but to stay home and take care of the child. Lu Yizhou wasn't exactly living his best life either, though there was no concrete evidence. Our abrupt divorce and subsequent complete estrangement completely shattered his carefully crafted image of a perfect family man. The gossip behind his back was relentless. Even the high-quality matches his mother had arranged began making excuses to avoid meeting him, sending his usually proud mother into a rage. Zhou Mengting was already seething with resentment, and the fact that her divorced ex Lu Yizhou still insisted on keeping their relationship secret while refusing to marry her pushed her to the brink. When Zhou Mengting learned that Lu's mother had arranged blind dates for him, that was the last straw. So Zhou Mengting took her son and marched straight to the Lu family home. No one knows exactly what was said, but afterwards Lu's mother practically demanded daily visits from Zhou and her grandson, her face lighting up with growing delight each time. She even told people things like, I really hit it off with Tingting. I'd love to have her as my daughter-in-law. Grief-stricken, he repeatedly expressed his sorrow and anguish in public. Look at me, I sneered. The only reason Mrs. Lu accepted this so readily was because of her precious grandson. Of course, if it were just about the grandson, she'd still look down on Zhou Mengting, jobless and without any family connections. My guess is he accepted her so quickly because he feared Zhou Mengting might spill the beans and ruin Lu Yizhou's future. They got married in no time. The next time I heard about them, another 6 months had passed. Rumor has it their marriage turned out to be less sweet than their courtship. As Lu Tingshan grew older, his resemblance to Lu Yizhou became increasingly striking, coupled with our sudden divorce. Kiki stopped visiting her grandparents at the Lu household. The gossip never ceased. Lu Yizhou's once promising career hit a standstill, with little hope of recovery in this lifetime. In the end, Zhou Mengting took up a mundane clerical job at a small company, completely abandoning the prestigious researcher career she once took pride in. In their past life, the couple enjoyed a blissful marriage and thriving careers. Lu Yizhou became an honorary dean while Zhou Mengting rose to senior research team leader, becoming the envy of everyone around them, this lifetime. By making wrong choices at the wrong time, they finally reaped what they sowed. I actually spotted them once at a maternity store in the mall. Lu Yizhou's crumpled clothes bore no trace of the radiant confidence he once possessed. Zhou Mengting kept pointing at Lu Yizhou and ranting, but he remained silent before finally ignoring her and walking away with their son. Stepping outside, he spotted me standing to the side, holding our little princess-like daughter Kiki. His face lit up when he saw me and stopped abruptly, only to be jostled by Zhou Mengting, who came rushing up behind him. Lu Yizhou, what are you doing? Zhou Mengting grew even more furious and was about to lash out when she noticed us. Her anger vanished instantly as she clung to Lu Yizhou's arm, shooting me a defiant look. Lu Yizhou tried to shake her off, but Zhou Mengting held on to him desperately. Let's go, Yan Yan, said Rong Sinian, who'd been heading to buy toys for Kiki. As he lightly touched my shoulder to urge me forward, he even gave the other two a slight nod. I turned and walked away, ignoring the defeated looks on their faces behind me. The next day at a gathering with my best friend, she was eager to share the chaotic drama that unfolded at the Lu residence yesterday. I listened with quiet amusement. Nothing pleases me more than knowing they're miserable, but when leaving, I sincerely thanked my friend and asked her to spare me further updates about those two. I've long since left the mire behind, saying goodbye to the past. Glancing at the clock, it's time to pick Kiki up from school. Tomorrow's the weekend, and I promised to take her and Uncle Ron for a picnic in the park. Next story. In my senior year of high school, I failed the art college entrance exam. Then my parents died unexpectedly one after another. I was barely getting by in a daze when I discovered someone had stolen and replaced my art exam papers. The person who took my spot was my best friend, the school belle Sun Ting. 1. Everyone says my best friend, the school belle Sun Ting, is like the moon in the sky, won a gold medal in an international competition with a painting, and also captured the heart of the Qin family heir, about to marry into a wealthy family next month. But unfortunately, she died in a fire tonight, along with her entire family. 2. I am Qiu Li, Qiu as in autumn, Li as in dawn. They all laugh at me, calling me the green leaf or sidekick by Sun Ting's side. Everyone says I'm just dirt beneath their feet. Failed the art school entrance exam, lost both parents, surviving on a single bun for a day. Sun Ting is about to become a wealthy lady, while I'm still toiling in the studio, covered in dust, enduring others' disdain, and struggling to make ends meet. I was the one who set fire to Sun Ting's house tonight. When the sirens sounded, I felt no regret. Because all of this today was something I had planned for a long time. That painting was done by me, exchanging my art exam results to get into my dream university, stealing my paintings to enter competitions and win awards. She stole my life and now gets to live the life I wanted. But Sun Ting, how could anything in this world be so perfect? 3. When Sun Ting called me, I was staring dumbfounded at the news on Weibo. Recently, renowned beauty painter Ping Ting, originally named Sun Ting, won the gold medal at the 27th International Vinci Painting Competition in 2022 with her artwork, Moon in the Sky. She is a rising star in China's art world, praised by Master Shi as a modern painter with remarkable spiritual talent. On screen, Sun Ting looked stunning with her makeup, dressed in a high-end lake blue outfit, smiling radiantly during the host's interview. Miss Sun, your painting is titled Moon in the Sky. Many of your fans backstage told us that you are the true moon in the sky, serene, noble, and untainted by worldly dust. The barrage was flooded with fan comments like graceful and elegant, the moon in the sky, fairy sister, marry me, beautiful person, beautiful art, and bringing glory to the nation. Sun Ting smiled sheepishly and said, it's all the love from my fans. But my gaze was firmly fixed on the painting behind them, that moon in the sky. My heart was overflowing with shock and disbelief. Impossible. This can't be. How could this? The hostess glanced at Sun Ting's dress. Right. I heard the CEO of Yuanhong Group propose to you. This gown is truly stunning. Yuanhong Group, founded by the Qin family from Beijing's top elite circle, Its subsidiaries operate in highly profitable sectors including entertainment media and applied information technology. Qin Ming, the young master of the Qin family who just returned from studying abroad, has newly taken office as the group president. I know all these things, even have them memorized by heart, because Sun Ting has bragged about it to me more than once. I spent the entire news segment in a daze, until Sun Ting's call came through. Qiu Li, what are you doing? Sun Ting's tone was somewhat strange, cautious, and careful. I raised my head, staring blankly at the children drawing in the room. I'm teaching a class. Have you seen today's trending topics? What trending topic? You know I don't watch the news. I can't even afford a smartphone. I slowly handed the phone back to the child who was drawing. Oh right, I forgot. The voice on the other end of the line sighed in relief. By the way Qiu Li, I'm getting married next month in Santorini to the CEO of Yuanhong Group. Congratulations, future Mrs. Qin. Are you calling to ask me to be your bridesmaid? Though I can't afford the plane ticket, of course not. Sun Ting suddenly lost control and shouted. I was stunned, hearing the other side seem to realize the impropriety, then said gently, I know you're busy too. You have to work part-time every day to earn money. After the wedding, our family will move there and not come back, so my dad wants to invite you to our house for dinner, just tomorrow evening. Are you free? I slowly raised my head, dazed for a long time until Sun Ting urged me. I just came to my senses and said, sure, tomorrow night then, rain or shine. 4. Under the scorching sun, I rode a shared bike to the art studio, my back soaked with sweat, yet I didn't even feel the heat. I gaze at the easel covered with canvas before me. Beneath the canvas lies nothing but blankness. As expected, the nervous assistant standing beside me watches with unease. She is afraid, yet I laughed. It took me a long time to find my voice. I asked her, where are my paintings? She kept her head down without speaking, then stammered that she didn't know. How much did she pay you? The assistant remained silent for a long time before suddenly speaking. I'm sorry, I found it amusing. You say sorry, yet you knew it would hurt me. Why did you do it anyway? My mom is hospitalized and needs a large sum of money for surgery. I'm sorry, I really am, but I desperately need that money. Besides, there's no guarantee you'd win the competition anyway. She's latched onto the Qin family. It's all prearranged. This didn't move me. I didn't look at her. It's not just this one piece, right? Or rather, is there any piece you didn't give to her? She abruptly fell silent. How many surgeries has your mom had? If you want money, just say it straight. No need to play the victim. Could you possibly be worse off than me? My mom's already dead. I felt my nose sting. Every time I think about my parents, I really want to cry, but I have to hold it in, at least in front of the thief. Not sure what nerve I hit, but she suddenly looked up with a vicious glare. There's no surveillance, no evidence, you wouldn't even know where to file a report. Go ahead, try to sue me. With that, she grabbed her bag and left. Suddenly, I felt completely drained and collapsed onto the floor. I was thinking about how my parents died. 5. I failed the art college entrance exam during my senior year of high school. Seeing that I had no school to attend, my father became so distressed he couldn't sit still, running everywhere begging for help. Finally, in front of the principal's house, weakened by days of anxiety and not watching his step, he stumbled and was hit by a passing car, never to stand up again. My mother was overwhelmed with anxiety. Her heart disease relapsed, and she suddenly fell ill. I sold all the valuable items at home and borrowed money everywhere, but relatives turned us away. Only my high school classmates Lin Luoshan and Sun Ting lent us money. Unfortunately, it still wasn't enough, and my mother didn't survive that winter. From then on, I valued money more than anything else, reluctant to spend on anything, and worked desperately to save and accumulate money. But now, even though I've finally saved enough for my mother's treatment, she can never come back. I'm wondering, what's the point of me saving all this money? My parents are never coming back. 6. At 8 tonight, I arrived punctually and rang Sun Ting's doorbell. Sun Ting's father was our high school principal, living in a standalone villa on the suburban hillside. At the dinner table, as I looked at Sun Ting's face brimming with happiness, I suddenly found myself inexplicably bringing it up. Ting Ting, why didn't you marry Lin Luoshan? The dinner table fell into complete silence. Lin Luoshan, the heartthrob of our high school, was that aloof artist-type male god. Both Sun Ting and I adored him back in the day. Sun Jichuan first snorted disdainfully. A penniless painter is worthy of my daughter. How could he compare to the Qin family? Sun Ting, however, took a sip of wine and said, Qiu Li, you're still hung up on Luoshan. You're quite the loyal one. I lowered my head with a bitter smile. Yes, wasn't it for him that I chose the art school path back then? Luoshan is just good-looking, The kind that young girls like. Had I known it was the Qin family from the capital, she hesitated. Had I known earlier, I would have let you have Luotian back then. It's not too late even now. Listening to their family's fantasies about Sun Ting marrying into the Qin family, I stirred my spoon absent-mindedly. They were so engrossed in their conversation that they didn't even notice I hadn't taken a single bite. I put down my chopsticks. No longer pretending to eat. Sun Ting, is this the most hopeful and happiest moment of your life? Sun Ting was still immersed in visions of the future. Of course, it was actually her mother who noticed something wrong first. She sniffed the air. What's that smell? Something's burning. Sun Ting frowned. I smell it too. Mom, did you leave the stove on? It's not that she left it on, I softly retorted. It's a fire. The flames spread inward. They tried to stand up but their muscles went weak, collapsing one by one. They could only watch as I stood up unaffected, fetched oil from the kitchen, and leisurely poured it on the curtains, tablecloth, and every flammable surface. Sun Ting trembled and asked me in extreme fury why I was doing this. Are you insane, Chiu Li? What are you doing? Insane. But Sun Ting, you stole my life, 10 years ago. Your father had someone swap our art exam scores. My painting was replaced with yours. Sun Ting, how does it feel to steal someone's spot in college? Money sure is great. You can swap anyone's painting you want. You stole my painting to get into college 10 years ago, and all these years you've been stealing my paintings to enter competitions, win awards, and market yourself as the beautiful female artist, both parents alive, fame and fortune in hand. And next month you're marrying into wealth. You've really had it good all these years. Finally, I picked up the red wine and poured it over them slowly and deliberately. I sighed, but Sun Ting, I haven't been doing well. Not at all. All these years, I've been muddling through, living a life worse than death. I kicked Sun Ting's father, Sun Jichuan, who was lying beside me. Uncle Sun, you understand me, right? But Sun Jichuan saw the world-destroying madness in my eyes. He was terrified. Truly terrified. His hand trembled as he reached out, trying to grab my pant leg. He wept bitterly. He said, Shaoli, if you forgive Uncle Sun, she's my only daughter. She knew her paintings weren't good enough to pass the exam and cried for several nights. Uncle Sun couldn't bear to see his daughter so heartbroken, so he bribed the invigilator during the art exam. Shaoli, please understand a father's heart. After a long silence, I suddenly spoke up. What about my father then? My father begged and searched everywhere for help back then. That day when he came to your house, he happened to overhear you discussing with the admissions officer about swapping my art exam results. As he turned to expose you, you stopped him, you argued and struggled at the doorstep, and you pushed my father down the slope. You saw the car coming and deliberately pushed him, didn't you? Sun Jichuan, you are Sun Ting's father. But does that mean my father isn't my father too? Then I threw the prepared lighter upwards. Flames surged skyward, overwhelming everything in sight. Their shouts, screams, and pleas for mercy were nothing but noise to me. Indeed, the sorrows and joys of this world are never truly understood by others. They were filled with anger, fear, and dread, yet I only felt relief and joy, because I've waited for this day, far too long. 8. As the flames raged fiercely, I walked out and sat on the small slope where my father had once fallen, calculating the time. The 2 whistleblowing letters I sent should be processed soon. One letter exposes how Sun Ting replaced my art exam paper years ago to steal my college admission, implicating a whole chain of corruption behind it. The other letter was sent to the Art Association, reporting Sun Ting's plagiarism and theft of others' artworks for competitions. I know it's nearly impossible to reopen the case of my father's so-called car accident from years ago, so tomorrow, no. Tonight, the contents of the voice recorder in my hand will be made public. Before coming here, I already contacted a friend at a news agency and handed over all the evidence and documents from these years to them. The goal is to drop a bombshell right after tonight's shocking, premeditated arson and murder case that has shaken society. I never thought my first personal smartphone would be used in such a situation. I turned on the recording and calmly recounted everything in front of the camera. Finally, I hope to use X-rays to examine all the paintings under the name of the artist Ping Ting, also known as Sun Ting. Moon in Heaven is my work, and I had long written my suicide note beneath it. Thank you. I clicked send, dispatching multiple copies of the recording and video, fulfilling my final wish. With everything prepared, I called the police and turned myself in. When the fire truck's siren sounded, I drank the poison I had prepared in advance. Ever since I found that admissions officer 5 years ago, I had been planning today's feast of revenge. I want Sun Ting to fall from the highest point. I want her to be disgraced after death. I want her entire family to be scorned and spat upon by millions even in death. tomorrow marks the beginning of autumn, and I, Chioli, this vicious villain, ultimately died before the autumn dawn, but I have no regrets. I will never regret it. 9. Later, the X-ray examination results came out. Beneath every painting signed by Sun Ting, identical words were written in crimson cinnabar ink. In 2012, Sun Ting swapped Chioli's art exam papers, and Sun Jichuan killed my father. Their daughter stole my original paintings. Every signed piece bears this message. Only the painting titled Moon in Heaven was different. Beneath it lay Chioli's final words: since my parents passed away, there's been no place to return to. My life, Chioli, has been muddled and aimless. With no destination in sight, tossing and turning at midnight, I only regret two things. I regret becoming an art student. I regret befriending Sun Ting. 10. I never imagined I'd have the chance to open my eyes again. It wasn't the medical staff who brought me back. It was my father's spit hitting my face. You study art. What kind of art are you studying? Your teacher says your grades are quite good. So focus on your exams with peace of mind. Aiming for a 211 university is absolutely no problem. Let me tell you, you better stop running off to the art studio so much. I was stunned for a long moment, just dumbfounded, staring blankly as my dad scolded me while holding a spatula. Then my mom smacked the back of his head. Xiao Dazhuang, keep your mouth shut. You know this child has loved painting since childhood. Can't we just have a proper conversation? Ouch, honey, stop hitting me. It hurts, it hurts. I stared dumbfounded at the middle-aged couple bickering and seemingly flaunting their affection before me, my vision blurred with warmth as tears suddenly streamed down. I'm quitting art. 11. I never expected that I would actually return to my first year of high school 12 years ago. Both my parents are still alive. My life has returned to a time when there was still hope. After long and careful consideration, I swear I will never repeat the same mistakes in this lifetime. 12. I returned to the classroom, vowing to study hard, get into a good university, and find a decent job in this life, to live happily with my parents for the rest of my life. As for fame and fortune, I never really cared much about them in the first place. Fortunately, I returned before that little bitch Sun Ting found out about my painting talent. This time I promised my teachers and parents that I absolutely won't become an art student, no matter how hard STEM subjects get. I'll study them properly. Academic qualifications are truly important. I suffered too much from lacking them in my past life. I must pursue postgraduate studies and civil service exams. 13. That day, as I was furiously working through math papers from 5-3 and struggling with obscure problems, a cold youthful voice suddenly rang in my ears, a roguish and sloppy tone of voice. Hello everyone, my name is Qin Ming. I took a moment to look up and saw a handsome guy with thick eyebrows, big eyes, a high-nosed bridge, and earrings, exuding an air of unruliness all over. At first glance, he looked like the kind of troublemaker who'd give a homeroom teacher headaches for 3 years straight. I simply couldn't connect the person before me with the young CEO of Yuanhong Corporation from over a decade later, that man elegantly wrapped in a black tailcoat, exuding sophistication and sex appeal in his head-to-toe luxury designer wear. Oh, it's been too long, I'd completely forgotten. Back when Qin Ming transferred to our high school, the kid had all the airs of a spoiled young master. I found it amusing and quickly turned to glance at Sun Ting, who hadn't yet been assigned to the art class. Take a look, that's your future husband who'll lose his wife before even getting married. Sun Ting reacted indifferently, a flash of admiration in her eyes before she turned away to look out the window. Our classroom window faced the art class, and if I remember correctly, Lin Luoshan was sitting in that spot. Oh right, back then the bad boy male lead trope wasn't popular yet. All the girls were into aloof campus heartthrob painters like Lin Luoshan. I turned my head and continued watching Qin Ming with schadenfreude, though I don't know what President Qin thought about me burning down his fiancée's family in the future, or whether he hated me enough to scatter my ashes to the wind, but right now, TSK. His future wife who died before they could marry still looks down on him now. Ha 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 ha. Qin Ming, you sit at the far right of the second row. Chioli, make some space for your new deskmate. At that moment, my ha 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 got stuck in my throat with a click sound. Damn it, how could I forget? Before the class division, I had been deskmates with Qin Ming for a while. Qin Ming, that spoiled rich kid, picked up his school bag and slung it over his shoulder with the same disdainful look as years ago. Seeing me still staring dumbly at him, he seemed to imagine something in his head, then put on that smug and cocky expression of his. Are you Chioli? Still dazed, I just gave a vague MHM in response. To my surprise, the brat actually grinned and delivered that so-called classic opening line again. Autumn pear. What kind of giant pear is that? Did your parents love drinking pear syrup so much they named you after it? Pears are supposed to be round and plump. Oh wait, you are kinda chubby, you do resemble a big pear. The whole class burst into laughter. This was exactly like last time. He made fun of my name the same way in my past life too, and he called me fat. I'm not fat at all. I just have a little extra meat on me. Can you blame me? It's all because Cho Dajwang made the food too delicious. This little brat is so infuriating to look at in this lifetime too. In the previous life, Chioli was timid and didn't dare to speak up. In this life, Chioli has completely transformed and is striking back with full force. 14. Can you believe I could tolerate this? I slammed the table indignantly. I threw a punch right then and there, knocked him flat on the spot. Well done. My dad stood up and applauded for me. My mom slapped him across the face, while my dad was whimpering. She earnestly lectured me about not being violent with classmates and getting along well with them. She said violence wouldn't solve anything, and if it really came to blows, how could a petite girl like me stand a chance against the tall and sturdy Qin Ming? Making enemies wouldn't be good. The next day she dragged me to apologize to Qin Ming. 15. In the infirmary, Qin Ming was changing the dressing on his chin, grimacing in pain. The moment he saw me, his face darkened as he turned away, pretending not to notice me. I'm no longer that thin-skinned little girl from before. For 10 years, I've worn dirty clothes, endured scornful looks while picking up discarded bottles. My skin has long grown thick. Moreover, upon reflection, I realize I was indeed too impulsive. The main thing is, if I make an enemy of the future CEO Qin, I might really end up picking bottles for a living. I quickly stepped in front of him, stood at attention, and was just about to speak. Qin Ming snorted impatiently. What are you here for? Didn't hit me enough yesterday, so you came to give my left cheek another punch today. I pinched my arm hard, and tears instantly welled up from the pain. I'm sorry, Woo-woo. I shouldn't have hit you, Woo-woo. I was wrong, Woo-woo. I cried with such genuine emotion and apologized with such sincere words. Qin Ming panicked instantly. Why are you crying? Followed by a clattering mess as things fell to the ground. And he hastily fetched tissues for me. Sniffling, I took them, wiping my tears while stammering apologies about how I was wrong. Qin Ming awkwardly muttered that he wouldn't bother arguing with a little girl, grumbling about how women are such a hassle. Tilting his head and seeing me still gazing at him with teary eyes, his expression shifted before he finally softened and apologized. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have teased you about your name yesterday. I spoke out of turn. My mom always says that about me too. Actually, I don't dislike pears. I quite enjoy eating them. You're still saying it. You're still saying it. In the end, this little conflict was peacefully resolved after we both got scolded by our homeroom teacher. 16. While I was quickly writing my test paper, this guy kept holding his chin, occasionally hissing in pain. TSK, she looks so gentle and quiet, yet she hits so hard. I can also hear people whispering about it. Why is Choli so violent? She even hits people. Who would have thought? Who knows? No idea where she got the guts. Qin Ming looks like a punk, but she's not afraid of retaliation later. Who would want someone so fierce? I slammed the pen down, startling Qin Ming. Then they heard me whisper, I'm not the Chioli of the past anymore. Now I am, Neohuru Chioli. What? Of course he doesn't understand. Empresses in the Palace hasn't aired yet at this time. Where did you get the nerve? I've already died once. What wouldn't I dare to do? And my parents are still alive. I've returned to the best time of my life. I wake up happy every day. I'm truly overjoyed. Unexpectedly, Qin Ming turned his head, threw the pen, and shouted towards the whispering direction. It's study hall. What are you talking about? Quiet, understand, be quiet. Those people didn't dare to argue with him. You're not the discipline committee member. 17. Back in 2010. The new college entrance examination system hadn't been implemented yet. There were only arts and science tracks. It's almost time to choose between arts and science classes in the second year of high school, and I'm currently looking up job prospects for both fields. Final decision. I'm going to study arts. My father remains astonished by my sudden maturity as an abnormal phenomenon. What? You really want to study liberal arts? I put on my backpack and tied my hair into a high ponytail in front of the mirror. Seriously. My math and physics grades aren't as good as my liberal arts scores. I have a good memory and fast memorization skills. Studying liberal arts will make it easier for me to take postgraduate exams and civil service exams later. My father was puzzled. But you didn't want to take the civil service exam before. You said you didn't like a life where everything is predictable. The trend of people gravitating towards government jobs is inevitable in the future. Although it's uncertain whether this parallel world will experience a pandemic, civil service positions are truly appealing. Working 9 to 5 and spending evenings with you all. I think that's the best kind of life. Who needs your company anyway? I cheerfully left my bewildered father behind and rode out on my rickety old bicycle. Both my parents are ordinary salaried workers. In my past life, they spent a fortune supporting my art studies. Studying art is a money pit. And our family had to tighten our belts just to get by, never able to save any money. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been unable to afford treatment when my mom's heart condition relapsed. Such a situation must never happen again. Every month, I coax and persuade my mom to go to the hospital for checkups. Fortunately, the doctor said my mom's condition is stable, and she just needs to be careful in daily life. But there's only one thing I didn't expect. When I transferred to the elite liberal arts class and was just about to sit down after arranging my desk and chair, suddenly, a figure leaned over from beside me, smiling at me with two little canine teeth showing. Hey, what a coincidence, little deskmate, Qin Ming. Qin Ming patted the dust off his coat and sat right beside me. Why do you look so surprised? But didn't you study science in your past life? Why didn't you join the science class? Qin Ming placed his backpack into the desk, putting the textbook there first and asking for permission later. If I go to the science class, whose homework am I going to copy? What a simple and unadorned reason. He took out 2 lollipops, handed one to me, and unabashedly unwrapped his in front of everyone before popping it into his mouth. Liberal arts or science, it's all the same. My family's sending me abroad for college anyway in my senior year. Oh right. Qin Ming went abroad for studies during his senior year in his previous life. He wasn't meant to stay long. Young Master Qin's high school routine in his previous life wasn't much different from this one. Daily activities involved teasing chickens and dogs, taking TOEFL or IELTS practice tests in class, or sleeping with headphones on. Between classes, he'd gather his troublemaking friends to go wild, breaking school rules 800 times a day only to bribe his way out of trouble. When bored, he'd sneak off to the art class to flirt with the school beauty Sun Ting, the epitome of a spoiled young master. Who could have imagined he'd grow into a reliable adult 10 years later? Probably learned his lesson while studying abroad and started taking studies seriously. 18. Hey, by the way, why haven't you been visiting the art class lately? It's been ages since you last saw Sun Ting. I looked up from my practice problems, puzzled. Haven't you stopped going there lately either? Oh, they were going for training camp recently, and Lin Luoshan borrowed my class notes. I need to get them back from him before class. Qin Ming originally wanted to sleep with his head down, but probably got woken up by me, mumbling, then why haven't you been going to find Lin Luoshan lately? Oh, I thought running back and forth like this was too troublesome, so I just gave him everything after school and get it back before class tomorrow. Qin Ming sneered sarcastically twice. Oh. He's really diligent. Just then someone called out to me, Chili, Lin Luoshan is here to see you. Qin Ming completely gave up on sleeping and sprang up abruptly. It was the 8th class period, with the afterglow of the setting sun casting a warm hue on the boy's crisp white shirt. The youth by the door was slender yet upright in posture, like ink bamboo beyond the rain eaves, quietly elegant and refined, like someone who stepped out of an ink painting. Lin Luoshan gave me a faint smile and a slight nod. I hurriedly pulled the notebook from my bag and handed it to him. Old Zhang covered more college entrance essay strategies today. I took notes for you. Here. The young man received it with both hands and smiled in thanks. By the way, Shaoli, my mom made corn ribs today. I'll bring some over for you guys tonight. Oh, that's too kind of you. Qin Ming kept glancing back and forth between us, his eyes full of resentment. Oh. What's the relationship here? Delivering meals, little deskmate, you never mentioned this to me. Lin Luoshan was taken aback, just about to speak when I cut him off with a loud shout. His family and mine live in the same residential complex, so you could say we're neighbors by a roundabout connection. His mom and my mom get along quite well. The difference might be that his family has a 4-bedroom, 2-living room, 2-bathroom apartment, while mine only has 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. Crying, when Lin Luoshan left, the girls in our class were still propping their chins in their hands watching him, turning to say how envious they were of you. Shaoli, what's there to envy? Qin Ming snorted, then turned to press me further. Why did you give him your notes? Me, 200 per subject for notes. Qin Ming fell silent for a long moment, then tentatively extended a finger. What, you want it too? 100 won't be enough. Fine, since you're my deskmate, I'll give you half off. No, my mom saw my report card the other day. She said she'd sacrifice family ties for justice. What I mean is, Qin Ming's throat bobbed nervously twice. Are you free to tutor me this weekend? Only a fool turns down easy money. How much can you pay per hour? I stared at his outstretched hand. 1,000. Qin Ming looked at my instantly changed expression. No, is that not enough? Then, stop. I promptly halted this naive rich young master. Let's go by market rates. For one-on-one tutoring, it's usually 100 to 150 per hour. How much time can you dedicate to tutoring on weekends? Qin Ming thought for a moment. I have other classes on weekends, but I can spare 2 hours a day. I quickly calculated how long I could tutor him from now until senior year and how much money I could earn. Here's the deal, I won't overcharge you, just 100 yuan per hour. We'll stay an extra hour after school each day, and I'll find an empty classroom for one-on-one tutoring. On weekends, it's 150 yuan because my original study schedule is tighter then. Qin Ming's face clearly read, why is this so cheap? Meanwhile, I was ecstatic inside. 5 days, 5 hours, 500 yuan. Weekends add up to 600, 100 per week. 4 weeks a month means 400, holy shit, I'm actually making 4,000 yuan a month in high school just by tutoring my rich deskmate. I immediately clenched Qin Ming's hand tightly, righteously declaring, deskmate, don't leave after school today. Qin Ming, 19, old Chiu and comrade Lao Li unanimously approved my tutoring arrangement for my deskmate, but I was too embarrassed to disclose how much he actually paid me. I feared they'd be so shocked they'd hold Qin Ming back and reject this marriage proposal overnight. I mean, this business deal. Since we've taken their money, we should do the job properly. I found some comprehensive test papers for Qin Ming to identify his weak knowledge points and chapters, then focused on tutoring those areas. I realized Qin Ming just wasn't studying hard, he actually grasps concepts very quickly when he applies himself. For some advanced math problems, his mind works even faster than mine. Once he arrived at the correct answer using a different method. As I compared it repeatedly with the pre-prepared answer sheet I had, I suddenly realized his approach was more straightforward. Teaching the apprentice didn't leave the master starving. Instead, it took them both to greater heights. Over time, our math routine mostly involved me finding problems, Qin Ming writing solutions, me questioning his answers, him patiently explaining his reasoning, and me having sudden realizations. I immediately refused the tutoring fee that day, insisting we could never accept payment for math sessions anymore. I still needed his help, and we'd progress together. Qin Ming couldn't win against my stubbornness. Fortunately, Qin Ming wasn't very good at liberal arts subjects like writing and politics, so I could still charge tutoring fees for those. He had a science-oriented mind while I had a liberal arts-oriented one. Over time, we complemented each other and made progress together, bringing out the best in each other. 20, however. This student had just one bad habit, easily distracted. That day we were working on sequence problems in an empty third-floor classroom. The sequences were relatively simple, and Qin Ming finished quickly. Then he propped his chin on his hand and just stared at me, zoning out. His stare made me uneasy, so I couldn't help but wave my hand in front of his eyes. Qin Ming suddenly grabbed my wrist. His palm was scorching hot. I felt like my wrist was being burned. I stared at him blankly. The distance between us seems a bit too close. That second felt like an eternity. It seems like the first time I've seriously observed Qin Ming's appearance. The young man has deep-set eyes and handsome features. If Lin Luoshan is like water, gentle and mild, comparable to the moon, then Qin Ming is undoubtedly the sun, a light that breaks through the clouds and illuminates the darkest night. He's not smiling right now, yet I can almost see his usual grin, revealing his canine teeth, like a little sun. 21, deskmate, if you don't let go now, it'll be impolite. I dryly quoted a meme from 10 years later, watching him freeze before hastily releasing me. Qin Ming scratched his head awkwardly, as if searching for words. I meant to say, little deskmate, the subjects you need tutoring fees for are getting fewer. Shouldn't we raise the rates? Who do you think I am? I say no, not happening, absolutely not okay. Ever since you started tutoring me, my grades have skyrocketed. And I'm almost breaking into the top 100 in my grade. My mom asked about your tutoring fees and said she wants to increase them. I still refused. No, we agreed on a set price, and you're already paying quite generously, but your eyes light up when you talk about money. Qin Ming frowned. I don't understand why you're refusing. You clearly love money. Yes, I do love money. I lowered my head and whispered. That's because you've never experienced being broke, Xiao Ming. I do love money, but a gentleman acquires wealth through righteous means. Do you have to call me Xiao Ming? It makes me sound like the textbook character. I love calling you that. It's so cute. Xiao Ming, Xiao Ming. 22. These days I've been studying with the same intensity one used to earn and save money in my past life. I've found that the knowledge points which once seemed obscure and difficult to understand don't feel as challenging anymore. Xiao Dazhuang and Old Li both stared at me in shock, watching as I never put down the book in my hands. In this lifetime, I've completely stayed away from Sun Ting and stayed far from the art class. Whenever I have time, I just want to desperately do practice questions and tests, studying as hard as I can. I can't bring myself to play. Now I understand the value of studying. There are no shortcuts on this path of life. I didn't memorize the 2012 college entrance exam answers in my past life. And I don't need them in this lifetime either. If heaven gives me another chance to retake the college entrance exam, it's not for me to take shortcuts or seek opportunistic gains. The higher you climb, the harder you fall. It demands that I stay grounded, work diligently, remain true to my original aspirations, and forge ahead with perseverance. I don't need to get into a top-tier university either. I just want to study hard in this lifetime to get into a good college. Making up for the regret of never attending university in my past life, I will strive for a bright future, for myself and for my parents. Because of the tutoring sessions, I've become quite familiar with Qin Ming's home in City A. His parents are abroad year-round and rarely return home, leaving only an old British butler to manage everything in the villa. During one tutoring session, an unexpected situation arose. Qin Ming received a phone call and had to leave temporarily, telling me to look around the place. If he hadn't returned by 5 p.m., someone would be arranged to take me home. Unable to sit still, I wandered around the corridor, peering here and there. The old butler followed behind me with a cheerful smile, introducing each ornament and decoration one by one, while sharing amusing stories from Qin Ming's childhood, until we reached the third floor, where a half-open door stood at the end of the hallway. I absent-mindedly glanced at it, then froze in place. That's the art studio. The madam occasionally used it when she visited, but it's been unused for a long time now. Would Miss Chiu like to take a look? I thought I could suppress my longing for painting. It's been a year since I returned without touching brushes or paints, but today, when I saw them, my hands were trembling. I sat before the canvas, skillfully unsealing the paper glue and preparing the brushes and paints as if I'd rehearsed it 10,000 times. I stared at the blank sheet before me, taking a deep breath. Then I picked up the pen. 23. I lost all sense of time passing, painting purely by mental imagery, coloring through muscle memory alone. Only painting allows me to wholeheartedly, temporarily forget everything around me, forget painful memories, forget hatred, and just paint quietly. The light outside the window shifts between brightness and darkness, while the colors blend and diffuse. I don't know how much time has passed. When I became somewhat clear-headed, it felt like the first time I was seeing what I had painted. Only O remains in my heart, the moon in heaven. What I drew was the outline of the moon in heaven. Some subtle details have imperceptibly changed, but overall it resembles its form. I don't know why I drew this, why I felt compelled to recreate the moon in heaven. Qin Ming stood right behind me, leaning against the doorframe, staring at me intently. I didn't know how long he had been standing there, but he remained quiet, watching me paint without making a sound. I turned my head, and his gaze shifted from the painting to me. He said, "It's very beautiful. You should have pursued art. You could have attended the best art university." That's what he said. I looked at him, and tears suddenly started flowing. Qin Ming took me home that day. I cried the whole way, sobbing uncontrollably. I wanted to ask him so many things, why he married Sun Ting, and to tell him that moon in the sky was painted by me, but I couldn't say anything because he didn't remember our past life. I don't recall what comforting words he said, only that he held me, and I ended up crying my heart out in his arms again. It turns out I could feel wrong too. Wrong that Sun Ting stole my painting. Moon in the sky was never about her. It was always me, the silhouette of a woman weeping on the Atlantic coast. It was clearly me all along. How dare she be the moon in the sky, and how dare she call me the dirt beneath her feet? I resent that my past life was so stifling and wretched, filled with pain and torment. When I finally composed myself, I opened the door to the stern faces of Qiu Dazhuang and Madame Li. "Confess honestly, which brat are you secretly dating? It's over." They saw me hugging Qin Ming downstairs. Miss Li had sharp eyes. "Old Qiu, this boy looks familiar. Have we met somewhere before?" Qiu Dazhuang always reacts quickly at the most inappropriate times. "Hey, isn't that someone? I think it looks just like Lily's deskmate. Is that him?" After discussing, they concluded, "No doubt about it. It's that kid. What's his name again? Qin something. Yeah, it's him." Then Qiu Dazhuang started rummaging for a stick. "Where did this brat come from?" "Eyeing our Lily. Just wait, I'm gonna beat him up. Skipping studies in high school to chase after puppy love. Tsk tisk." Mrs. Li quickly held him back, whispered something in his ear, then smiled at me. "Lily, invite him over for dinner tomorrow. Your dad will cook braised pork ribs in the evening. But I feel that smile was a bit too nuclear friendly. Are these braised, really pork ribs? 24. During class the next day, I couldn't help but keep glancing at Qin Ming, stealing several secret looks at him under the cover of my textbook. I really don't know how to bring it up with him, but I think if I don't invite him home for dinner, Qiu Dazhuang's temper would make him storm straight to the school. Qin Ming was solving math problems when he seemed to notice something, quickly turning his head, while I swiftly averted my gaze. After a while, I sneakily took another peek. Qin Ming turned his head away from me, seemingly focused on solving the problems. But his hand was firmly pressed against the back of his neck. The fair neck suddenly flushed red near the ears. I thought this blush looked truly beautiful, exceptionally alluring. It made me want to take a bite. Then I got hit square on by the teacher's chalk. Qiuli, come up and solve this problem. On the blackboard was a quadratic function problem old Zhang had just finished drawing. Qin Ming was particularly good at functions. We had just solved a similar problem yesterday, so I confidently stepped up to the board. Old Zhang frowned as he examined my smooth and visually pleasing solution. Finding no flaws, he turned to me and asked, "You solved the problem perfectly, but do you know why I called you up here? Qiuli, you keep glancing at your deskmate during class." The students dozing off in the back of the class instantly perked up. I looked down at the little radishes below, their eyes wide and sparkling as they stared at me. Because, I scratched my head, unable to think of a reason. Old Zhang stared at me, so I had no choice but to say, because he's good looking. So I looked. Old Zhang, classmates, wow. Qin Ming suddenly covered his face. The whole class erupted into the most enthusiastic applause at that moment. Old Zhang angrily slammed the table. No laughing, no laughing. Everyone focus on the problem, yet he couldn't suppress the jeers and laughter. During the oppressive high school years where lifting your head only revealed stacks of exam papers, under strict school regulations where nothing but studying was permitted, everything else was forbidden and labeled as frivolous pursuits, all passionate emotions and youthful audacity burst forth like the most vibrant colors, boldly painting the most striking strokes across the dull canvas of high school life. Combining both my past and present lives, this was the first time I'd ever received such thunderous applause and cheers. Old Zhang initially tried to stop us, but later leaned against the blackboard, watching our group of little rascals, and smiled helplessly. Then he quickly told me to get down, and I heard him mutter under his breath, "If it weren't for seeing your recent improvement in math, I wouldn't have let this slide so easily." I ran down with a cheeky grin. When class ended, I was hesitating about how to approach Qin Ming, but the moment the bell rang, he bolted out the door before I could even catch a glimpse of him. The classmates behind me were gossiping and poked me. "Hey, did Qin Ming run away because you scared him?" "Exactly. Look at old Jang's face. He's the most conservative one." "You're really bold." "Me, what? Can't I say someone looks good if they do them?" "Damn, bro." On the rooftop, a youth in a white shirt stood like a sturdy pine or resilient bamboo, his face serene as his brush brought blossoms to life. The rooftop door was slammed open as a figure burst out in a flash. His hands gripped the railing desperately as he bent over, gasping for air. Then he slid down to sit on the ground, burying his entire face in his knees and arms. His face flushed crimson. Lin Luoshan was utterly dumbfounded. "Classmate, what's wrong with you? Do you need help? Should I call 120 for you?" Qin Ming raised his face, and Lin Luoshan froze before asking, "Did you get heat stroke?" Then Qin Ming suddenly cursed loudly. What the hell are you doing here?" Lin Luoshan spread his hands, just avoiding Sun Ting for a bit. Lin Luoshan had heard of Qin Ming's reputation as the tyrant of no, too high more than once. The usually wild and unruly teenager was now blushing shyly, like a fierce beast revealing its soft underbelly for once. Now the beast was acting awkward yet boastful, tilting his chin up at him. "Qiuli confessed to me." Lin Luoshan. After Qin Ming left, Lin Luoshan silently took out his phone and dialed a number. "Hello, Uncle Qiu. Qiuli is in a puppy love relationship." When Qin Ming walked into the classroom expressionlessly and was about to sit down, I seized the opportunity to quickly say, "My mom wants you to come over for dinner tonight." I heard the sound of a chair falling over. Throughout the entire day's classes, Qin Ming inexplicably had a sense of tension. He got 3 English questions wrong and copied the wrong numbers in physics problems. I could tell his mind was elsewhere. It can't be that serious, right? I just teased him a little during math class. When school ended, he rushed off in a hurry, even skipping today's tutoring session. On the way home from school, Lin Luoshan unexpectedly followed me and sternly recited the school rules to me. they particularly emphasized the rule about no early romance. Lin Luoshan kept his eyes on the road ahead, but his words were directed at me. Xiaoli, Qin Ming isn't someone with our background should mess with. Do you know who he is? My smile faded as well. I know, Lin Luoshan sighed. Xiaoli, you've been painting with me since we were kids. I'm an only child, and I treat you like a real sister, otherwise I wouldn't be saying such unpleasant things to you. He looked at me. Did you know Qin Ming's family is sending him abroad? He'll be gone for many years. Do you really think there's a future between you two? Don't get in too deep, Xiaoli. I know. I said I've always known. I shouldn't have dared to hope either. Just as I was feeling emotional, a beautiful girl with long flowing hair and graceful demeanor walked over. She stopped beside Lin Luoshan and examined me with a scrutinizing gaze. It was Sun Ting. My eyes instantly turned cold. This time she didn't recognize me, just looked at me with her usual demeanor, using that gaze beautiful girls reserve for ordinary girls. Asian, who is she? Just like in my past life, she acted all high and mighty while pretending to be gentle and accepting, holding my hand as she said, the new CEO of Qin Corporation proposed to me. I'm going to become Mrs. Qin. You're happy for me too, right, Xiaoli? Happy. I set a fire that very day. Let's all die together. Wipe the slate clean, so in this lifetime I don't want to deal with her. As long as she doesn't provoke me, I won't cause her trouble. She thought I'd forgotten. The transfer student who was my desk mate before I changed classes was named Qin Ming. To this day, I'm still puzzled why she didn't dare tell me that the person she was marrying was Qin Ming. I immediately blurted out, I'm his sister. Then I pushed away Lin Luoshan who was silently pleading for help with his eyes. And went home alone. I just couldn't understand why Qin Ming, after studying abroad for so many years in his previous life, still couldn't forget his first love and propose to her. In my past life, I burnt his beloved fiancé to death. I don't even know if he scattered my ashes, but he was so furious he found a Taoist priest to curse me with eternal unrest. In my past life, I adored Lin Luoshan. It was a childhood admiration that lasted into adulthood, but truthfully, switching to study art was more because of my own genuine passion. What about Qin Ming then? I asked myself, what about Qin Ming then? Didn't even agree to come to my place for dinner, fled overnight. Maybe I overthought it. What's the matter, Xiaoli? Why are you so greedy? Daydreaming in broad daylight. Could it be you're aiming to climb up the Qin family ladder and live the good life as their young mistress? Ordinary folks should just focus on getting into college, grad school, or civil service exams. With no men in your heart, drawing your sword feels divine. But why can Sun Ting be with Qin Ming? Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. I was just about to tell my mom that Qin Ming wasn't coming when the doorbell suddenly rang. Qiu Dezhuang put down the spatula and volunteered to answer the door. My dad froze in place. My mother called out in confusion, Qiu Dezhuang, what's wrong with you? And then followed after him. The couple stood petrified in place. Across from them stood a tall, long-legged young man in a well-tailored suit. I almost didn't recognize him. He'd even styled his hair, tidying up the usual messy strands. Behind Qin Ming stood the old butler, along with several men in suits carrying gift boxes, maintaining a 2-meter distance. My dad and mom stared at Qin Ming, who stood stiffly with perfect posture, and the gift boxes that nearly filled the entire first-floor hallway. They were completely stunned. 25, according to my dad. Comrade Qiu Dezhuang. He later admitted being terrified by the grand display, initially thinking Qin Ming had come to propose marriage. Then Qin Ming got quite nervous and solemnly greeted them as uncle and auntie, which made my dad even more concerned. Qiu Dezhuang panicked and said, just eat your meal. Why bring so many things? As common folks like us, we'd never seen such a grand spectacle in our lives. I was dumbfounded too, watching the old butler and my dad engage in a back-and-forth battle. Please accept it. Miss Qiu has worked hard tutoring our young master. No, no, take it back. It's also our madam's wish, just a small token of appreciation, and so on. I quickly pulled Qin Ming aside. Why are you dressed? Dressed like this? You. Qin Ming nervously adjusted his collar upon hearing this. And no, does it not look good? I thought since it's my first time meeting your uncle and aunt, I should dress more formally. The way he looked at me, like a child who'd done something wrong, made me even more nervous. I quickly shook my head. That's not what I meant. It looks good, and no, not just good, it's handsome, very handsome. Oh, what am I even saying? Qin Ming's eyes instantly lit up, pupils dilating with a galaxy-like sparkle that left me momentarily stunned. Even his shy, evasive gaze blurred as I faintly recalled, never in my past life chasing Lin Luoshan had I seen eyes this breathtaking. They shimmered, they galaxy glistened, they gazed only at me. when I spied that familiar yet strange Qin Group CEO while tailing Sun Ting behind the door, those icy eyes barely connected with the ones before me now. While staring intently into Qin Ming's eyes, I failed to notice the young man's fair face rapidly flushing. Just as he was about to reach out, my father abruptly called for him to stop. Hey, what are you two doing? My father frowned at me. It was clear that if there weren't outsiders present, he would have scolded me directly. Come inside and wash your hands for dinner. I think they actually intended to set up a trap banquet, but Qin Ming's unexpected move caught them off guard. Qiu Dazhuang couldn't refuse the butler's insistence and was forced to leave behind several gift boxes. Then sat gloomily at the dining table picking at his rice. Li kept enthusiastically urging Qin Ming to eat. After Qin Ming lavishly praised their signature dishes, he suddenly changed the subject, saying his parents had never cooked for him, putting on an envious expression. That fleeting look of loneliness in his eyes somehow precisely struck a chord with Li, unleashing boundless maternal love. Then I watched as my mother used serving chopsticks to take the dishes in front of me, while Qin Ming's bowl was piled high with food beneath his smiling face. No, Mom, is there a possibility that I'm actually your biological daughter? Qiu Dazhuang cleared his throat with a fist pressed to his mouth. Looks like Dad remembered his lines. He gave a dissatisfied glance at my mom, who was already charmed by Qin Ming, and finally got to the point. Qin Ming, our Lily has told us everything. Her improvement in math is all thanks to you. We really want to express our gratitude. Then my father picked up the teacup. You're still underage now. He emphasized the words underage. Good kids shouldn't drink alcohol. Today, let's substitute juice for wine. Qin Ming quickly raised his teacup too, reacting swiftly. No. If Qiuli hadn't tutored me, my grades wouldn't be this good now. Uncle, you're giving me too much credit. My father was very pleased. That's the right attitude. Learn from each other and make progress together. Senior year is coming soon. The more critical this time is, the more you need to focus single-mindedly, study hard. I know you're both good kids who wouldn't make adults worry. Let's work hard next year and get into good universities. I get it now. My dad's subtly hinting at us here. No wonder my dad's so sharp. He didn't say it outright, but every word seemed like a veiled suggestion. Qin Ming paused, then smiled and responded earnestly. Understood, Uncle Qiu, right now. Qiuli and I share the same top priority, acing the college entrance exams. We'll work hard to get into a good university together, so please don't worry. My dad was generally satisfied, though old Qiu still seemed displeased with terms like we and together. During dinner, my father took Qin Ming aside privately, and the two talked for a while. I didn't know what they discussed, but my father's relieved and reassured expression when he came out only deepened my confusion. As we were leaving, old Qiu and old Li stood on either side of Qin Ming, while my mother held his hand warmly, urging him to come over for meals often. My father patted his shoulder and said, "Young man, your future is boundless. Keep up the good work. Lily, see him off." "No need, Uncle. It's not safe for a girl to go out alone at night. They're waiting for me downstairs. No need to send me off." As he was leaving, Qin Ming turned his head and stole a glance at me, then he smiled at me, revealing his little canine teeth. 26, Qin Ming took half a day off. I heard his mother had returned and there were some family matters to attend to. Bored, I slumped on the desk, itching to doodle, so I fished out a marker and found a notebook to scribble in. By the time I realized it, a familiar silhouette had already taken shape on the paper. The classmate behind me suddenly leaned over, exclaiming, "Oh my," as she snatched it away. "Isn't this Qin Ming you drew?" Still saying nothing's going on between you two. Why would you doodle him if nothing's going on? I snatched it back with a whoosh, trying to cover up by shielding it with my arm. No way. I was just doodling out of boredom. The girl sitting behind me was a short-haired bespectacled lass. She looked at me and let out a mischievous ha chuckle. "The whole class is gossiping about you two now. Though he's not as handsome as Lin the school heartthrob. Qin Ming is quite good-looking too. Come on, a guy who blushes is super adorable." I got defensive immediately. "Who said he's not as handsome as Lin Luoshan? What's wrong with your eyesight? Trust me, Qin Ming's type will be killing it 10 years later." But how did he grow into that cold CEO personality later? He's so lively right now. The classmate behind me clicked their tongue. "See, a voluntary confession without pressure. But we recently came up with a name for you two as a couple. Like a CP, how about Dawn CP? Oh wait, the Dawn couple sounds better, much better." The popular 2008 Korean variety show We Got Married instantly sparked trends like couples and CP pairings. The girl sitting behind me was a total trendsetter, always at the forefront of fads. She was the first to ship Qin Ming and me as a CP and make others stan us. I immediately grabbed her arm to beg for mercy, urging her to drop this idea, otherwise the whole class would be calling us that by tomorrow. So embarrassing. Don't I have any dignity left? The homeroom teacher will definitely call me in for a talk. Then she giggled and ran away from me. I was utterly devastated. I couldn't even imagine what expression Qin Ming would have when he heard about this nonsense in the afternoon. Oh right. Why isn't he back yet? 27. At noon after school, as I was rushing home on my beat-up bike, I saw someone, Sun Ting. Sun Ting had already transferred to the art class, thanks to her principal father, successfully ending up in the same class as Lin Luoshan, just like in the previous life, except, for that girl beside her, the one wearing glasses, fair-skinned and delicate-looking, is Sun Yanyan. In my past life, Sun Yanyan was also in the same art class as me. She was excellent at drawing, especially still life sketches. If I remember correctly, she went to Lucerne Academy of Fine Arts in that lifetime. Watching Sun Ting pulling Sun Yanyan along affectionately, my heart suddenly skipped a beat. I didn't study art in this lifetime. Could that scumbag father and daughter still be plotting to steal and replace someone else's artwork? They actually set their sights on Sun Yanyan. I cursed under my breath. The regular college entrance examination admission system has implemented online registration and enrollment since 2001, making it quite difficult to scheme in recent years. But art exams are different. In an era when surveillance wasn't yet fully widespread, and invigilation didn't utilize AI electronic systems or information technology, there were too many loopholes to exploit in art school entrance exams and joint provincial exams. I struggled all the way wondering whether to meddle in others' affairs. Having been drenched by rain myself, I can't bear to see others stay dry. I want to snap their umbrellas. 28. That very afternoon after school, I cornered Sun Yanyan. Be careful of Sun Ting during the exam. Keep your wits about you and stay alert. If a proctor keeps staring at you while you're drawing, be careful. She might swap your paper. Sun Yanyan was a soft-spoken girl with a gentle voice, perhaps startled by me. She asked timidly, why would they swap papers? And who would they give it to? I could tell at a glance that this girl was the type to be bullied, easily pushed around, and too afraid to speak up. Just imagining Sun Ting stealing her artwork to get into Lucerne Academy of Fine Arts, leaving Sun Yanyan weeping helplessly, made me furious. The 10 years I endured, should I let other victims go through the same ordeal? Whoever I warn you to be careful about is exactly who you should avoid. Just keep your guard up. I don't have any better ideas. So I can only give you this warning, stay away from her. Sun Yanyan agreed softly and gently. Okay, Shaoli. I still felt a bit uneasy, so I immediately went to find Lin Luoshan and reminded him about this matter, telling him to be careful too, prepare for a rainy day, hope it's useful. Right now, I'm powerless to confront Sun Ting and her father. All I can do is warn others to be careful of them. But 9 times out of 10, Sun Ting has set her sights on Sun Yanyan. On the Friday before final exams, at the parent-teacher conference, I met Qin Ming's mother, the long-rumored Madame Qin, 29. Xiao Dezhuang volunteered to attend the parent-teacher conference for me, as my recent monthly exam results were quite impressive. With my memory and the advantage of Qin Ming's tutoring in science subjects, my total score surprisingly broke into the top 50 in my grade. No. 2 High School is a prestigious key school in the city, packed with top students. Making it to the top 50 in the grade means a good first-tier university is practically within reach. I wouldn't have dared to dream of this in the past. In my past life, my academic performance was barely enough to meet the minimum requirements for a first-tier university. It was only because my homeroom teacher at the time was being generous and wanted to keep me that they told my dad I had a shot at getting into a 211 university if I pushed myself, even among first-tier universities. There are differences in quality between the top and second-tier ones. The homeroom teacher was just being polite, never expecting that I'd actually have the confidence to aim for a 211 now. But my new homeroom teacher has even higher hopes for me, wanting me to get into a 985 university. The teachers really think too highly of me. Ms. Chiu, goodness. In my past life I never even set foot in a university. Hehe, just thinking about it makes me happy. At the parent-teacher conference, they mostly just gave some motivational speeches. All the subject teachers specifically praised me and Qin Ming, completely avoiding any mention of the suspected puppy love situation. Instead, they used us as examples to motivate other students to keep learning and not slack off, showing that people can continuously improve. Ah, you ask how I know? Well, I was eavesdropping by the back door, listening to what was being said inside. Qin Ming, standing beside me, face-bombed and said I was being too obvious. the homeroom teacher and others could see me. The meeting was about to end, so he tried to pull me away. Qin Ming had barely pulled me a few steps away when a clear, melodious voice suddenly called out from behind, "Ming Ming." Qin Ming instinctively tightened his grip on my hand as he turned around in panic, looking at the woman standing not far away, dressed in a flax-colored long dress. It was the first time I'd seen a woman who could wear flaxen hues so beautifully and gracefully. Her fisherman's hat and light-colored sunglasses, along with her linen-textured clothing, made her appear exceptionally ethereal. She walked in high heels, gliding toward us as elegantly as a fish. "Ming Ming, why aren't you introducing me to your mom?" Then, without waiting for Qin Ming's reply, she calmly took off her sunglasses and looked at me. "You're so beautiful." I stared blankly at her face, and the words slipped out before I could even think. To my surprise, Madame Qin covered her mouth slightly and burst into laughter. Her laughter was as clear and crisp as silver bells. "So that's how it sounded, son. Your little deskmate is quite amusing." Madame Qin looked at me with a smile. Such sweet words. Mother loves hearing them. Qin Ming suddenly let out a long sigh of relief. "So you're chilly," she began. I thought her next words would be, "I've heard so much about you from my son." Or something about thanking me for tutoring her son. "That painting of yours is really quite good. It's been a while since I've seen a work that satisfied me this much. The young lady has remarkable talent." I never expected the first thing she'd mention would be moon and heaven. I'd left that painting at Qin Ming's place after last time. I'd occasionally work on it during weekend tutoring sessions, but truth be told, it still wasn't finished. "Ming Ming said you drew this." And at first I could hardly believe it. Without exaggeration, there's a touch of a master's style in it. Madame Qin's facial features are generally gentle, but when her eyes look at someone, it gives a somewhat uncomfortable feeling, as if being seen through. But at such a young age, you can create works like this. Would you be interested in further studies at the Paris Academy of Fine Arts? I froze for a moment, instinctively shaking my head in denial. "No, I'm not studying art. I want to take the civil service exam, to stay with my parents." Mrs. Qin gave me a surprised glance, slightly disappointed. "Little Chili is so attached to home, civil service, such an uncreative job, Mom." Qin Ming immediately intervened, and Mrs. Qin reluctantly changed the subject. "Ah, I remember now. Ming Ming's grades have actually improved to the top 100 in his grade this time. He used to be unwilling to study, and these days he hasn't been fighting or skipping class either. It's all thanks to you." Mrs. Qin spoke while lowering her head to rummage through her bag. "To make my son willingly attend school, this tutoring fee is far too low. Take this money. It's our way of thanking you." Both me and his father. A pre-prepared red envelope appeared before my eyes. I felt quite flustered, especially awkward as I watched her take out a red envelope to hand to me. I found it very strange. The way the red envelope was given felt like a boss handing out bonuses to employees. At that moment, I genuinely felt it was very odd and uncomfortable, instinctively refusing by waving my hand and stepping back. "Auntie, no need, no need. I should only take the tutoring fee I deserve. Qin Ming has also helped me with science subjects, so I really can't accept this money." "Thank you, Auntie." Qin Ming held her back. "Mom." Mrs. Qin glanced at her son and slowly put the red envelope back. "In that case, I have other matters to attend to later. I'll take my leave now. Ming Ming, come home early today. Your father is returning tonight." After she left, Qin Ming gave me an apologetic look. "My mom is always like this. Don't take it to heart. She's a bit. I smiled at him. "I know. Auntie is quite nice and easy to get along with." Seeing that my expression showed nothing unusual, Qin Ming felt relieved and followed her. "Mom, why did you give Chioli a red envelope? She's my friend, not Dad's employee or your assistant." Mrs. Qin walked at a leisurely pace, her expression unchanging. "Ming Ming, you know why your father is coming back, right? After summer vacation, you'll be a senior in high school. Your father has already arranged everything for your study abroad." Qin Ming froze on the spot. "I don't want to go. Tell my dad I won't be going." When the old butler caught up, he happened to see Mrs. Qin watching as Qin Ming stormed off angrily. How rebellious, suddenly deciding not to go when everything was fine. There's definitely something fishy going on. Mrs. Qin sighed. The old butler looked worriedly at the young master's retreating figure as he opened the car door. "Have you met Miss Chioli yet?" "I have." Mrs. Qin got into the car, lost in thought. How to put it, it's different from what I imagined, yet somehow the same. "Tell me, how could a flower raised in a greenhouse since its teens paint something so full of despair, without experiencing disasters and misfortunes that could torment one for a lifetime, enduring suffering, living in pain and despair with no hope for tomorrow?" feeling every day like walking on the knife's edge. The mermaid traded her tail for, one simply couldn't paint like this. The butler listened in confusion, but didn't skimp on the flattery. Madam truly understands art best, but where exactly is the sameness you mentioned? Lady Chin nodded slightly. From her, I seem to perceive a profound sorrow. 30. Ever since meeting Lady Chin, I've been inexplicably restless. Her artistic aura is intense, yet this sense of artistry only makes me think of painting, which in turn reminds me of my hopeless past life, destitute and driven to despair. The moon and the sky. The extinct species in paintings. I finally understand why so many genius painters lived poorly, only becoming famous after death. In this year of rebirth, I didn't dare touch anything related to art again. I avoided the studio, rarely saw Lin Luoshan, and steered clear of Sun Ting, because the painting talent I once took pride in became the fuse that ignited my tragic life. I'd rather live in obscurity and peace. After final exams, Madam Chin sent someone to deliver my moon in heaven to me. It's been so long since I last painted it. I'm living happily now, so much so that I dare not even touch it. A painting intimately connected to my death in a past life, containing my deepest despair and agony. All I can feel towards it now is fear. I found a cloth and covered it. Qin Ming has been in a semi-missing state since the final exams. The tutoring has been temporarily suspended. When I text him, it takes him a long time to reply, just saying he's fine and that there are family matters. This can't go on forever. It's not a sustainable solution, because the SMS fee is actually quite expensive. I went to his house looking for him, worried that something might have happened, but the entire villa was empty except for the cleaning staff. Both the old butler and Qin Ming had left. The unease in my heart grew stronger and stronger, even if Qin Ming told me they were going back to the capital for the holidays. So they left, but I'm afraid he'll leave without a word. And I start constantly wondering if his family has secretly sent him abroad to study. Qin Ming's response has always been to avoid the issue. He says he won't go, but he hasn't explained to me why he's leaving or when he might return. 31. I started constantly losing focus while studying. I know I feel extremely anxious inside, inexplicably anxious. My mind is in such turmoil, truly chaotic. I don't know what I'm thinking, but there's a voice in my head that keeps repeating, Chili. Chili, the future cannot be changed. Qin Ming will still leave, and your parents, can they really survive? The butterfly effect. At night I began tossing and turning, unable to sleep a wink throughout the entire night. I dare not close my eyes. These past few days, whenever I close my eyes, I dream of a torrential rainy night where I kneel before my father's coffin, crying and begging them not to bury him, while my mother collapses in front of his casket. I gritted my teeth and handled my father's funeral arrangements, devoting my whole heart to caring for my mother. In the gloomy atmosphere, the hospital bills flow like water every day, and our money is nearly depleted. When my mother saw the exorbitant cost of the surgery, she was already struggling to speak at that point, and she said, don't treat me, it won't cure me. If I die, where will you get the money to pay back all that debt? I refused. I knelt before the doctors and nurses, sought help from relatives only to be turned away, and even went to loan sharks, but my mother didn't want to burden me. By the time I finally scraped together the money and returned to the hospital, it was within the deadline given by the doctor. She stopped breathing. The next night, I dreamed I was in an art exam room. As I was painting, the artwork before my eyes suddenly transformed into a deliberately poorly executed piece, one I'd never seen before. But I knew it was Sun Ting's work. I failed the exam again. On the third night, my 20-something self dragged my exhausted body after finishing the third part-time job of the day, then suddenly clutched a roadside trash can, covering my mouth as violent coughs racked me. Then I saw streaks of blood in the palm of my hand. Then I fell heavily onto the road. The red blood streaks dripped into the red paint. I numbly wiped the blood gushing from my nose and, dizzily, picked up the brush to write red characters on the canvas. A few days ago, I saw the studio assistant take Sun Ting's money, so I placed the finished artwork in the most prominent position to make things easier for them, but I kept painting non-stop to submit Sun Ting's competition entry, until I felt nauseous from exhaustion. On the fourth night, Moon in Heaven was finally completed, but as I set the fire, a group of armed police stormed into Sun Ting's villa and pinned me to the ground. I watched helplessly as a familiar figure emerged from behind, wearing a black trench coat. It was Qin Ming. 10 years later, he looked down at me with cold indifference. Sun Ting walked up to me, crouched down, and with that beautiful yet venomous face, pinched my chin, whispering word by word. Xiaoli, did you think you were the only one who was reborn? Thank you for those paintings, which brought Qin Ming to my side. After all, We were once close friends. The officers specially allowed you to attend our wedding before going to prison. Aren't you happy?" My eyes nearly burst with rage. My heart was torn apart. I wished I could cut her into 1,000 pieces and perish together with her. When I opened my eyes, my back was drenched in sweat. These nightmare-ridden days keep replaying the events of my past life in an endless cycle. Every time I wake up startled from the dream, I fall off the bed, then scramble up to grab my brush and tear open the canvas. Every late night, when my nerves are stretched to the breaking point, in this state of extreme tension, I paint the moon in heaven like a madman. I don't even know why I do this, but only by doing this can I feel slightly better. Seeing me float out of the room with unsteady steps and dark circles under my eyes every day, Ms. Lee thought some evil spirit had possessed me and nearly panicked enough to call a Taoist priest for an exorcism. I painstakingly painted for several nights. The process of creating moon in heaven was extremely agonizing, and I could only complete it in the state of being awakened from nightmares late at night. When the final stroke was done, I suddenly felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. The night passed without dreams. 32, strangely enough, after completing Moon in the Sky, I never had nightmares again, nor did I experience such painful emotions. After recovering, I went downstairs with Chiu Dezhuang and Ms. Lee for an evening stroll around the neighborhood. Qin Ming stood under the orange streetlight, gazing at me intently. Ms. Lee later described that day, saying my eyes lit up the moment I saw Qin Ming. I told them briefly, then ran quickly towards him. The moment I saw him, I had countless things I wanted to say, but when I stood before him, my eyes slowly grew warm, and I said with a smile, "Qin Ming, how come you've lost weight?" Qin Ming saw me running towards him and instinctively wanted to open his arms, but he forcibly controlled himself and lowered them. He had lost weight, really a lot. He stood there, looking travel-worn. It seemed like he had rushed over overnight without stopping. There was an air of haste about him. I keenly sensed that something had happened, otherwise, Qin Ming wouldn't have lost so much weight these days. His back slightly hunched. I didn't dare to guess what hardships he had endured. The moment Qin Ming saw me, his first reaction was to smile. I saw that little canine-toothed smile again. He didn't answer the question, his eyes crinkling as he asked with a smile, "Little deskmate, why have you lost weight too?" Not far away, I saw the old butler and a group of bodyguards I'd never met before. Qin Ming's condition didn't seem like that of someone who'd won a battle. He suddenly rushed over at night, as if it were the last time he came to see me. I knew he hadn't stood up to his family. In my previous life, I only learned about his family background 10 years later. It was a status I wouldn't dare dream of reaching in 8 lifetimes. The moment I saw Mrs. Qin, I knew her family's stance. It almost completely extinguished that last sliver of delusion in me. How could he ever stand against his father? Yet this young man, this very boy before me, came to see me on a July night, cloaked in thick darkness, like a solitary hero. 33. The next day when I went to Qin Ming's house, it was the old butler who received me. The young master is still catching up on sleep. The moment the old master gave permission, this child rushed back without resting at all. Sigh. I took the black tea. The old butler seemed to have much to say, yet appeared to be holding back for some reason. After some deliberation, everything remained swallowed in silence. I found myself unconsciously touching the teacup, feeling unsettled. For a moment, no one spoke, and silence prevailed. In the profound stillness, the elderly man across suddenly spoke slowly. "I've raised the young master since he was a child, to be honest. Even the master and mistress don't understand his temperament as well as I do. Miss Chiu, the Qin family's assets are far more extensive than you can imagine. With the master and mistress having only this one child, the burden on the young master's shoulders in the future will be beyond your estimation." At his previous school, the young master beat up several children of company and conglomerate bosses. Relying on his family background, he ran wild at school, becoming utterly lawless. That's why the master got angry and sent him here. It's long been said that No. 2 High School has a strong academic atmosphere, so they hoped it would help temper the young master's character. No wonder Qin Ming seemed so punchable when he first arrived. Turns out he was always a little troublemaker. The old butler's tone suddenly softened. But I know the young master wasn't inherently a bad child. He just wanted to get his parents' attention this way. The young master never wanted to come here in the first place. The academic pressure was heavy. The environment was poor. He despised everything about this place when he first arrived, counting the days until his father would send him abroad to study. Gradually, the boy stopped mentioning it and began talking to me about his deskmate, that girl who hit him on the first day of school. The old butler smiled at me as he spoke, and I lowered my head in embarrassment. So you've known about me all along. Indeed, there aren't many who dare to hit the young master. The young master said his little deskmate studies extremely hard, more diligently than anyone around her. Though she's not among the top performers in class, she never dares to slack off for even a moment. The young master said that before he went to sleep, the girl was working on test papers, and when he woke up, she was still at it. That was the sleepiest time of day when everyone in class was dozing off, yet she remained awake, her eyes shining as she stared at the papers. Qin Ming once teased me, calling me a zealous believer in studying. At the time, I was struggling with math problems and only replied, "I don't even like studying at all." The young master asked me, "Why do some people dislike studying yet are so passionate about it?" I feel this question carries a bit of a let them eat cake tone. For ordinary families, studying is usually the only way out, and also the best way out. The old butler smiled and said he had told Qin Ming the same thing. Then suddenly one day, the young master's backpack finally started carrying textbooks. When I asked, "I learned that you were going to tutor him and test him on reciting texts the next day," he started laughing as he said this. The atmosphere is now harmonious and joyful. The old butler shared many stories from the past, including things about Qin Ming. Then he suddenly spoke to me in a more serious tone. "Miss Chiu, the young master has improved greatly now, and you deserve much of the credit. This is also what I reported to the master and madam. They are actually well aware of it. They also know why he suddenly changed his mind, opposed the family, and defied the master's arrangements. Even I can tell that this child really likes you, but Miss Chiu, in this world, affection alone cannot accomplish anything. I once heard a saying somewhere, don't listen to what a person says. Listen to what they leave unsaid." What the old butler left unsaid was probably, Qin Ming defied his parents' arrangements for your sake, but in their eyes, this affection holds no value. My heart ached, but then I suddenly realized something. In Qin Ming's previous life, he didn't leave until mid-semester of senior year. Why is there such urgency to send him away right after sophomore year in this life? This doesn't add up. Then I hurriedly raised my head, clinging to the last shred of hope. I remember Qin Ming saying that his parents planned for him to study abroad during senior year of high school. It's only just the end of sophomore year. Why, that was the original plan, but unexpectedly, the young master has matured much more recently. Seeing the change in him, the master decided to move it up. After all, the earlier one studies abroad, the better. I couldn't make out what he said after that. In that moment, my mind went completely blank, my ears ringing. I was completely stunned. It was me, all because of me, that Qin Ming left early. If I hadn't tutored him, he wouldn't have corrected his study attitude so quickly, his grades wouldn't have improved dramatically, and his father wouldn't have noticed. Accelerating the study abroad plan, the butterfly effect, it's really coming true. Nothing will change, absolutely nothing will change, but I've never regretted it. Chili never regrets her decisions. Before knowing Qin Ming, I didn't care who he was or what his background was, but after getting to know him and becoming very familiar with him, I realized he was a truly good, wonderful young man who deserved a grand and brilliant life. I also hoped he would grow and improve. Little did I know this would only hasten his departure. The old steward continued, "The mistress is quite open-minded. After discussing with the master, she proposed sending you abroad for studies as well. She's already picked a school in Paris. Ever since she saw that painting you made, her opinion of you changed." I suddenly spoke up, "But I heard Qin Ming isn't studying in that country. Even if I go, we'd still be thousands of miles apart. I'm not some naive 17 or 18-year-old autumn pear. I've lived a lifetime already. I'm no fool. I understand the underlying meaning in Madame Qin's words." I looked at him, enunciating each word clearly. Madame Qin never changed her mind, whether it's Paris or here. There's no difference. From start to finish, their goal was to separate me and Qin Ming. The old butler paused for a moment. "But this way, it's actually good for both of you, Miss Chiu. To be honest, Madame's suggestion is really excellent. You could further your studies in Paris, with your talent. Perhaps, there's no need. Thank you for your kindness, but I won't abandon my parents to go somewhere so far away alone. I'm their only child. Fame and fortune mean nothing to me compared to family. If fame and fortune were so important, why would I have willingly yielded them to Sun Ting in my previous life? Whether I go to Paris or not, it's my painting Moon in the Sky that will win the award. If I go now, what would be the point of living this life over again?" The old butler sighed and dropped the subject. The young master refused too. He tried every means to persuade his father. But the master is not someone so easily swayed. At first, he threatened to jump off a building to force the master's hand, which infuriated the master and led to a huge argument. Then he was locked up. and all sharp objects were confiscated. In the end, the young master simply went on a hunger strike, refusing to eat no matter who tried to persuade or deliver food to him. No wonder he came back looking so much thinner. My heart almost stopped hearing this, and I urgently pressed him. And then, did anything bad happen to him? The old butler brought this up with a heavy heart, and the way he looked at me even carried a hint of reproach. The boy went days without a drop of water and fainted after just a few days. Even the master, as hard-hearted as he was, got scared out of his wits. The mistress was so angry she had a big fight with the master, and in the end, they both compromised. The old butler looked at me and said his final words to me. They agreed to a 1-month delay, permitting Qin Ming to return and bid you farewell. I instantly gripped the armrest of the sofa tightly. 34. I sat dazedly before Moon in heaven for a long while. In the afternoon, my phone suddenly rang. It's Qin Ming. He only said one sentence. Little deskmate, do you want to go to Tibet with me? If I hadn't heard these things from the old butler, I would have thought he was joking with me, that it was a sudden whim, but after hearing the whole story, now I just feel like he was saying his last wish. So I made the bravest and most decisive decision of my life. Where should we meet? Qin Ming was stunned. These 2 days work for me, whenever you're free. But wait, will your parents agree? Let's go now. I held the phone with my shoulder while rummaging for a suitcase. Hold on, Xiaoming, I'll come find you after packing. After hanging up, even if Cutazwang scolds me, I'll still steal their suitcase and pack my bags without delay. I stubbornly insisted I must go, saying if he fought for me, why can't I take 2 steps toward him? Cutazwang firmly refused, blocking the doorway to prevent me from leaving. Dad, Qin Ming will be leaving in a month and won't be back for many years. It'll be 7 or 8 years before he returns. I can still go to Tibet many more times. And I can still travel to many places with you all, but I might not get another chance to go with him. We don't have much time left together. Qiu Dazhuang suddenly slid down from the door and wordlessly went to the bedroom. After a while, he came out holding a camera. I recognized it as his prized digital camera that he usually kept stored away. Qiu Dazhuang patted my head. Carrying cash when traveling is inconvenient. Take this card, the pin is your birthday. I heard Tibet is incredibly beautiful, so take lots of photos to show us when you return. Once your mother's heart condition improves, our family of 3 will make time to go together. Darling, help Lily pack her things. I stared blankly at the 2 of them discussing what to pack for me. My eyes welled up with warmth, and suddenly, I understood why I had lost the will to live in my past life after losing them. I will truly love Cutazwang and Laoli forever. An hour later, I flashed a bright smile at Qin Ming, ready to go anytime. Classmate Xiaoming. Qin Ming was still dazed, not fully recovered from the shock, but he curled his lips and said with a smile, let's go. Just as Qin Ming was about to book plane tickets, his father called, saying he had already sent a plane over. The suffocating feeling of being watched made me somewhat uncomfortable. A shadow passed over Qin Ming's face as he forced a smile, pretending not to care. Then our whole group set off for Tibetan Grand Procession. Why use Grand Procession to describe it? Because aside from the extra bodyguards Qin Ming had brought this time, another group of people disembarked from the plane that landed at the private airstrip behind the villa. Has Qin Ming always lived in this kind of environment? Oh, it wasn't this terrifying at first. It's because of me after he resisted his parents. They increased the number of overseers several times over. Thinking about this fills me with guilt. But fortunately, the old butler also went along this time. He's still strong and healthy, patting his chest while boasting that he once accompanied the old master to Tibet, so it's completely fine. 35. It was already late at night when we arrived in Tibet by transfer. As planned, our group rested at a hotel near Mount Namcha Barwa. When I lay down, my heart was still fluttering slightly with excitement. In my previous 28 years of life, I'd never left my province, let alone visited Tibet, the legendary place closest to the edge of the sky. I was so excited that I barely slept all night, my mind filled with recollections of the itinerary for the next half-month that the old butler had told us about on the road. Just thinking about it makes me so excited. I sent Qin Ming a text message, telling him to get ready and wake up early tomorrow to watch the sunrise. Before dawn the next day, I eagerly knocked on Qin Ming's door. He was already up and seemed slightly nervous when I barged in. Beyond the balcony lay the undulating Himalayan mountain range. Outside, the sky was already turning pale, though the sun hadn't risen yet. The old butler helped me set up my camera. Then he stood by watching as Qin Ming and I wandered around, smiling to the bodyguard beside him. Young people sure are energetic. Clouds gathered over the mountain range, slowly tinged pink by the eastern horizon. soon bursting into a magnificent sunrise glow. The sunrise is coming any moment now. We're about to witness the Golden Mountain illumination. I excitedly tugged at Qin Ming's sleeve and shouted, watching it, watching it. We held our breaths in anticipation. After long minutes, the red sun finally broke through the clouds. At that moment, no, almost instantly, the highest mountain peak suddenly changed color. It's lighting up, look. It's lighting up. The people behind took out binoculars. And the nearby passengers were also excited. Golden light spread downward in large swathes, gradually enveloping the entire mountain range in its glow. The snow-white mountains now glow golden and radiant. The entire sky is a sea of golden-red clouds, with rosy golden light stretching and overlapping, turning the snow-capped peaks into golden mountains, as if stepping into a fairyland. At that moment, a verse by Susher from class suddenly flashed through my mind. Lamenting the brevity of our lives, envying the endless flow of the Yangtze, wishing to roam with flying immortals, embracing the moon to last eternally. As Qin Ming finished speaking, I turned to look at him, then we laughed together. I saw the Golden Mountain bathed in sunlight. This would become a viral meme 10 years later. As I gazed at Qin Ming, he corrected, we saw the Golden Mountain bathed in sunlight together. They say those who witness the Golden Mountain bathed in sunlight will be blessed with good fortune for an entire year. I persistently finished reciting the trending phrase. Qin Ming tilted his head slightly, but I feel we're not just lucky for a year, we're lucky for a lifetime. I saw him flash that little canine tooth again. Yes, then let's be lucky for a lifetime, then be lucky for a lifetime, Qin Ming, so we can admire this magnificent landscape together. I gazed at Qin Ming as the morning breeze lifted his bangs, the golden light of the sunlit snow-capped mountains reflected in the young man's eyes. His familiar features suddenly carried an unfamiliar, breathtaking charm. Qin Ming was handsome. I thought so in my past life too. The boyish innocence was fading from his face. This time when he returned, his expression held not just weariness but also the composure and calmness of someone who'd grown up overnight. It was as if a gust of wind came from nowhere, scattering the golden fragments in his eyes, all falling into the wild-growing wasteland of my heart. No prairie fire can burn it utterly. The spring wind blows it back to life. A single spark can start a prairie fire. Not far away, the old butler made a silent gesture to the bodyguard beside him, then quietly pressed the shutter. 36. These past 2 days. Qin Ming and I simply turned a blind eye to those plainclothes bodyguards and enjoyed ourselves as we pleased. We had Tibetan-style breakfast on Barker Street, watched pilgrims from afar pay their respects, and raised our cameras to document Tibetan customs and culture. Then, at my strong insistence, Qin Ming changed into Tibetan attire. When he saw the shop owner putting on hair accessories and preparing to apply makeup, he jumped up in alarm, spotting me with the camera. He shamefully tried to cover my lens in embarrassment. Too bad I managed to snap the shot in time. I showed the freshly taken photos to the old butler with a laugh, and he promptly pulled me into the frame, handing me a Tibetan robe of similar color to change into. Then it was his turn to gleefully photograph me with the camera. Little deskmate, you look great, really beautiful. Don't cover your face, come on. Smile for the camera. The boss stroked his chin. Would you two like to take a couple's photo shoot? Me, Qin Ming, as we both suddenly turned our heads in unison, looking slightly awkward and unsure how to respond. The old butler chuckled and pulled the boss aside, whispering to arrange one for them. Qin Ming's styling was done quickly. When he lifted the curtain to enter, a stylist was applying my makeup. She brought out a pile of brightly colored hair ribbons and necklaces for me to choose from. Just as I was suffering from decision paralysis, Qin Ming pointed at the bright yellow one. How about yellow? She'd definitely look pretty with a yellow hair ribbon. The shop assistant held it up against me. You're right, your boyfriend has excellent taste. Of course, pears are yellow after all. So pretty. I turned my head angrily, only to see Qin Ming covering half his face with his sleeve while stifling laughter, while the Tibetan sister was braiding my hair. Qin Ming kept watching with his chin propped. She quickly finished one braid by weaving in the hairband, and when she was about to start another, Qin Ming interrupted her. He raised his hand eagerly, saying he'd learned how and wanted to try. Then the sister smiled and gave him her spot. I felt a bit uncomfortable. When my sister sat close to braid my hair, I felt nothing, but with Qin Ming, I kept my legs together, sat up straight, feeling somewhat nervous. Qin Ming must be over 1.8 meters tall, while I'm only 1.66 meters, from a distance. It looked like I was nestled in his arms, a strange yet familiar, youthful yet transitioning into manhood, faintly teasing my most sensitive nerves with his masculine scent. I could even distinctly feel the warmth of Qin Ming's fingertips brushing through my hair and grazing my earlobe. Moreover, he was braiding very slowly with slightly trembling hands. To ease the awkwardness, I made small talk. Xiao Ming. Are you really good at braiding hair? You're not just using me as a guinea pig. Are you? Of course I am. This isn't my first time braiding. Don't worry, deskmate. I'll definitely make it look extra pretty for you. Not your first time. Then who did you braid for the first time? My little cousin's Barbie doll. I'll hit you if it doesn't look good. Qin Ming coughed. While I was looking in the mirror, my sister came in holding a forehead ornament. Seeing my other braid, she smiled and complimented it, making Qin Ming beam with pride. Then he pulled me and spun me around in front of everyone, showing off what he called his braiding skills. What could the Qin family's bodyguards say? Of course they had to bow their heads, clap enthusiastically, and praise their young master's excellent braiding. Qin Ming was practically being lifted to the heavens with all the praise. Passers-by among the tourists glanced at us. Oh, what a handsome young couple, upon hearing those words. Qin Ming straightened his back proudly and boldly took me shopping in this foreign land. I could almost see his tail wagging behind him. During the photo shoot, we were both quite shy at first, not daring to move our hands freely, while the photographer kept guiding us through the poses. Come on, don't be so shy, get closer, closer, your movements are too stiff, smile, and don't make it look so fake, unable to bear it any longer. Qin Ming pressed my head against his chest and glanced at the photographer. Is this better? I stumbled and fell right onto him. The photographer pressed the shutter. The moment the white light flashed, I heard a violent heartbeat. 37. On the second day, we rode horses by Lake Yamdrok. On the third day, after acclimating to the high altitude, we headed to the Potala Palace, gasping for breath. I watched the energetic old butler leading us by a large margin, with a group of bodyguards following closely behind. So, the physical condition of elderly people is truly a mystery. Walk slowly, no rush, let's stop and catch our breath first, otherwise you might get altitude sickness again later. Qin Ming reached out his hand to me. I took 2 deep breaths and grasped his hand, finally reached the summit of Potala Palace, the legendary palace built for Princess Wenqing, towering majestically and piercing the sky. Having never been exposed to Tibetan culture before, I wandered around with great enthusiasm. While admiring the sights, the bodyguards beside me suddenly turned in unison. The sharp-eared Qin Ming immediately turned around, staring in surprise at the robed monk who had appeared behind us unnoticed. It was an elderly man with white temples, wearing the authentic ochre robes from art pigments, the simplest and most unassuming attire, showing neither ostentation nor pretension. He lowered his eyes, palms pressed together, sutras chanted within the palace halls, sandalwood incense swirling, distant bell tones echoing. Suddenly I had the illusion that he seemed to be gazing at me from afar. The monk approached us, offered a bow, and signaled to the nearby bodyguards that he meant no harm. He nodded with lowered brows, his weathered face bearing a serene yet aloof kindness, calmly pressing his palms together toward us. The morning dove brings glad tidings. The incense burns strong. Last night's divination revealed heaven's will. An old friend comes this way. Qin Ming slightly furrowed his brows, clearly puzzled. What guidance does the master offer? The monk still kept his eyes downcast. Patron, please step aside for a word. As the monk departed, he cast a deep glance at me. Qin Ming looked at the old man before him with confusion. The monk slowly raised his eyes, gazed at him peacefully, and began to speak. Mr. Qin, this is our second meeting. 38. The sun is rising. Outside the Potala Palace, golden threads gradually engulf the Buddhist niches, while Tibetan monks chant prayers. The young man before them wears only an expression of utter emptiness. Master, I've never met you before. The Tibetan monk lowered his eyes in silent meditation. The first time we met, you climbed 1,000 steps carrying an urn, traveling thousands of miles to pay your respects. Back then, this elderly gentleman was following behind you too. He pointed at the old butler. Those hawk-like sharp eyes still maintained high alert. Intently watching this scene, Qin Ming widened his eyes slightly. Master, I can assure you this is my first time here, though I've attended many funerals. Unless it's for immediate family, I wouldn't. Perhaps you've met my late father. The Tibetan monk listened calmly, his ancient well-like eyes gazing at him, making it impossible not to believe his words. Mr. Qin, we have indeed met before, though only in this humble monk's dreams. It may sound absurd, but recently at the third watch of night during meditation, I keep having the same recurring dream. You personally told me your name in my dream. Before coming here, you went through great efforts to inquire about me, and the very day after I returned from my travels, you came to visit in person. The Tibetan monk accurately recited Qin Ming's name and birth details. You sow the cause, you reap the consequence. I too have been pondering why I dreamed of such a scene. It felt as real as if it had truly happened, but seeing you today, you appear much younger than in the dream. Qin Ming instinctively followed up with his question. How old was I in your dream? He appears to be about 27 or 28 years old. Master, are you seeing the future? Do you mean that in 10 years, a loved one of mine will pass away? The Tibetan monk shook his head. It cannot be discerned, it cannot be spoken of, it cannot be seen. This humble monk does not intend to divine the will of heaven, nor do I sell methods to prolong life. I do not know whether it was the past or the future. You once asked me in a dream whether humans can be reincarnated, how Buddha defines good and evil, and whether killers will fall into the Avicii hell. You asked me how much merit the living must accumulate to atone for the sins of the dead and seek heaven's forgiveness. Qin Ming was surprised. In my dream, was I trying to plead for that deceased person to ascend to heaven? The Tibetan monk smiled faintly, his face bearing a rare complexity of expression. No, you said you only wished to beg for an afterlife for that person. Who is that person? Cannot be discerned, cannot be spoken, must not be spoken. The past cannot be undone, but the future can be changed. Though I don't know what the current situation is, since this humble monk has now met you. It means we're still in a state where change is possible. However, Mr. Qin, I must say, no matter how you look at it, this is a dead end, cannot be changed. With that said, this humble monk has matters to attend to and won't take up any more of your time. The Tibetan monk finally pressed his palms together, nodded toward Qin Ming, and turned to leave. This time it was Qin Ming's turn to call out to him. But the gray-templed monk moved swiftly, vanishing in the blink of an eye. The old steward and others hurried forward, while the monks in the hall clasped their hands together, signaling that the elder monk had instructed no disturbances. I stealthily moved closer and tugged at Qin Ming's sleeve. What did that monk say to you? Qin Ming seemed distracted, and when asked, he just shook his head. Nothing, just something strange. The old butler worriedly felt his forehead. Could it be some kind of curse? Afterwards, the old butler hurriedly took us back to the hotel. Called over a dozen doctors to examine him one by one, and even brought in several lamas to check for any issues. Fortunately, Qin Ming was unharmed, but the old butler still wasn't reassured and ordered him to stay at the hotel for these 2 days, only allowing him to leave after confirming there were no issues during further observation. 39. The next morning, I listened to Qin Ming complaining about boredom outside the door, pestering the old butler with every trick in the book, wheedling, begging, and acting shamelessly, using all 18 martial arts techniques, only to have them all coldly rejected by the old butler. Even through the door, I can vividly imagine the child pouting, rolling around, and whining, just like when they used to flash their little fawn tooth at me, eagerly begging for homework help. Simply thinking about it is utterly adorable. Who would have thought Qin Ming had such an unexpectedly cute side to him? Ever since tutoring began and he stopped copying my homework, getting to witness his dramatic tantrums again has become a rare treat. Smiling to myself as I eavesdrop, I spread out my drawing paper and begin mixing colors. Outside the glass window of my room lies a snow-capped mountain. These days away have left me refreshed and free from nightmares. The golden sunrise over the mountains a few days ago stirred something within me, just as I put down my pen and stretched. A voice suddenly appeared beside me. Little deskmate, is this the golden sunrise over the mountains? I was so startled that I almost fell off the stool. Qin Ming quickly reached out to steady me. Once I get into the painting zone, I tend to lose myself and forget about people and things around me. Unbeknownst to me, Qin Ming had pulled up a stool and was watching me paint with his chin propped in his hand. He watched quietly for as long as I painted, exceptionally quiet. Well behaved by my side without disturbing me. I didn't even notice when he sneaked over. I nodded blankly in agreement while Qin Ming stared at me unblinkingly. After a while, he suddenly spoke. Little deskmate, you didn't cry this time. Wait, who told you that you must cry after finishing a painting? Ah. He reached out his hand as if wanting to touch the snowy mountain in the painting, but didn't place it on the surface, leaving it suspended in midair. This one looks nice, he suddenly said. I prefer this one. Not that the other one isn't good looking, it's quite nice too, it's just, this one feels brighter. That one, moon in heaven, is too oppressive, too gloomy, I added. Before Qin Ming could voice any opinion, I pointed at this piece and said, you like it? Then I'll give it to you when I finish painting. Qin Ming's eyes lit up. Really? Then, like a child who just got their favorite toy, he couldn't take his eyes off it. Examining the painting from left to right, I must hang it in the most prominent spot. I'll put it in my room. He immediately decided. Hey deskmate, what's the name of this painting? This really stumped me. As I was racking my brains trying to come up with a suitable name, Qin Ming carefully observed my expression and tentatively asked, I have an idea. What do you think about calling this painting Dawn? That might work. But is there any special meaning behind it? At the moment when sunlight gilds the mountain peaks, right at sunrise, calling it dawn would be fitting. Moreover, the golden light in this painting makes one feel full of hope. The past is dark and unattainable, but the path ahead shines bright and brilliant. Wait a minute, Xiao Ming, have you secretly been watching Empresses in the Palace? Qin Ming coughed abruptly, trying to cover his tracks. Besides, this name complements yours perfectly. May our future paths be bright and brilliant. What wonderful symbolism. Wait a minute, my name, Qin Ming, you must have heard the back row girls gossiping about the Dawn CP, didn't you? How could he say that out loud? However, no one could really oppose him, under the collective voting resolution, though honestly, with everyone being his people, what was the point of voting? Dawn was ultimately decided as the name for this sunlit golden mountain painting. After completing the painting, Qin Ming carefully wrote two names neatly on the back of the canvas, Qiuli, Qin Ming, framed and sealed. Before we left Tibet, we hung prayer flags under the snow-capped mountains one last time. Qin Ming urged the bodyguards to buy a large bundle, then led the way by running forward with a prayer flag until he reached the highest point. After surveying the area, he nodded in satisfaction at the chosen spot. I just tied the prayer flags and devoutly pressed my palms together to make a wish. Little deskmate, I've negotiated with the management here. Our prayer flags won't be taken down for decades. Qiuli, turn around and look. I turned around, and vast expanses of prayer flags came cascading down over my head. Qin Ming stood atop the colorful prayer flags, positioned on high ground. Gazing into the distance as the wind from the snow-capped mountains brushed past his brow, a young man with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, the scenery perfectly splendid. The locals say that each time the wind flutters the prayer flags, it's equivalent to chanting scriptures once, and making a plea to the deities once more. What did I pray to the deities for that day? I prayed for my parents' health, happiness, and freedom from illness forever. I pray for a peaceful and worry-free life, never to repeat past mistakes. Finally, I beg for the gods' mercy, to forgive my sins and not let them affect Qin Ming's lover in this lifetime. I pray for his safety and happiness. I prayed for 3 wishes. 3 wishes from one prayer flag. Little deskmate, you're being a bit greedy. Don't laugh at me. Look at yourself. You bought so many prayer flags. How many wishes did you pray for? 1. I only prayed for 1 wish. What? So many? So many prayer flags. They're everywhere. You only made 1 wish. Of course I went for the biggest one. I was afraid the deities might not see it otherwise. I only have this 1 wish to make, and this is the only time I'll pray for blessings. 40. After returning, during the remaining half-month, Qin Ming suddenly changed the tutoring plan, saying he would intensively coach me in science subjects. He twirled the pen in his hand, tapped on a major problem, and poked my forehead. Little deskmate, oh little deskmate, this is the 3rd time doing the same type of problem. You, without me in the future. The conversation would always abruptly stop at this point. Qin Ming's smile would instantly fade, and his previously cheerful eyes would suddenly fill with melancholy. My heart ached with bitterness, but I forced a smile and handed him the ruler. Then teach me once more. How do you draw auxiliary lines for this type? Both Qin Ming and I were deliberately avoiding this topic. It was a scar, one we were powerless to stop from festering. It was the blade of a guillotine poised to fall. Recently, Qin Ming has been receiving phone calls with increasing frequency during tutoring sessions. These days, whether calculating math problems or agonizing over political questions where every option seems correct, he's frequently interrupted by phone calls, from a distance. It seems Qin Ming is talking to his father on the phone. Every time their conversations end in arguments, Qin Ming always had a dark expression when he came back. When I asked him about it, he would just brush me off by saying it was nothing. Then he would pretend nothing was wrong and continue explaining the problems to me. I knew Qin Ming didn't want to leave. The closer the date got, the stronger this restlessness of his became. I didn't dare to think too deeply about why he didn't want to leave. Though I was also reluctant to let him go, I could only repeatedly solve complex calculation problems to mask my anxiety. I knew he would leave. Sooner or later, he would have to go. I prayed for that day to come a little later. It wasn't until that afternoon after makeup class when Qin Ming suddenly stopped and turned to look at me packing my textbooks. Meeting his gaze, I suddenly had a bad premonition. Qin Ming stared fixedly at me, words rising to his throat several times before being swallowed back. Qiuli, I have to leave. This day had finally come. I clutched the straps of my backpack, smoothing out non-existent wrinkles. So soon? Have you settled on a date? He spoke with difficulty. It's settled. When, tomorrow evening, my father is sending someone to pick me up. I suddenly looked up at him, feeling somewhat wronged. Why didn't you tell me earlier? He avoided my gaze. I couldn't bring myself to say it. My dad gave me an ultimatum. His flight arrives tomorrow. I can't stay any longer. It hurts so much. I feel like there's a huge stone pressing on my chest. I can barely breathe. Qin Ming is leaving, and he'll be gone for at least 5 or 6 years. 5 or 6 years. Huh. Such a long time is enough for everything to change. Will he still remember me by then? I really can't recall how I kept my composure that afternoon. I said it was fine, but I won't make it to your birthday this year. I thought of that painting. I finished painting Moon in the Sky. I'll bring it to you tomorrow. You must wait for me. Then I ran away without looking back. If I don't leave now, I might start crying. I never thought I'd cross paths with Qin Ming in this lifetime, and originally, I just wanted to earn his tutoring fees. I clearly knew he was leaving all along. Clearly, I knew it from the very beginning. Qin Ming's father sent a private jet to pick him up. They called it picking up. But with all those burly men around him, I think it might have been more like kidnapping. Qin Ming held the picture frame, looking at me earnestly as he repeatedly promised he would definitely return. Little deskmate, wait for me to come back. You must wait for me. With a hoarse voice, I said I would wait, and that he must come back. Before turning away, he secretly slipped me a bank card and a phone. Qin Ming has left. 41. Qin Ming is gone, but life goes on, and studies must continue. As seasons changed and we entered senior year, academic pressure suddenly increased. Deskmates came and went, while stacks of test papers on our desks grew taller and taller. Under high pressure, I've gradually stopped thinking about Qin Ming. There's simply no time, as senior year has truly exhausted me like a dog. The stress has kept me from drawing for so long. Occasionally while solving problems, I lift my head from the books, nearly burying my desk. Dazedly wondering if my past life was just a dream, the gossip about the Liming CP eventually faded into the river of history, as classmates cycled through one rumor after another. No one mentions Qin Ming anymore. Now the gossip on everyone's lips is about Sun Ting and Lin Luoshan. If it weren't for seeing Lin Luoshan looking so miserable, and with classmates spreading rumors left and right with such vivid details, I might have actually believed it. Why you? Stay away from me. Keep your distance. I dodged Lin Luoshan in disgust, keeping at least a meter between us. Come on, Shelley, you're not really buying into that nonsense, are you? Lin Luoshan wore a wounded expression. Look at you. Used to follow me around like a puppy when we were kids, and now you won't even acknowledge your big brother. I greeted them amiably. Go to hell. Let's talk business. About what you reminded me last time. I've discovered in the past couple of days. Sun Ting secretly kept 2 of Sun Yanyan's paintings. Lin Luoshan's expression turned serious. There's a lot of art homework, so Sun Yanyan might not have noticed her paintings were withheld, but I carefully examined the 2 pieces Sun Ting submitted for grading. They were Sun Yanyan's earlier practice works. As for the teacher, they were buried at the very bottom. I had to sneak a look. I understood. Sun Ting's father had already colluded with the teachers. I patted him on the shoulder. Classmate Lin, think of a way. Lin Luoshan stroked his chin, lost in thought. I've already warned Sun Yanyan, but with my current capabilities, I still can't stand against Sun Ting. Right now, I don't have any evidence to report either. All we can do is prepare for the worst and leave the rest to fate. Lin Luoshan said not to worry, he would figure something out. It was a rainy night, and I was doing homework in the house. Suddenly, I heard a loud clang from the outer room. A sense of foreboding welled up in my heart, and I hurried out. I went out and saw my mother lying on the ground. Beside her hand was a spilled water cup. 42. I banged loudly on the doors of neighbors upstairs and downstairs. They were woken up angrily and came out, seeing me crying uncontrollably and my mother lying unconscious on the ground with the door wide open. With the help of several adults, they lifted my mother up, and the neighbors were busy finding a car to take her to the hospital. But as we stepped out of the building, a torrential downpour was raging outside, and the water in the low-lying old residential area had already risen to our calves. The underground garage door is flooded too. Old Zhang and old Wang, come with me to find a car. Saving lives is the priority. I held my mother in my arms, crying as I watched the stormy night with lightning and thunder raging before us. The rain today was terrifyingly heavy. Qiu Dazhuang had just left on a business trip 2 days ago. Why did all these unlucky things have to happen today? Call 120. Get an ambulance. The rain is too heavy. The garage door won't open. That white car up ahead seems to belong to Unit 3 in the front building. Does anyone know the owner? Please contact them. This is the only car parked in a spot that hasn't been flooded. Hurry, hurry, call 120, call 120 now. Got through, the hospital said to wait a bit, they'll come soon. It's tough driving over in this heavy rain. I think old Cho's wife is having a heart attack. She needs to get to the hospital ASAP. Is there a doctor in this neighborhood? Heavy rain, traffic at a standstill. The panicked crowd chattering noisily with no one taking charge. The one who should take charge is me, her daughter, but right now, apart from staring at my mother's pale, bloodless face, the flooded road ahead, and the neighbors working together to pry open the garage door, I can't do anything at all. Something brushed across my face, pattering onto the ground. I couldn't tell if it was rain or tears, because dwelling on that distinction meant nothing to me now. This is the second time, Chili, the second time. For the second time, Chili. Are you just going to stand there and watch your mother die before your eyes? Though I couldn't control myself, I desperately pinched my own flesh to force myself to stay conscious, gritting my teeth and trembling as I supported my mother, then tapped the shoulder of Auntie Lou, the loudest voice in the room. Auntie, tell Uncle Wang and his wife to go to the building ahead and look for the person with the white car. Ask him for help. Have Uncle Lee stop trying to pry open the garage door and go to the community clinic to fetch a stretcher instead. If we really can't find a car in the end, we'll carry him there ourselves, quickly. Aunt Lou glanced at me. Alright, that's the only way now. Old Wang, you go. Suddenly, a screeching engine sound came from ahead. A pitch-black car came speeding through the heavy rain. The car stopped in front of us. A sleek supercar with beautiful lines. Great, finally, a car. Driver. Please help, driver. Could you take someone to the hospital? The car window rolled down. When I saw that face clearly, I forgot to speak. It was Qin Ming. His tousled hair was soaked, his eyes bloodshot, staring straight at me. 43. I didn't have time to call out to him. Together with others, we carried my mom into the car, and I quickly got in after her. After some discussion among the neighbors, the uncles and aunts next door volunteered to come with us. Shaoli is just a kid. How could he handle this? You all go back first. We'll keep an eye on things. I lowered my head to wipe the rainwater from my mom's face while Qin Ming drove up front. I had no time to ask him how he came back, nor why he suddenly appeared, and couldn't even ask if he was old enough to drive. But strangely, Qin Ming drove with such skill that it didn't seem like he'd just learned. His coordination of the steering wheel and accelerator was practiced. Like an old hand, he drove extremely fast. Like a sleek black panther darting through the rainy night, mature and swift. My mind went completely blank at that moment. My mom was being wheeled into the emergency room. Qin Ming was on the phone on the other side, and I caught fragments like mobilize personnel and send DR, go over. As soon as he finished the call, I quickly averted my gaze, pretending I hadn't been eavesdropping. He walked straight toward me. Qin Ming was wearing a black shirt with disheveled hair. After more than 3 months apart, he seemed like a different person, exuding a composed demeanor. I seemed to catch a glimpse of the future Qin CEO, elegant yet sensual in his bespoke black suit. The remaining points might be due to the still youthful face of this young man, which doesn't quite match. Qin Ming seemed to have grown taller, standing there looking down at me. Chioli, thank goodness I made it in time. His eyes were rimmed red as if he'd been crying, staring fixedly at me with what seemed like a smile. It's not too late yet, Chioli. 44. Across the ocean, the storm rages against this ancient castle. The unlit room becomes bright as day after the lightning flash. Dressed entirely in black, Qin Ming stared fixedly at the painting on the wall. Outside, the sky rumbled with thunder, dark clouds pressing down as the world was stripped of all light, transitioning from dusk to midnight in the blink of an eye. It happened almost instantaneously. The painting titled Heavenly Moon emitted an eerie glow from its deep blue oceanic brushstrokes. When the lightning crisscrossed and illuminated, the scene was dazzling with flowing colors. In the very end, Qin Ming opened his eyes. Those were eyes that didn't match a youth's demeanor, eyes weathered by the storms of time. 45. My mom has safely made it through the critical period. I quickly called my dad to reassure him, but Qin Ming looked at me in astonishment. Your dad is still alive. Of course he's still alive. Why are you talking so strangely today? The nurse said we could visit my mom once she's out of the critical period, and told us to go rest and come back tomorrow. When Qin Ming was taking me back, it seemed like he had a lot to say to me, but after meeting my puzzled gaze, he repeatedly kept silent. In the end, he only muttered one sentence under his breath, as long as you're alive. As long as you're still alive. The Qin Ming who came back was so strange. My father also rushed to the hospital the next day and discussed my mother's condition with the doctor. He sat by the bed sighing, Lily's heart disease has relapsed. The doctor said she needs to stay in the hospital for observation for a while longer. I don't know how it relapsed. The doctor said it doesn't look good. She needs a heart transplant. My vision darkened as I asked how this could happen. I got a second chance at life. I didn't study art. My exam papers weren't switched. My father didn't go to see Sun Ting's dad and get pushed off. My dad didn't die, so why did my mother's heart disease still relapse? I immediately asked the crucial question, how much will it cost? The doctor said it might cost over 300,000 yuan. For now, there's no suitable heart donor available. You just focus on your studies, kid. Don't worry about these things. Qi Dazhuang seemed to age instantly. I'll figure out a way to get the money. If necessary, I'll sell the house and borrow from everywhere. We'll definitely have enough. It felt like I was suddenly transported back to that year when I was begging everyone to lend me money for my mother's treatment. Can't escape it. Still can't escape it after all. 300,000 is nowhere near enough. The exorbitant daily medical and hospitalization fees, plus the substantial post-operative recovery costs. That outdated residential building in our less-than-ideal neighborhood location won't fetch much money anyway. Selling paintings. Sun Ting's breakthrough moment came 5 years later at a competition. The most recent event in that series just concluded, and the next competition won't be until next year. But my mother can't wait until next year. Without competition accolades to gild them, nobody buys my paintings. Modern painters struggle to gain recognition. Without fame, your artwork might as well be a piece of cloth. I walked back all the way in utter despair. I can't just sit here waiting for death. Absolutely not. History repeats its tragedy. What butterfly effect? If given another chance, should I just stand by and watch the accident repeat itself? I took leave the next day and skipped school to go to the construction site where money came fastest. I told the contractor I urgently needed money for my mom's surgery. After much pleading, he overlooked my underage status and agreed to pay me the standard rate. I need money. I'm desperately short of cash right now. I even felt I might resort to crime for money. After that day, my mind was consumed with thoughts of quick cash, repeatedly testing legal boundaries. I was obsessed, but I can't help it. I'm just too scared, too terrified. School, college entrance exams, these things don't matter to me anymore. I could borrow money, but my mom's illness is a bottomless pit. If something goes wrong, who would keep lending you money? What if my mom loses the will to live because she doesn't want to burden us? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I was caught just after working for a morning. Qin Ming, looking refined in a clean suit and tie, and I, covered in dust with grimy hands, stared at each other in silence. Qin Ming looked furious, but he tried his best to control it and spoke to me as calmly as possible. Go back, Chili, go back and focus on your studies. Preparing for the college entrance exam is what you should be doing right now. I was also very calm as I said I wouldn't go back. Qin Ming, I'll have other chances to take exams again, but I only have one mother. I shouted at him. My family is my absolute bottom line. I don't care about my future anymore. I don't care about university either. I just want my parents to live well. What college entrance exam, what studying, none of that matters. I want my mom back. I screamed until my voice broke into sobs, still trying to wipe my tears with my hands. Qin Ming pinned down my grimy hands while using his other hand to dry my tears, speaking calmly. You go back and focus on school. I'll handle your mom's situation. I'll find the heart donor. You don't need to worry about anything. I wanted to say something about not accepting unearned favors, that he couldn't just use his parents' money without permission, but he suddenly pulled me into a crushing hug, holding me so tightly it felt like he wanted to merge me into his body. My neck felt warm as liquid trickled down it. Qin Ming was crying. Qin Ming was actually crying. I'd never seen him weep so bitterly. Little deskmate, you must pass the exams this lifetime. You absolutely can't fail again. Whether it's Sun Ting or Wan Ting, no one can swap your exam papers anymore. No one can steal what's yours. This time, no one can take away what rightfully belongs to you. My raised hand froze midair. All the words in my heart condensed into one enormous exclamation mark. Qin Ming is back. Did the Qin Ming from my past life also get reborn? 46. Qiuli never in her wildest dreams imagined that after she set fire to the CEO Qin's fiancé and then took her own life, he wouldn't be so enraged as to scatter her ashes to the wind. Instead, in silent contemplation, he preserved her ashes, traveling thousands of miles to Tibet, cradling the urn, climbing countless steps. He finally met the High Lama, through extensive charitable works aiding the impoverished and lavish restorations of all sacred temples and churches, accumulating boundless merit. He sought for her favorable rebirth. A fleeting glimpse outside the art studio window over a decade ago. He only remembered the girl's retreating figure and the radiant world on the canvas. Later, when he pointed at that painting and asked about its creator, Sun Ting shyly and silently admitted, "The artist beautiful, her art equally so." From then on, the young man began pursuing her ardently. A decade later, when the graceful painter emerged spectacularly, he glimpsed an old acquaintance's features in the artwork his mother brought home, reunited once more. The emergence of Moon in Heaven utterly captivated him, as if some unknown magic compelled him to kneel on one knee. Enchanted by her talent and beauty, love arrived so inexplicably yet fervently. Qin Ming's marriage proposal was equally willful. Having endured his father's strict demands and shackles since childhood, he couldn't wait to break free from the cage once his wings were fully grown. Reuniting with Sun Ting gave him the perfect reason to reject the arranged marriage partner his father had chosen. As the wedding day approached, he once stood before the painting for a long time, gazing at Moon in Heaven over and over. For some reason, he found it hard to associate the artwork with Sun Ting. Though he loved that painting, he never really fantasized about Sun Ting wearing a wedding dress for him, but secretly relished seeing his father's furious yet helpless expression. He thought it might as well be this way. Marrying Sun Ting would essentially mean acquiring all her past, present, and even future paintings. The reputation of a renowned artist could also bring benefits to the corporation, so why not? As for love and marriage, if it works, make do. If not, just divorce. Why complicate things? Qin Ming never expected an accident to occur before the wedding. The bride is dead. The tabloids exploded, and social media was nearly paralyzed for days. The final blaze burned away revealing the true author to daylight, a grand, earth-shattering reversal, a decade-long imposture culminating in a death tinged with regret. So it was you who created this masterpiece that shocked the world. What a pity that truth and justice arrived too late. On that rainy night, Qin Ming opened his eyes to Moon in Heaven, memories from 2 lifetimes intertwined as he collapsed in the ancient castle, burning with fever for 3 days. The moment he woke up, Qin Ming found himself back in his homeland after crossing oceans overnight. He couldn't leave Chiuli, his little deskmate, the very deskmate who had met with tragedy the year he left in their past life. Exam papers swapped, art school rejection, father's death, mother's passing. In just half a year, his entire life turned upside down, plummeting into the mud with no chance of recovery. He absolutely must not let Chiuli go through this again in her lifetime. Because according to the information he later obtained, in the 10 years after Chiuli's parents passed away, she lost everything trying to save her dying mother, ended up homeless living under bridges, got scammed while renting, escaped gang violence. Having lost all hope in life, she took the cheapest labor jobs, suffered workplace injuries on assembly lines, received meager compensation before being laid off, unable to do heavy labor afterwards. She scavenged streets with elderly waste pickers to survive, even fainting from heatstroke on the streets. During what should have been the most beautiful years of a young woman's life, Chiuli lived in utter misery and despair. It seemed she no longer wanted to live properly. Meanwhile, the thief struts through the streets, basking in the limelight as the department's belle at the finest art academy, reveling in applause and bouquets. Sun Ting's university life was utterly pampered, a delicate greenhouse flower with countless protectors, doted on by indulgent parents, sheltered from all storms and worries. The world could be so unjust. Frowning over the documents, Qin Ming finally understood how Chiuli could have created Moon in Heaven, a work brimming with despair and anguish. In her 5th year, Chiuli accidentally encountered the admissions officer from back then, at a tavern. He was boastfully regaling other parents with his heroic feat of swapping exam papers to alter destinies. Overhearing this, her eyes burned with fury. When the crowd dispersed, she cornered him with a liquor bottle in hand. Upon learning the truth of that year, Chiuli nearly went mad. By the time she regained consciousness, she had already been taken to the police station. The admissions officer had his head broken by her, and the guilty yet terrified party chose to settle privately before fleeing. Chiuli sat through the entire night without sleep, her eyes bloodshot. She had brewed a plan for revenge, applying as a studio assistant, designing a reunion with Sun Ting, creating competition-worthy artwork at the critical moment of the art contest, deliberately letting Sun Ting see it, providing opportunities for theft while feigning ignorance. Repeating the cycle, she elevated Sun Ting to the pantheon. Until the emergence of the masterpiece Moon in Heaven, it was only much later that Qin Ming learned that during his dates with Sun Ting, a gaunt figure had silently followed them several times. What was going through Chiuli's empty, lifeless eyes at that moment? Was it confusion about her former classmate being with Sun Ting, or was she thinking about finally being free? No one will ever know. She's dead now. And these things will forever remain unknown. He didn't have many impressions of Chili. They were desk mates for just a few short weeks before she transferred to the art class. Back then, his gaze never lingered on this quiet, introverted, ordinary girl. A young boy's gaze always follows the most dazzling scenery, Qin Ming tried to recall, but his memories were sparse. Chili was the desk mate he spent the least time with, neither pretty nor outstanding, with average grades, few words, and little interaction between them. During their first meeting, faced with his excessive teasing and the class's laughter, she only flushed red, clenched her pen tightly, and endured the humiliation without uttering a word. Chili was utterly ordinary, with nothing particularly memorable about her. How could the unruly young man ever notice her? But the moment he learned the whole truth, he genuinely felt anger for Chili. All his goodwill towards Sun Ting instantly turned into negative numbers. He couldn't believe there existed such a vile, stupid villain in this world who could bully and harm others to death while remaining shamelessly self-satisfied. Qin Ming didn't even care that he, as Sun Ting's almost married fiancé, had also been humiliated and implicated. He went to the morgue and saw Chili's body, emaciated to the bone. He overheard the forensic examiners discussing, even if it weren't suicide, Chili's young body was already suffering from organ failure. And she wouldn't have lived more than a few years anyway. He was thinking about what more he could do for Chili. The youthful infatuation of his younger days should have belonged to Chili. These paintings and honors should have belonged to Chili as well. Perhaps even the true artist he intended to propose to should have been Chili. But this girl died, pitiful yet clever, having long planned her own death. She drank the poison without hesitation and departed peacefully. What more could he do for her beyond a grand funeral and official recognition from the Art Association? What recompense remained? Pray for her next life. May she never encounter thieves again in her next lifetime. Years passed, and one day after work, President Qin stopped inexplicably before the painting Moon in Heaven hanging in the hall, gazing at it for a long time. Outside, the rain poured down in torrents. Lightning flashed and thunder roared, trees swayed violently in the fierce wind. And the weather was gloomy. When he opened his eyes again, he looked around the ancient castle in astonishment. This was the place where he had stayed during his years studying abroad, and Qin Ming hadn't returned for many years. Then two streams of memories overlapped, a thunderous noise echoed in his head, and he collapsed onto the floor. This was the next life he prayed for Chili. In his past life, he felt indignation and sorrow for her experiences. In this life, he loves Chili and wishes her safety, happiness, and fame throughout the land, but fortunately, in this life he caught up in time. Everything can still be set right. 47. When Qin Ming and I returned, the ward was already filled with a group of white coats. He had gathered the most elite medical teams in cardiac surgery from abroad and domestically, and these doctors and PhDs were discussing treatment plans. I understood Qin Ming's intention. He wanted to reassure me, as he wished. I returned to school, but my feelings toward him are quite complicated now. I truly don't know how to treat him. He's not entirely the classmate Xiaoming I once knew, but rather CEO Qin, whose fiancé I killed in our past life. These past few days I've been restless, completely unsure how to interact with Qin Ming, so I've been avoiding him as much as possible. One day after school, when I went to the hospital to visit my mom as usual, I unexpectedly saw Qin Ming inside, talking to her about something. After hesitating for a moment, I still walked in. Mrs. Li quickly beckoned me over. Lying on the hospital bed, she looked much better in complexion. Holding my hand, she gazed gently at Qin Ming. Lily, we really owe Qin Ming a lot these days. While you were at school, this young man kept coming over. You should thank him properly. I looked at Qin Ming. He was completely different from before he left. Many of his mannerisms and aura had grown closer to that CEO Qin I remembered, making him seem unfamiliar to me. I uttered a stiff thank you, then held my mother's hand and hurriedly averted my gaze. Qin Ming's eyes across from me dimmed slightly. He remained silent for a moment before suddenly striding toward me. I instinctively stepped back, and this movement naturally caught his gaze. He pressed his lips together and automatically stopped about a meter away from me. Chili, we need to talk. I couldn't help but avoid his gaze. After hesitating for a while, I finally nodded. Qin Ming walked into an empty hospital room, closed the door, turned around and silently stared at me. Under the pressure of his gaze, I opened my mouth wanting to call out to Qin Ming, but the words twisted on my tongue as I faced this familiar yet strange person before me, eventually coming out as, Qin, President Qin. Qin Ming's expression changed, but this only made me more resolute. The two people gazing at each other now are no longer the 17-year-old Chili and Qin Ming. but rather the 28-year-old Chiuli from their past life, introverted and taciturn, and Qin Ming, the newly appointed president who had already taken the helm of Yuanhong Group. I am familiar with Xiaoming, but President Qin is a stranger to me, utterly unfamiliar. Qin Ming let out a sigh, as if conceding, fine, for now, let me speak to you in this capacity. Chiuli, I neither agreed nor disagreed. The two of us, strangers with memories from past lives who had little contact and left no impression on each other, exchanged some information. President Qin briefly recounted what had happened after my death. Indeed, it followed my plan perfectly, and the revenge was executed beautifully. I confessed that the point at which I reincarnated was just a few days before Qin Ming transferred schools. President Qin nodded in understanding and let out a soft laugh. No wonder. I knew he was referring to the incident where I hit him. I turned my head away somewhat sheepishly. Who told you? Who told you to say such harsh things back then? Qin Ming smiled as he begged for mercy. I was indeed quite unruly in the past. I hope Miss Chiu can forgive this unworthy man. But my little deskmate, that punch you threw back then, could it have also carried some resentment from our past lives, settling old and new grudges together, when the familiar tone rang out? I was momentarily stunned. It was Qin Ming, yet his voice carried the reminiscence of the adult Qin Ming, leaving me momentarily unable to discern who exactly was standing before me. Only, you're no longer the youth in my heart. I don't like him speaking to me in Qin Ming's tone. President Qin, in my past life I held no grudge against you. I apologize for involving you in my revenge against Sun Ting. This matter had nothing to do with you. Qin Ming's expression momentarily darkened with loneliness. He tilted his head with a bitter smile. As I thought, in that past life, I didn't remember you, and you didn't remember me either. I don't want to reminisce about the past with him. I took 2 steps forward and stared straight at him. President Qin, when did you return? Qin Ming explained the whole story. Moon in heaven. It was actually that painting. I couldn't figure this out, but I did realize one thing. Where has Qin Ming gone? I raised my head, unflinchingly forcing Qin Ming to meet my gaze, word by word. Where did he go? Qin Ming avoided my eyes, turned to pick up a chair and sat down, speaking calmly. Isn't it better that a naive little boy who couldn't resist his father just disappeared? He couldn't even protect you. Chiuli, my pupils suddenly dilated. When I came to my senses, my hand was already on Qin Ming's neck. I had him pinned beneath me, yet his face showed no expression at all. Give it back, give it back. Give him back to me. It took me a long time to find my own voice, to realize these words were coming from my mouth. Give him back, give him back, give him back, give him back. Qin Ming leaned the back of his neck against the chair, looking up at me, allowing my hands to grip his throat. In those familiar eyes of his was a complex emotion I couldn't comprehend. I now share the same memories as him. I am him. I remember all those things too. I am Qin Ming, Chiuli. That's different. You're not him. I screamed at him in despair. But I couldn't bring myself to do it, because he was staring at me with Qin Ming's face, with his eyes. Why won't you accept it? Qin Ming sighed. If I hadn't rushed over, your mother might have been in grave danger. If it were the old Qin Ming, I wouldn't have been able to see you until 5 or 6 years later, and by then it would have been too late. The old Qin Ming was useless. Chiuli. I turned his face towards me and stared at him intently. I've never felt this way, never, whether it was Sun Ting swapping my exam papers and stealing my artwork, or my mother's heart condition. Those were all my own matters. In my past life, I took revenge with my own hands too. I've never expected others to take full responsibility for my life. Saying that is unfair to Qin Ming. He knew nothing about it. Yet he's already done his absolute best. I'm truly grateful that you drove my mom to the hospital, and I also appreciate you finding us doctors and the best medical resources. But you can't devour his personality, use his body, and say such high-sounding words. Classmate Xiaoming is the best, unique. You are 2 people, 2 different individuals. Xiaoming is Xiaoming, not someone else. Not even if it's his parallel world self-inheriting memories could make him become that person. How could this be the same? Qin Ming shouldn't be the CEO Qin standing before me. Qin Ming should be the tutoring student sitting beside me, flashing his little canine teeth at me. He should be the giant plushie standing quietly behind me as I paint Moon in Heaven, then embracing my sobbing self with tender comfort. He should be the solitary hero who rushed through dust and wind to meet me that July night. The Tibetan-clad youth who grinned while braiding my hair. He should be the boy beneath the snow-capped mountains who hung prayer flags and scattered lungta for me. But he absolutely shouldn't be the CEO Qin from a past life or parallel world. Even if I inherited his memories, I let go and buried my face in the chair back. The still warm and familiar body beside me now housed a foreign soul. My limbs turned icy. I couldn't feel his warmth anymore, treating him as a corpse while choking back sobs alone. The corpse reached out to stroke my head, its voice mesmerizing. He loved you. And so will I. Don't grieve. Whatever he could give, I can provide too. We're one and the same, Chili. I once climbed 1,000 steps to the Padala Palace to seek a high monk for you, praying for our next life. I had sought the wrong person before, but we still have a chance. The one who should marry me this time is you. I pushed him away abruptly, hurriedly getting off the chair, completely detached. I looked at him and said, "It's impossible. You will never be him, Mr. Chin. This isn't love, it's guilt. But what I, Chioli, need least is someone else's guilt. You've already done so much. You saved my mother. You're my benefactor. Naturally, I will repay this kindness. But the logic of this world doesn't dictate that just because you targeted the wrong Sun Ting, I should marry you. That's not how things work. I don't need this kind of compensation. President Chin, please maintain your dignity." I turned to leave but suddenly thought of something. Gritting my teeth, I added, "Also, I've never thought Xiaoming was useless. He's the best. The finest boy I've ever known. He is brighter and more dazzling than all the pigments I've ever seen, a little sun that even the most radiant gold I could mix couldn't replicate." Before meeting him, I thought my entire life would be filled with dark, eerie hues, but Qin Ming barged in recklessly and willfully, parting the dark clouds before me, forcefully opening the window to let sunlight pour in, while I was still dazed. He even smiled at me against the light. President Qin. In both of my lifetimes, Chioli has lived rather thinly and plainly. That act of revenge was the most intense and vivid stroke in my life. When I returned, I only thought about dutifully studying liberal arts, getting into university, becoming a civil servant, and spending a plain, ordinary lifetime with my parents. I slowly turned around, leaned against the door, and calmly looked at Qin Ming. "President Qin, you also grew up from that stage. Why should one deny their past? You look down on. You disdain the Qin Ming of the past, but the past you despise is the most vibrant color I've ever seen in my life." Qin Ming stared at me in astonishment. If the former Qin Ming no longer existed, it would undoubtedly mean he had passed away unexpectedly, something I could never accept. That vibrant youthful face would eventually be sealed away by me, becoming the white moonlight I could never see again yet would forever cherish in this lifetime. The person before me had the same face as Qin Ming, yet didn't feel like the same individual. Never him. I've said enough. I don't want to stay in this place any longer. The heavy emotions are suffocating me. As I turned around and placed my hand on the doorknob, a sudden force pulled me from behind. Losing my balance in panic, I fell into his arms. A pair of hands wrapped around my waist from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. I heard a long sigh. Chioli, he didn't call me deskmate. Yet my eyes grew warm. This time it was Qin Ming, that Qin Ming from Xiaoming's class. I panicked and tried to turn around, too agitated, hearing Qin Ming hiss in pain. Then came that familiar sensation. I'd gone and bumped into his chin yet again, rubbing his chin with a teasing tone. Qin Ming said, "Hey deskmate, got a grudge against my jaw or something?" His eyes reddened as he gazed at me deeply, an irrepressible smile spreading across his face. "Didn't get enough last time. Want me to hit the other side now?" The joy of regaining what was lost nearly overwhelmed my reason, but in the next moment Qin Ming suddenly regained his composure, instantly transforming back into CEO Qin, all adult maturity and cold detachment. Ahem, Chioli, my expression changed, but my keen eyes didn't miss the mischief in Qin Ming's gaze. Suddenly, I realized something. Anger surged to my forehead, and I immediately charged forward. This time I didn't punch him. I headbutted him with an iron head technique. Qin Ming fell back into his chair and began laughing uncontrollably, his laughter filling the entire room. It sounded so grating that it made people want to kick him. Qin Ming kept laughing and laughing until tears welled up in his eyes, only stopping his hysterical laughter after a long while. My expression at that moment must have been absolutely terrifying. "Laugh all you want. You can laugh yourself to death here for all I care. I shouldn't have shed a single tear for you earlier, cold-hearted as it sounds. It'd be better if you never came back." Qin Ming hadn't yet recovered from his laughter, but he could tell I was angry. He quickly sat up and, using his height and reach to his advantage, pulled me back with a long arm. Still struggling to suppress his amusement, he tried to coax me while holding back laughter. "Little deskmate, you're so easy to tease." My face darkened, and he finally grew a bit more serious, looking at me earnestly before raising his hand. I confess, I just noticed you've been down these past few days, and I was really worried about your mental state. I thought teasing you might help." I glared at him. "You're not joking. You're trying to scare me to death." Unexpectedly, Qin Ming suddenly looked aggrieved. putting on a heartbroken expression. I never imagined you'd dislike my past self so much. I was hoping we could rekindle our past romance. I wanted to pinch him. But he covered his chin pretending to be fragile, so I pinched his ear instead. Stop being so narcissistic. If it weren't for Sun Ting marrying you, who would even remember who you are? By the way, why the hell did you marry Sun Ting in your past life? Moon in Heaven was painted by me. By me. If it weren't for me, you would have almost married a thief. Do you know that Qin Ming? Tears suddenly welled up, startling Qin Ming. He hurriedly lowered his head to wipe my tears. His tone suddenly softening. No. When I didn't know, I didn't really like her that much anyway. When I found out, all I felt was regret for you. In my heart, how could she ever compare to you, little deskmate? I remember now. When I first recalled, I was even relieved that everything had started over. I never expected you to have memories from before too. I was wondering why this life felt different from the last. Chioli, I've always been here. Whether it's President Qin from the past life or Xiaoming in this one, I've always been here. Chioli, I froze for a moment. Then why? Did you say those things earlier? Why belittle the current you? Qin Ming's expression suddenly turned somber. When I first remembered, I kept blaming myself. Blaming, yes, I felt that the me at this stage was still as useless as ever. If I had remembered sooner, I would never have left during senior year. It almost happened again. I was terrified. Qin Ming closed his eyes briefly, then looked at me with bloodshot eyes. Only when he got closer did I see the red veins in his eyes clearly. He hadn't been sleeping well these days. I was deeply moved, but before I could say anything, he suddenly pulled me into an embrace. In my past life, there was a time I didn't want to recall those years. The family arrangement suffocated me, and when I resisted, they sent me here. If not for you, yet during this phase where I despised myself so much, in your heart, I was actually this impressive. His voice choked up, but his eyes curved as he stared straight at me. I originally wanted to abandon my past self and meet you with the most mature and impressive version of myself from my previous life, but I never expected my little desk maid to like me so much. My face suddenly burned hot as I turned his grinning face away, awkwardly avoiding his gaze. Why you must have misheard. This is the most passionate confession I've ever heard. How could I possibly mishear? Though I can't believe you beat me to it. I was planning to be the first to. Well, this works too. Who told you that was a confession? Qin Ming pretended not to hear, still standing there with a silly grin. The door was suddenly knocked. It was a polite knock, yet urgent. Qin Ming's smile paused for a moment. He suddenly tightened his embrace around me, coughed, and said, "Come in." The person outside pushed the door open directly. It was a tall, unfamiliar man, followed by others also dressed in suits and ties. The man had an expressionless face, all businesslike as he said, "Young master, Chairman Qin is here." I felt his gaze sweep over me faintly. "The chairman is summoning you, right now." Chairman Qin, isn't this Qin Ming's father? His father actually came in person. I looked at Qin Ming with concern, only to be shocked to find that his face had already turned cold, with none of the previous tender softness remaining. Switching to the CEO Qin mode from your past life. Qin Ming nodded slightly. Understood. You may leave. The other person remained motionless, and I suddenly felt the atmospheric pressure around us drop. Qin Ming slightly raised his chin, staring at him. "I'll go see them immediately. Get out." The man's expression shifted slightly before he nodded and left. I had just remembered something when Qin Ming held me down. Only after they had completely left did his expression soften as he turned to look at me. He suddenly smiled and reached out to ruffle my hair. "It's fine. Don't worry about me. I know how to deal with that old stubborn man. Wait for my good news, little deskmate." Before I could react, he pulled me in and kissed my forehead. Then he quickly walked away with strong fleeing suspicions, leaving me standing there in a daze. After a long while, I finally touched my forehead, covering my face while pondering. I used to think I was older than Qin Ming. After all, I had lived many more years than him. It was 28-year-old Chili interacting with 16 or 17-year-old Qin Ming. But now, isn't this equivalent to? The other party suddenly awakened their past memories. Xiaoming became President Qin, directly surpassing me in status and looking down on me. Overnight, the young Qin Ming suddenly grew up. The adult Qin Ming arrived too quickly. I haven't had time to process it. 48. On the other side, Qin He, nearing 40, was already in a towering rage. As soon as Qin Ming stepped through the door, a stack of documents came flying straight at his face. Qin Ming nimbly dodged and, utterly unfazed, casually walked up to Qin He before sitting down opposite him under the other's astonished gaze. Propping his chin lazily, he gazed at Qin He with a beaming smile. "Long time no see, Dad." I don't know what the father and son talked about, but even from far away, while hiding in the corridor and peeking around, I could hear the sound of a water glass shattering and angry shouts, but from beginning to end, I never heard Qin Ming's voice. Perhaps it was his overly calm tone that provoked his father into even greater fury. Over an hour later, the door was pushed open by a middle-aged man I'd never seen before, his face commanding respect without anger, yet unable to conceal his rage as he strode away swiftly with the man who appeared to be an assistant. Through the half-open door, I caught only a glimpse of Qin Ming's retreating figure, then the remaining people followed inside, and when the massive crowd emerged later, Qin Ming was escorted away amidst their entourage. How about saying take away instead? I retreated to guard my mom. A few days ago it was my dad who kept vigil. Taking advantage of Qin Ming's absence, I stayed by my mom's side, and she chatted with me for a while before falling asleep. Just as I was about to pick up my books and move to turn on the desk lamp to study, my phone suddenly pinged. "Little deskmate, I'm doing fine, don't worry about me." It was a text message from Qin Ming. In the ancestral home of the Qin family, Qin Ming knelt before his grandparents, head bowed in silent acceptance of their reprimand. His back remained ramrod straight, showing no sign of weariness. His demeanor respectful yet inherently rebellious. He absorbed all his relatives' threats, inducements, and earnest persuasions with lowered eyes and pursed lips, as if deaf to their words. The old man in the main seat shook his head at this sight, nodded to Qin He as a signal, and ceased his obstruction. With a single command, two men rushed forward to restrain Qin Ming. Though this restraint was rather superfluous, Qin Ming smiled faintly, offering no resistance whatsoever. His father's rattan cane rose high and came down with a heavy thud. The rattan cane came down, leaving red welts that immediately swelled across the once pampered and fair-skinned back. Qin He's fury had reached its peak. Even though it was his own son, he showed no mercy in the severity of his strikes. After repeated blows, the entire back was swollen. Qin Ming's face turned pale, his forehead beaded with fine sweat, yet he clenched his teeth and refused to utter a word. Every family rule and punishment was invoked. Qin He finally threw down the cane and, seeing Qin Ming still stubbornly enduring, his expression turned completely icy. "Go back now, follow the arrangements properly. As for that girl's mother's illness, I'll have Xiaoxing keep an eye on it. Neither money nor medical resources will be lacking. I'll consider this a youthful indiscretion. Let's put this matter behind us." Qin Ming swayed slightly. "I won't leave." Beside him, Madame Qin felt her heart twist with anxiety. Pale-faced, he repeated, "I want to stay, I'm not leaving." This sentence instantly extinguished Qin He's newly risen paternal affection. As he raised his arm, Madame Qin rushed out to embrace him, weeping. He, stop hitting him, look carefully, that's the son I nearly died giving birth to. He's your son too. How could you bear to? How could you strike him so cruelly?" Qin He hesitated for a moment before finally lowering his hand. "Look at your mother. Can't you stop making us worry so much, Mrs. Qin crouched down, carefully avoiding the swollen injury. Her eyes filled with heartache. "Ming, your father has already compromised a great deal. Be obedient. If you're truly worried, we'll have someone keep an eye on that girl's family. Stop opposing your father. You know he already has high blood pressure. Are you trying to kill him with anger?" Qin Ming remained silent for a moment, then gently shook his head at her. "Dad, even if you beat me to death today, I won't change my mind. Even if Chili comes to persuade me, I won't listen." Qin He laughed in extreme anger. "I see your love-struck brain is beyond saving. The group won't be handed over to someone obsessed with romance. Since you love her so much, I think you might as well not go. I'll select a more outstanding child from the Qin family to adopt. You want love, right? Then you can forget about the family inheritance too. You refuse to change, don't you? If you don't change today, consider our father-son relationship severed." Everyone thought this had intimidated Qin Ming, or at the very least, the stubborn boy would mirror his father's temper. Declaring the severance of their father-son bond meant just that. Assistant Xiaoxing's glasses glinted as he thought today's affair wouldn't conclude without a complete father-son rift. Yet amidst the heavy silence, Qin Ming actually let out a light chuckle. "Dad, those are just words spoken in anger. You wouldn't let the family business decline over a momentary fit of rage. You know perfectly well in your heart that no one is more outstanding than me, whom you've meticulously trained." Qin He was taken aback, his expression softening slightly. "Quite the bold tone you have there. Then you should understand even more clearly that the family has high expectations of you. Those who achieve great things shouldn't be shackled by fleeting emotions. Look at what you're doing now." Qin Ming coughed a few times, his voice growing weaker, crystal clear. The children from other families have indeed all been sent abroad for studies. The younger generation truly needs to receive better education to keep up with the times, so they can return and help manage the company after completing their studies. My previous unruly behavior meant that, logically speaking, sending me abroad now is already quite late, however, because my temperament hadn't been reined in. You were worried that sending me earlier would lead to further degeneration without proper supervision. Your decision in this matter was actually correct, Chin. He snorted coldly. It must have been quite a struggle for you to figure that out, but father, from the perspective of the known future, staying now is actually wiser than leaving. Chin. He turned his head in confusion, while Qin Ming, with sweat dripping down his face, gritted his teeth as he propped himself up on the floor. 2012. This is the critical period of rapid information technology development. I can't leave now. Dad, Grandpa, do you want to take the group's development to the next level? I think our family should also take a step up into higher social circles. In the end, it was old Master Qin who asked Qin Ming to stand up, frowning as he took him, along with Qin He and the 3 generations of their family, into a private discussion in the secret chamber. The Qin family didn't know what had happened. Only that by the break of dawn, the 3 of them slowly emerged, each with complex expressions on their faces, except for Qin Ming, who looked completely at ease. The next day, Chairman Qin and the retired former chairman convened an emergency meeting of the group's shareholders, appointing Qin Ming as the general manager of the RD department of their internet subsidiary company. No one ever mentioned sending Qin Ming abroad for studies again. After the meeting, Qin Ming's grandfather simply told him, "If what you said is true, then go ahead and do it." Qin Ming arranged personnel to monitor the progress of the surgery, then swiftly and decisively reformed the company's systems, hiring and dismissals, dispatched technical teams to advanced countries for exchange programs. A series of transformation measures were immediately implemented. 2012 was indeed a turbulent era, marked by the widespread adoption of smartphones, large-scale production of various brands, and the development and operation of intelligent software, all unfolding over the following decade. 49. Qin Ming returned a week later, rushing to reassure me of his safety. "Little deskmate, don't worry. Once the trial testing of the smartphone passes the board of directors and goes into production, I'll finally have some free time." Qin Ming didn't hide it from me. He said he vaguely hinted to his family about his reincarnation, which made them focus more on the growth of their family business. But would they believe it? Reincarnation sounds like something out of a fairy tale. I wouldn't dare tell my parents. They're staunch materialists and would never buy it. Qin Ming ruffled my hair and smiled as if coaxing a child. Of course they didn't believe me. I framed it as analysis and predictions about the future. They couldn't outright deny the possibilities I described. Besides, they've watched me grow up. They've noticed how unusually I've been acting lately, so they were already suspicious. I stammered. Then does this mean you won't have to leave anymore?" Qin Ming paused while ruffling my hair, making me nervous as he carefully considered his words. "I'll still have to go eventually. Studying abroad is necessary to expand my network. But I don't need to leave now, at least not until after your college entrance exams. We'll discuss the specific arrangements later. Once they see my capabilities in the coming days, they'll probably let go like in my past life. Either way, I'm absolutely determined to include you in my life plans. No matter if they oppose it now or not, they won't be able to control me after some time passes. Planning you into my life." This line made me blush, and I awkwardly turned my head away. Seeing this, Qin Ming pulled me into his embrace. To put it simply, Qin Ming, with his adult memories, no longer plays the shy game. Every time I'm alone with him, I get so nervous I don't know where to put my hands and feet. Damn it. The days when I could tease Xiaoming are already a thing of the past. The shy boy, covering his neck and blushing to the tips of his ears, felt like he was being devoured by Qin Ming. Now it's me who's being made to blush in embarrassment. The tables have turned. Can we keep going like this? No way. I tried to struggle. Qin Ming, you can't, little deskmate. This time I can stay by your side, for a lifetime, and never let anyone bully you again. After saying this, he buried his head in the crook of my neck, and my remaining words were swallowed by this tight embrace. Outside the window, tree shadows dance gracefully in the green woods with a gentle breeze. It's a lazy afternoon during the transition between spring and summer. The college entrance exams are coming soon. 50. The story of this lifetime is heading toward a happy ending. Qin Ming is probably my destined benefactor, my savior reborn. A heart donor has been found for my mom. The surgery was successful, and the doctor says she just needs some time to recover before being discharged. My mother leaned on the hospital bed with a smile and said, counting the days, it should be around the time Shelley finished her college entrance exams, busy running around for my mother's affairs during this period. I suddenly realized with horror that the art school entrance exams were already over. I also heard Sun Ting did quite well, and thinking of the delicate Sun Yanyan, I couldn't help but feel anxious. I called Qin Ming and asked him to keep an eye on this matter. Whose exam paper did Sun Ting switch this time? Sun Yanyan. I'm afraid Sun Ting has already swapped papers. There's no way she could have scored this well with her level. Wait a second, Qin Ming froze. You mean Sun Yanyan? The one from art class 1, I quickly nodded, not understanding why Qin Ming suddenly smiled. Then she's done for. Who's done for? Who would have thought Qin Ming would laugh gloatingly? Sun Yanyan's father is the municipal party secretary. Seems Principal Sun didn't do his homework when investigating backgrounds. After the joint exam results were announced, Lin Luoshan privately handed a phone to Sun Yanyan. He had secretly recorded from a corner that day, though the phone's resolution was poor. It was enough to prove someone had swapped her exam papers. Sun Yanyan fiddled with the phone, smiled and said thank you, then passed it to the department head beside her. The next day, news that Principal Sun bribed proctors to secretly swap art major exam papers spread like wildfire. According to others, Sun Jichuan had already been dismissed and investigated, while Sun Ting was blacklisted by Lucen Academy of Fine Arts for exam cheating, a serious offense resulting in 3-year suspensions for both that specific exam and regular higher education admissions. Sun Yanyan's father must have put in considerable effort here, as they came to thank me once, because of my early warning. Sun Yanyan was prepared and had secretly gathered evidence of Principal Sun's communication with exam proctors, with both testimonies and material evidence secured. They successfully brought down the Sun father-daughter duo in one fell swoop. Sun Yanyan gave me a hug. The gentle, soft-spoken girl murmured, Shelley is such a good person. Qin Ming stood beside her with a bitter and resentful gaze, rolling his eyes incessantly. Shelley, why is Qin Ming like this? He seems to dislike me. I just wanted to get closer to you. Damn green tea bitch. Sun Yanyan slightly furrowed her delicate brows. Green tea. I panicked for a moment. Green tea is a term that won't become popular until the future. How would anyone know what it means now? So I quickly hugged Sun Yanyan and pretended to scold Qin Ming. Don't talk about Yanyan like that. She's so delicate. What if you make her cry? Sun Yanyan took the opportunity to collapse into my arms, sniffling and sobbing. Girls are so sweet and soft, so adorable. Qin Ming's eyes widened as he pointed at her in disbelief, raising his voice, weak. You call her weak? Sun Yanyan once knocked me to the ground with a spinning kick when we were kids, and you call her weak? Hearing this, Sun Yanyan shot Qin Ming a sinister glare. Qin Ming refused to be outdone. I was stunned. So Sun Ting was hospitalized with a fracture because of you. Yan, I heard she couldn't even lift her hand. Sun Yanyan gently twirled my hair around her finger and said softly, a thief deserves to have their thieving hand broken. Qin Ming raised an eyebrow at me. My dad and I kept feeling relieved on our way back from the Su family celebration banquet. Hey, isn't it lucky we didn't let you study art? If Sun Ting had stolen your paintings, then wouldn't it have been? Qiu Dezhuang suddenly fell silent. I calmly held his hand and shook my head at him. Dad, that day will never come, never. Qin Ming's voice from the front passenger seat was unprecedentedly serious. Dad, that situation absolutely won't happen, with me here. No one can replace her painting. Who the hell are you calling Dad, you brat? I didn't have many friends in my past life either. After Sun Yanyan dealt with Sun Ting, she started coming to my place every few days, saying she wanted to hang out. Before long, we became quite close. She offered genuine and heartfelt praise for my painting. Hey Shaoli, actually you could try other forms of painting. My uncle's company is urgently in need of a character design. Why not give it a try after your college entrance exams? I think that's feasible. I'd like to try painting something different too. The recent news is truly uplifting. Sun Ting and Sun Jichuan have been punished, and my mother's condition has improved. The good news of 2 lifetimes overwhelmed me, and in this atmosphere of overwhelming joy, we welcomed the college entrance exams. 61, sitting in the examination hall. Listening to the broadcast of examinee guidelines, I felt an unreal sense of déjà vu, as if returning from a distant midnight dream. The time I set fire to the Sun family seems like a lifetime ago, the past like fleeting smoke. As if it were all just a grand dream, the electronic mechanical sound rings out. Examinees may now begin answering. Inside the classroom, diligent students write furiously. A decade of study and honing skills culminates in this decisive battle. Beyond the window lies the boundless sky and endless earth, dawn and night alternate, all things grow and wither, as the cycle of 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, unfolds in this world. My life is far more than just these 10 years before me. I walked through a decade-long night, finally seeing the dawn, and thereafter, boundless light. Epilogue. Award ceremony of the 25th International Vinci Painting Competition in 2014. The Gold Award was won by M.S. Liming, a recent graduate from the finance department of Fudan University in China and a new generation painter. Qin Ming watched from below as Qiu Li delivered her speech on stage, radiant and the center of attention. His eyes welled up with tears. They all laugh at me, calling me the green leaf or sidekick by Sun Ting's side. The Moon in the Sky is a work deeply connected to my bloodline, as Eileen Chong wrote in Love in a Fallen City. The moon on the sea is the moon in the sky. And the person before you is the one in your heart. Some live in high rises, some dwell in deep ditches, some shine brilliantly, some are covered in rust. Each of us stands on solid ground, looking up at the moon in the sky. Every down-to-earth, persistent striver will become the bright moon in the sky that others look up to. Finally, I want to thank someone here. Without him, there would be no Qiu Li today, with both parents alive, safe and happy. Qin Ming, my dear classmate. You are the dawn that saved my life. The spotlight fell on the stunned Qin Ming in the audience, the zoomed-in camera clearly capturing the young man's suddenly reddened ears. The high-profile love declared before a full house ultimately faded into the surging crowd and thunderous applause. Over the sea, the moon rises bright. We gaze at it far apart, yet share this sight.